At first glance, he just blends right into the crowd like completely broke, ordinary guy. Little does anyone realize that he is actually the most overpowered warrior on the planet, possessing a peak physique and an aura so overwhelming it instantly forces his enemies to their knees. A shadowy figure had brutally massacred Yi Chen's entire clan years back. He only made it out alive because an old martial arts master stepped in and gave him shelter. Through ruthless training, the master pushed Yi Chen to the highest tiers of martial arts, even unlocking a spiritual link that allows him to instinctively predict looming disasters. Now, he has stepped back into the exact city where his life was turned upside down. His goals are simple: settle the blood debt and carry out the final assignment his master handed him. Navigating the bustling streets, Yi Chen catches sight of a girl enveloped in a sinister, dark mist. He wastes no time alerting her to stay alert, warning that catastrophe is heading straight for her. The girl, however, shows zero appreciation for the heads up. She rolls her eyes, mocks his warning as a cringeworthy pickup line, and snaps that she would never give a guy using such cheap tricks a chance. Her disrespect rubs Yi Chen the wrong way, triggering an immediate surge of his immense spiritual pressure. The air gets so heavy with dread that bystanders in the vicinity instantly drop to the ground. Noticing the scene he's creating, Yi Chen leaps onto a nearby rooftop to suppress his energy and avoid drawing more eyes. From there, he shifts his focus back to handling his master's ultimate directive. Just 3 days prior, the old master had foreseen a fatal disaster waiting for his granddaughter, Xia Ryuxu, within a 100-day window. Because of this, Yi Chen was formally tasked with acting as her personal guardian. Shortly after, Yi Chen pulls up to the Jiangcheng headquarters of the Huame Group, a massive Fortune 500 enterprise. The moment he approaches the entrance, a pair of security guards block his path, interrogating him about his business with Madame Xia. Refusing to reveal his personal reasons to them, he insists they let him pass so he can discuss urgent matters directly with their superior. When the guards refuse to budge, he offers to just sit in the lobby lounge until she is free, but they push back hard, judging him by his scruffy look and claiming he has no right to see their executive. Fed up with their arrogance, he releases a microburst of aura that forces them straight to their knees under crushing pressure. Leaving the completely bewildered guards wondering what hit them, he casually strolls right into the lobby. Placing himself on a couch, he tells the lobby staff to bring their manager over immediately. The head of security shows up and tries to sound composed, warning Yi Chen that starting trouble here carries serious consequences. Yi Chen, wanting zero wasted time, firmly tells him to stay out of his way since his only objective is seeing Xia Ryuxu. A single cold glare from Yi Chen sends a shiver down the security chief's spine. The man gets the chilling impression that crossing this kid one more time will get all of them squashed like bugs. Quickly changing his tone, he nervously explains that the CEO is out of the office and offers to take down Chen's contact info instead. The moment the guard thinks his little excuse worked, Yi Chen simply shrugs, saying he has time to kill and will just lounge right there until she shows up. Yi Chen waves them off to mind their own business, but the chief can't risk his livelihood by letting a walking weapon sit unchecked in the building. Just as the guards prepare to kick him out, Sun Ye, a company director, walks up and announces that she will handle the situation personally. Staff members nearby start murmuring that only their CEO, Xia Ryuxu, can match her level of elegance and beauty. The security chief cautions her about the potential danger, but she waves off his panic and politely introduces herself to Yi Chen. Yi Chen instantly recognizes her. Out of everyone from his past 5 years, Sun Yi is someone he could never erase from his heart. Back in middle school, they shared a desk for an entire year and were practically inseparable friends. Once high school arrived, the growing gap between their social backgrounds slowly pulled them apart. That changed following the tragedy at Yunhu Villa, right after his master dragged him from the lake and he returned to check on his family estate. By then, the Yi family compound was locked down, and every prominent clan in the city publicly cut all ties with them. Even the Tianjin group, the empire built by his father, had been stripped away and taken over. Virtually everyone cowered beneath the overwhelming influence of that powerhouse from the capital. Yet Sun Yi defied her own family, ignored the toxic gossip, retrieved his parents' remains from the morgue, and personally oversaw their cremation. She went as far as building a family memorial on Heaven's Intestine Mountain, honoring all 3 of them. To this day, he still feels indebted to her incredible loyalty, never imagining their paths would cross again like this. His daydream breaks when she points out he's invading her personal space, asking if he actually needed something from her. Stepping back with an apology, he plays it off by claiming she strongly resembles an old acquaintance of his. Turning toward the security team, she instructs them to leave the man alone if he simply wants to sit and wait. She gives him a quick reminder to keep things peaceful, then walks off toward the exit. Yi Chen can't help but admire how stunning and mature she has become over the years. Deciding his business with CEO Xia Ryuxu can wait, he immediately rushes out to follow Sun Ye. He slips right into her vehicle just as she prepares to pull out, catching her completely off guard. She demands to know what he's doing, but he just grins and asks for a ride. When she mentions he had someone else to wait for, he casually brushes it off as no longer important. She demands his name, clarifying that total strangers don't get free rides in her car. Right then, he catches an ominous dark haze and a bloody glint across her forehead, an undeniable omen of mortal danger. In that split second, he resolves to protect her from whatever harm is coming her way. For the time being, he offers the alias Yamakoto. A bit later, the pair pull up at the Longhu Hotel, drawing heavy stares the moment they walk in. The crowd looks utterly shocked to see her attending an event accompanied by a guy. She had never brought a date before, and his cheap, plain clothes looked completely out of place next to her elegance. The moment they sit down, a pack of wealthy partygoers crowds around Sunya to push drinks on her, prompting Yi-chen to step up, snatch a glass, and offer to drink in her place. Sunya quickly pulls him back to avoid an escalation, politely telling the men that she has zero tolerance for alcohol. But before she can slip away, Chen Feng, the notorious second heir of the Chen family, whom she had previously splashed with wine, arrives and mocks her for playing hard to get. Striding over, he brings up how she ran off during their previous encounter and demands she chug an entire bottle of wine as an apology. He makes it crystal clear that he's giving a command, not asking for permission. Clearly uncomfortable, she tries to compromise by offering to finish only the half-filled glass in her hand. During their previous run-in, she had detected an odd flavor in her drink. Realizing the drink was likely spiked, she had thrown it right in his face. Faced with her refusal once again, he drops the fake charm and reveals his predatory intentions. He openly mentions his private VIP suite upstairs, smirking that she can rest there once she passes out. Sunya is genuinely horrified by how vile he truly is. The guy has a filthy track record of drugging and exploiting women without showing a shred of remorse. He is bottom-tier human trash. Irritated by her continued pushback, he corners her and tells her to cut the innocent act. Coming from a humble background, Sun Yi had dropped out of school early to grind her way through the corporate world. It had taken years of relentless effort for her to earn the director title. While the public viewed her as successful, to an elite heir like Chen Feng, she was completely powerless. Seeing her cornered, Yi Chen steps in, grabs the wine bottle, and shatters it directly over Chen Feng's face. As the spoiled brat screams in agony, the whole room freezes in sheer disbelief that someone actually laid hands on the Chen family's heir. The scariest part about crossing the Chens is that they have a legendary ancient martial artist backing them. Everyone watching is convinced that this stranger won't survive the night after pulling a stunt like that. Sunya panics, terrified that she just dragged him into a deadly mess. She scrambles to apologize to Feng. She desperately offers to drink whatever he demands and stay by his side all evening. Her only condition is that they let her friend walk away untouched. The entitled brat smacks her across the face, barking that someone of her stature has no right to negotiate. He rants that she's finished, and the bastard who struck him is leaving in a body bag. To make things worse, he threatens to violate her right in front of Chen's eyes. Before the words even leave his mouth, Yi Chen drives a kick between his legs and smashes his head straight into the wall. Before he can finish the job, another heavy presence approaches, flanked by an entourage. Furious, the newcomer screams at Yi Chen to take his hands off Feng. This is none other than Chen Zhengguo, the patriarch of the Chen family. Flanking him is an elder who carries the heavy aura of a legendary ancient warrior. As the beaten heir wails for his father, Sunya frantically brainstorms a way to pull Yi Chen out of this death trap. Yi Chen tosses the creep aside like garbage, sending him crawling to his father, crying about his ruined groin and demanding blood. Zhengguo orders his son to shut up and get back, turning to consult the grandmaster beside him regarding Yi Chen's strength. The old master confirms the kid is indeed a martial artist, but guesses from his youth that he has barely stepped into the mortal warrior stage. Putting on a generous act, Zhengguo mutters that he is feeling merciful, telling the elder to spare the boy's life if he gets down and begs. The elder steps forward, acknowledging the kid's talent while expressing mock pity that such potential has to be extinguished today. Yi Chen motions for Sunya to get behind him just as the old man barks a final warning and lunges forward at high speed. Closing in, the old man mutters into his ear, telling him to drop to his knees while he still has breath in his lungs. Yi Chen simply counters by asking if the old geezer picked out his own coffin yet, or if anyone is even left alive to bury him. Enraged by the disrespect, the master unleashes a frantic barrage of strikes. To his absolute shock, not a single hit connects, and he eats a direct counter right in the jaw. Yi Chen flattens him in one shot, leaving the entire room completely paralyzed with shock. Zhengguo is paralyzed, unable to process how the invincible Ming Lao got one-tapped by a random kid. Sprawled on the floor in agony, the battered elder stammers, demanding to know who he really is. Yi Chen coldly asks if he even qualifies to hear his name, releasing a shockwave that leaves the old man screaming and coughing up blood while rocking everyone nearby. Yi Chen then turns his attention to Zhengguo, mocking him by quoting his exact words about generosity and showing mercy. He drops a bombshell, letting him know he's fully aware of the Chen family's role in crushing the Yi clan. Refusing to accept defeat, Zheng Guo screams at his remaining guards to swarm the intruder. The guards rush him expecting easy numbers advantage, only to be wiped out simultaneously by a single devastating strike. Watching his elite muscle collapse in seconds, Zheng Guo drops straight to his knees, begging forgiveness for his son's stupidity and pleading for their lives. He scrambles to excuse himself by saying he had no idea Sun Yi belonged to him, but as Yi Chen prepares to collect the blood debt, another interruption halts him. The one cutting his retribution short is a female police officer. Stepping into the room, she freezes in confusion at the sight of a powerful patriarch and his heir bowing before an ordinary youth. Zheng Guo sighs in relief, convinced the law has saved them since no martial artist dares cross the authorities. Catching sight of the legendary Ming Lao writhing in the dirt, she wonders if the young man standing there really took down such a titan. Yi Chen takes the initiative to address the arriving police squad directly. Yanking Zheng Guo up by his hair, he bluntly states that he simply caught a predator in the act. The officer instantly draws her service weapon on Yi Chen, commanding him to release the man or face lethal force. He glances at her casually and tells her to back off, claiming this is strictly private business. That only convinces her he's completely unhinged, insisting that violent altercations fall entirely under police jurisdiction. She barks another order for him to drop to the floor with his hands visible. Just as he considers wiping out the cops too, Sun Yi steps in and warns him that she'll cut all ties if he doesn't cooperate. Once she gets him to back off, she pleads with the squad not to open fire. He's amused that she actually wants to go along with the arrest, but she reassures him everything will work out. She explains that they just need to head to the station, give their official statements, and walk out clean. Since he acted strictly in self-defense, he has no reason to panic. In truth, Yi Chen couldn't care less about being hauled in, knowing full well no jail on earth could hold him if he chose to walk out. Down at the station, the investigators review the hotel's security feed and notice large gaps where footage was mysteriously wiped. Still, what little footage remains clearly backs up Yi Chen's self-defense claim. Baffled by the missing files, the lady officer asks her team to pinpoint the exact moment that was scrubbed. The technician pulls up the clip showing Ming Lao squaring up in one frame and instantly lying wrecked on the floor in the next. The entire exchange of blows was completely erased from the record. She can't fathom how someone managed to tamper with high-security data before the police even secured the premises. Her suspicions point directly to a massive shadow faction backing Yi Chen, but with zero hard evidence, she has no choice but to rule it legitimate self-defense. With hands tied, she officially authorizes his release. Moments later, Yi Chen steps out into the fresh air alongside Sun Yi, completely free. Relieved that her instincts were right, she jokes about hurrying home to shower off the day's terrible luck. Yi Chen, however, remains troubled by the reality that Zheng Guo and his sleazy son still pose a lethal threat to her. The second he departs the city, those two will undoubtedly come back for revenge against her. He knows he needs a permanent solution before tragedy strikes. Reading his intense expression, Sun Yi picks up on the cold, lethal edge constantly simmering beneath his surface. Suddenly, Yi Chen turns and catches her looking right at him. Leaning in close with a smirk to ask what's on her mind, she stammers an excuse, claiming she was just about to ask for his address so she could drop him off. He admits that he literally just arrived in Jiangcheng and hasn't secured a place to crash yet. He jokingly adds that it's already far too late to go hunting for an empty park bench. After pondering it for a second, she gathers her nerve and offers him a place to crash for the night since her spare bedroom is sitting empty. Her cheeks turn bright red the entire time she's extending the invite. He can't resist messing with her, cheekily asking if she's worried he might try something shady, or if this is just her sneaky way of repaying his favor with a little romance. Embarrassed by his wild teasing, she gets flustered and orders him to give her a straight answer. Of course, a free roof over his head is impossible to pass up, so he jumps on the deal right away. Right around then, a female cop drives past them, genuinely baffled about how an apparent nobody managed to wipe the floor with the Chen family's elite, retired martial artist bodyguards. Realizing this case is way out of her league, she dials up a trusted contact she refers to as her big brother. She tells him to pull up the surveillance tape she forwarded so he can break down the mystery fighter's skills. Miles away, the guy she reached out to is chilling out in the freezing Siberian mountains. He's clearly annoyed that his sister chose to play small-town cop, which constantly leaves him cleaning up her messes and cracking her cases. After all, he's no ordinary officer. He's the high-ranking captain of the elite Dragon Spirit Commando unit. Shrugging off his frustration, he boots up his laptop to review the security file she pinged over. Hitting play, he watches a group of seasoned Special Forces vets trying to gang up on Chen. Upon inspecting the moves, he catches the plain-looking kid executing ancient martial arts, instantly realizing the kid operates on a terrifyingly elite tier. His intrigue peaked. He rings his sister right back and demands a full background check on the mystery kid. Back at Sun Ye's swanky city apartment, she finishes freshening up and lets Chen know the shower is all his. As the water runs over him, he reflects on the day his master rescued him, a moment he initially celebrated as pure luck. Little did he realize that supposed salvation was just the opening chapter of a living hell. Without a single word of warning on day one, his master shoved him straight into an iron cage. Waiting inside with him was a vicious tiger that hadn't eaten in 3 straight days. He somehow took down the beast and made it out alive, but the horrors that followed were far worse for a kid his age. His master drilled cultivation into him before tossing him into brutal, death-defying environments for practical training. Practically every trial he endured walked a razor-thin line next to the grave. Yet, against impossible odds, he powered through every single obstacle. The only fuel driving his pulse through all that torment was pure, unadulterated vengeance. His sole ambition is hunting down every last scumbag from that fateful Yun villa gathering and making them bleed for what they did. Meanwhile, Sun Yi is in the kitchen prepping their dinner when it suddenly hits her that she doesn't have any spare clothes for him to wear. Even worse, she remembers in horror that she left her delicate laundry hanging out in plain sight. Panicking, she rushes into the bathroom without knocking, freezing in absolute shock when she spots him wearing nothing but a towel around his waist. To make matters painfully awkward, the towel picks that exact split second to drop. Mortified out of her mind, she scrambles out the door screaming that she wasn't trying to peep on him. She bolts into her room, desperately trying to bleach her brain of what she just witnessed. Standing outside her door, Chen chuckles, knowing full well she's not coming out of hiding tonight, which actually plays right into his hands, giving him the perfect window to handle his dirty work. It's time to yank the weed out by its roots. Over at the Zhang estate, Guo is fuming after barely dodging the disaster his idiot son dragged them into. When the son tries to defuse the tension, Guo snaps, chewing him out for getting their top guardian Ming Lao permanently crippled. With their powerhouse protector out of the picture, their entire bloodline is sitting in the crosshairs. Feng tries reassuring him by pointing out that their real patriarch, his actual grandfather, is still breathing and powerful. Still, Guo refuses to rest easy until that punk Chen is 6 feet under. He resolves to trek up Wuyi Mountain to beg the family elder for backup, and his son eagerly backs the play. Just as Feng starts fantasizing about breaking Chen's legs and tormenting Sun Ye, Chen casually steps in from the balcony, having caught every single word. He hops over the railing, drops into an armchair, and suggests they have a quick little chat to wrap things up. Freaking out, the son stammers whether Chen is there to execute them, but Guo tells him to chill, claiming the kid wouldn't have the guts. That foolish arrogance is all the provocation Chen needs to instantly execute the son without blinking an eye. Watching his boy drop dead, Guo collapses into tears, begging for his life and claiming they don't hold any real grudge against him. Chen simply laughs in his face, disgusted that he'd plead ignorance after putting him through literal hell. Pressing the Zhang family patriarch to the floor, Chen asks if he recalls the Yun Villa banquet from 5 years back, specifically the Yi couple they slaughtered. The terrified man recognizes him as the supposed useless brat from the Yi family who vanished into the river, yet he refuses to accept reality, screaming that it's impossible. Grabbing the man's skull in a vice grip, Chen whispers that he's going to grant him one last secret before sending him to hell. He leans in and reveals he isn't some ancient martial artist like they presumed. He's a true immortal cultivator. To an ant like Guo, martial grandmasters might look like gods, but to a cultivator like Yi Chen, an entire army of masters can be sliced to ribbons with a single swing of his blade. Up on Wuyi Mountain, Elder Chen Yuanli receives word that both his son and grandson have been slaughtered, instantly shattering his cultivation focus. He's completely enraged, seeing a whole decade of hard-earned cultivation progress go up in smoke. He vows to the heavens that he will track down whoever wiped out his bloodline and rip them apart limb from limb. Meanwhile, back at Sunya's place, Chen hits a brick wall trying to advance his own cultivation. He quickly notices the ambient spiritual energy in modern China is far too depleted compared to his old training grounds. If he wants to keep breaking through, he'll need to refine some specialized alchemy pills. With his parents' death anniversary coming up in a week, he sets his sights on visiting their resting place at Tiandin Mountain. Lost in memories of his parents, he pulls out an old black stone his dad handed him on his 11th birthday, claiming it was the Yi family's ancient relic. Yet after all this time, the artifact has never shown a flicker of power, looking like nothing more than a dull pebble. All of a sudden, faint markings catch his eye, reading, blood drip. Curious and unable to decipher the rest, he slices his finger and drips his blood onto the relic to trigger an ownership bond. The second the blood coats the engraving, an intense wave of vertigo hits him, knocking him out cold. When Yi Chen finally comes to, he finds himself standing in an eerie graveyard littered with countless broken blades, resembling an ancient war zone. Nursing a splitting headache, he blinks through the gloom and spots thick black mist swirling all around him. It takes him a moment to process that he's been transported to a completely alien realm. Suddenly, twisted, shadowy figures materialize from the fog, snarling at him to clear out if he values his life. Paralyzed by the suffocating aura, he snaps awake back in his room, realizing the terrifying vision was unlocked by the black stone. Recalling his father's words about the heirloom, he pieces together that once his power climbs high enough, he can unlock the residual souls of ancient titans sealed in those graves. With 100 gravestones lining that reincarnation graveyard, that means 100 god-tier powerhouses are waiting to be awakened. By the time he sorts his thoughts, dawn breaks, and Sunya knocks on his door announcing that breakfast is on the table. He cleans himself up and heads over to grab a bite with her. Over the meal, he genuinely thanks her for taking him in and looking out for him. He tosses in a cheeky joke, offering to cook for her, serve her, and even keep her bed warm during the chilly winter months. She giggles and shoots him down, reminding him that the apartment has heated floors, though she admits she's open to letting him crash long-term. She lays down the house rules. Rent is due every month, and he has to pull his own weight with daily chores. Hearing the word rent makes him sweat a little, considering his pockets are completely empty. Catching his hesitation, she teasingly wonders out loud if he's trying to become her freeloader. His pride instantly kicks in, and he grabs a tissue paper to scribble something down. He writes out a revolutionary skincare formula, claiming it's valuable enough to fund an entire corporation and pay off his rent tenfold. She tells him he clearly has no clue how major companies work, but he urges her to run it by her tech team so they can appraise its true value. By his estimate, the formula alone is easily worth at least 10 million bucks. Their banter gets cut short when his phone rings with an urgent call from her workplace. Called into an emergency meeting, she rushes out the door, telling him to stop daydreaming and go land a real job. He'd heard whispers that traditional medicine had lost all respect in modern times, but he never realized people dismissed it this badly. Determined to make some quick cash, he grabs a placard and writes the phrase "reviving the dead," restoring breath on it. Setting up camp on the sidewalk with a loudspeaker, he advertises cures for any sickness, charging a discounted consultation fee of 100 grand. His only guarantee is that patients only pay up if the cure actually does the trick. Unsurprisingly, passers-by think he's totally out of his mind and brand him a scammer. When the crowd threatens to call the cops on him, Chen figures it's probably best to pack up and set up shop elsewhere. Right on cue, a well-dressed young woman cuts through the crowd and urgently tells him to come with her. Chen tags along and ends up standing in front of a massive, lavish estate. He assumes she brought him over for a medical consultation, but she quickly sets the record straight. Tapping her chest, she hints that the real problem she needs him for is a matter of the heart. Unimpressed, Chen tells her he doesn't have the patience for cryptic mind games. That is, until she whips out a bank card loaded with a crisp 100 grand, instantly changing his tune. She confesses that her father really is critically ill. The specialists give him only days to live, and because their family is so tight-knit, she fears her mother will completely lose it and do something drastic if he passes away right in front of her. Her desperate plan is for Chen to pose as a miracle doctor and escort her dying father away under the guise of treatment. She figures buying some time will soften the blow, giving her mother a chance to process the inevitable loss slowly. While he isn't thrilled about being used as a prop, Chen has an entirely different play in mind, cracking a faint smirk. He gives her his word that he'll handle everything smoothly. She warns him that she's putting her faith in him, and if he screws up, she'll have him thrown straight into a jail cell. They make their way inside, where a cranky senior housekeeper glares at her for dragging a random stranger into the family estate. The young woman brushes it off, introducing Chen as an expert friend who came to lend a hand. Right outside her dad's bedroom door, she gives him one final reminder to stick strictly to the script. The moment Chen steps inside, he instantly senses that the patriarch's condition is far too critical for modern science to cure. A heavy shroud of death energy has already clogged the man's lungs, and once it creeps into his brain, even a divine immortal wouldn't be able to pull him back. The daughter, Jiajia, explains that her father, Shen Heihua, was hit with late-stage lung cancer just last month. Despite flying out to top-tier clinics overseas, none of the treatments made a dent. Desperate, they brought in the renowned Dr. Q from the capital, only for him to deliver the grim news that her dad wouldn't survive the day. She's desperate to shield her mother from the devastating truth and needs Chen to pull off the charade. She makes it clear that money is no object. He can name any price he wants. To her horror, Her mother suddenly walks in alongside Dr. Q, revealing she already knows her husband won't make it past tonight because the doctor already spilled the beans. Jaeja glares at Dr. Q, furious that he broke his promise to keep her mother in the dark. Her brother strolls into the room as well, scolding her for trying to deceive their mother and callously stating that death is just a natural part of life. Her brother, Shen Minglong, shows his true selfish colors by openly bragging that he's already booked their father's funeral arrangements. Jaeja tells him to shut his mouth, pleading with him to stop stressing their already heartbroken mother. Instead, he urges his mom to look on the bright side, claiming their dad lived a rough life and death would finally bring him peace. He puts on a fake show of sympathy, claiming he just can't stand watching his father suffer any longer. He even throws in a condescending promise that he won't mistreat Jaeja once he takes the reins of the family empire. Their mother completely breaks down, unable to stomach the grim reality. Wailing in grief, she cries out that she can't survive without her husband and intends to die by his side. Watching the drama unfold, Chen instantly reads between the lines. If the patriarch dies, the massive inheritance gets split evenly 3 ways between his wife, son, and daughter. And this greedy son is actively trying to push his grieving mother over the edge just to pocket a bigger share of the fortune. Jaeja finally snaps at her brother, calling him out for showing zero remorse over their dying father. She screams that pushing their own mother towards suicide for extra cash makes him nothing less than a monster. Getting called a beast strikes a nerve and sends him into a rage. He snaps back that their mother is choosing to die on her own, and he's not about to stop her. Losing his temper, he lunges to strike Jaeja, but Chen steps in, flattening him to the ground in a flash and reminding him that his father hasn't kicked the bucket yet. Dr. Q suddenly butts in, screeching at Chen and warning him that he just laid hands on the upcoming patriarch of the Shen household. Ignoring the noise, Chen raises a single finger and names his price, $10 million to bring the dying patriarch back to life. Desperate for hope, Jaeja's mother turns to her daughter and asks if this young man can genuinely cure her husband. Jaeja plays along with the bluff, claiming they've been close friends for years and swearing he's a master physician who will cure him without a problem. On the inside, she's having a silent panic attack, knowing full well she dragged in a random con artist who is shamelessly demanding $10 million on the spot. Still, she rationalizes that he's just playing his part aggressively to keep her mother from falling apart. Minglong sneers, threatening to throw both Jaeja and Chen behind bars if their father dies under his watch. Once the room is cleared, Chen stands alone by the dying patriarch's bedside and gets straight to work. He knows deep down that Haehua just hit the cosmic jackpot by crossing paths with him today. His master's medical teachings were god-tier powerful enough to snatch anyone straight out of the clutches of the Grim Reaper. Chanting an incantation, pure spiritual energy floods the room, levitating the dying man's entire body into midair. The deathly miasma has clogged his energy pathways, but one faint life meridian is still holding on. If he can bridge that final energy pathway, the old man will pull through. Channeling pure yang energy, he shatters the toxic corruption and vaporizes the death chi completely. The process proves surprisingly taxing. He hadn't anticipated that saving Haehua's life would drain this much of his spiritual reserves. He mentally notes that he seriously needs to step up his cultivation training. Stepping back out, he delivers the shocking news that the patriarch will regain consciousness shortly. He tells them to go inspect the patient for themselves before settling his fee. Just as the matriarch is about to hand over the payment card, Minglong snatches it from her grip, barking that terminal cancer is medically impossible to cure. Chen isn't having it, firmly demanding his $10 million and telling the brat that this is the price for saving his father's life. When Minglong aggressively points a finger in his face, Chen snaps his hand out and grabs the digit in a painful grip. Twisting the brat's arm behind his back, Chen snatches his hard-earned payment card and declares that the old man is fully stabilized for the next 3 days. Taking the cash, he instructs them to ring him in 3 days if they want the follow-up treatment to make the cure permanent. Because without him, not even the gods themselves could keep Haehua among the living. With that, Chen heads out, leaving Menglong seething with embarrassment and threatening to get the police involved. Right on cue, the patriarch strides out of his room completely fine on his own feet, instantly sparking pure joy for his wife and daughter, but total dread for his son, who clearly never wanted his father opening his eyes again. Haehua warmly greets his family and immediately asks where the miracle doctor went so he can show his gratitude. He gives full credit for his recovery to the doctor's skills and his family's prayers, before fixing his gaze on his son while playing dumb about the guy's shady antics. Just as the son puts on his best innocent face, the old man drops the bomb that he knew every dirty trick his son pulled while he was bedridden. Cutting him off completely, the father brands him a worthless scoundrel who would have happily let his own father die if that miracle doctor hadn't stepped in, swearing he won't see a single cent. Meanwhile, over at the Huame Group offices, Sun Ye and the rest of the corporate team are anxiously waiting for their CEO, Zia Ryuxu, to arrive. Tension fills the room as the company's shares take a massive nosedive, putting the whole business in serious jeopardy. Everyone realizes dark times are ahead, and running away from the looming disaster is no longer an option. Without a groundbreaking beauty product ready to roll out, the company is practically doomed to collapse. Sun Yi is sweating bullets right alongside everyone else. Her mind is racing, trying to figure out any possible way to help. Suddenly feeling an itch against her chest, she reaches in and pulls out the folded beauty pill formula Chen gave her. She turns bright red once it hits her where the paper came from, realizing he must have casually slipped it right into her top. She tries to put the thought aside, but an older female colleague immediately snatches the paper away, loudly mocking her about what secret note she was hiding in her clothes. Sun Yi orders the woman, named Suna, to hand it back, only to get laughed at for guarding garbage she likely picked up from some con artist. Crossing the line completely, Suna sneers and asks if Yi slept with the guy just to get her hands on this junk. Furious, Yi snaps right back, telling her that not every woman is as shameless as she is, trading favors for a quick buck. At that point, Suna rips the paper into shreds, completely shattering his patience. Losing her temper, Yi shoves her hard, sparking a full-blown brawl while the rest of the office just stands by watching the drama unfold. Right at that moment, Zia Ryuxu walks in and firmly commands both of them to knock it off. With the big conference about to start, she refuses to tolerate any ridiculous circus in her office. After shutting down the fight with an icy glare, she officially gets the meeting rolling. She opens by highlighting how their competitors are pushing cutting-edge beauty drinks, demanding to know why their own product line has seen zero innovation for years. 3 whole years without a single breakthrough, to be exact. An employee speaks up, arguing that a lack of effort isn't the problem here. The beauty sector has turned into a brutal battleground. They have analyzed every accessible formula on the market without finding anything superior. Their research team literally searched across the globe for authentic recipes, but genuine ancient beauty formulas are so scarce that even historic archives offered nothing. Top-tier beauty recipes are nearly impossible to find, a harsh reality Ryuxu understands better than anyone else. She poured 5 grueling years into creating Jiangcheng's biggest beauty empire, purely to stop her parents from forcing her into an arranged marriage. Seizing the opportunity to settle the score, Suna jumps in to humiliate Sun Yi in front of everyone. She loudly announces to the room that Director Sun is secretly sitting on something huge, claiming she was just holding a formula for a so-called beauty elixir. The elixir is supposedly a mythical recipe passed down from ancient times. The entire room buzzes with hope, thinking that if Sun Yi truly holds such a recipe, the company is saved. Hearing this, Ryuxu's eyes light up with more excitement than anyone else. She immediately asks Yi to verify the claim, but Yi downplays it, saying she does not have anything extraordinary. Yi clarifies that it was just a random note given to her, but the CEO's curiosity is already piqued, and she insists on seeing it. Because the paper had been ripped to shreds, Yi gathers all the torn scraps and lays them out on the conference table. Suna smirks on the sidelines, gleefully waiting for the CEO to tear into Sun Yi for wasting everyone's time. However, things take a complete turn in the exact opposite direction. One of the company's research experts examines a single fragment and realizes the formula is the real deal. Confirming its authenticity, the researcher immediately rat out Suna, telling the CEO that she was the one who shredded this invaluable document. A paper that could decide the company's entire survival had just been wrecked out of petty spite. Completely fed up with her nonsense, the CEO strips Suna of her directorial post on the spot. She warns Suna that if they fail to piece the recipe back together, she will face severe criminal charges. Suna mumbles a fake apology, claiming she had no idea it was genuine, though her face shows zero real remorse. The researcher steps forward, clarifying that their core product foundation relies heavily on rare herbal medicine. While they only hold fragments right now, piecing this paper together could grant them the ultimate scientific breakthrough. Zia commands the entire room to drop everything and help Director Sun gather every single scrap. Restoring this recipe is their absolute top priority at any cost. Suna never imagined a scrap of paper from Sun Yi would turn out to be worth a fortune. Adding insult to injury, the CEO openly calls out the culprit and demotes Suna directly to an entry-level retail clerk, citing a staff shortage. Once the chaotic meeting wraps up, Yi heads back to her apartment. She calls out Chen's name several times, trying to track him down. Hearing nothing in return, she figures he has not come back yet. Relaxing at home, she still cannot believe that his random formula turned out to be completely legit. She reflects on all the wild events that have gone down ever since he stepped into her life. He packs insane strength and casually writes legendary recipes, which only makes him all the more mysterious. The irony of letting such a shady, powerful stranger crash at her place is not lost on her. She worries that digging into his true identity might make him vanish into thin air. Out of nowhere, Chen pops up behind her and asks what the shouting was all about. He mentions that he just walked through the door and heard her yelling his name. Ye freezes in embarrassment, but Chen assumes her stammering means she thinks he has been slacking on his chores, quickly defending his household contributions. She confesses that she actually called him over to apologize, since the recipe he gave her ended up torn to bits. Instead of being mad, Chen casually brushes it off as beginner-level garbage and promises he can whip up plenty more whenever she wants. Claiming he is exhausted, he tries heading off to bed, but Yi is nowhere near done interrogating him. He jokingly teases that while he is tired, a real man would never refuse if she is asking for private company. Flustered by his shameless flirting, she snaps that she meant nothing of the sort and threatens to dial the cops if he steps out of line. She brings up how desperate he was on the day they met, practically demanding an audience with Huamei's CEO, Xia Ryuxu. And now, fate has pulled an ironic 180. After their recent discussion, the CEO herself is the one dying to meet him. Putting on an aloof attitude, Chen scoffs that he is too busy and questions if this CEO even deserves his time. He reminds her that he is not the type of pushover she can just order around. Yesterday she gave him the cold shoulder, and today she comes crawling back for his favor. He reasons that as the head of a massive company, she naturally requires scheduled appointments beforehand. After endless back and forth, she finally convinces him to meet Xia tomorrow, on the strict condition that Xia visits him personally. With the matter settled, he retreats to his bedroom, declaring that he is done talking for the night. Later, he calls the president and delivers the message. Chen has agreed to meet, but only if Ryuxu comes to his place in person. The CEO accepts the terms without hesitation and instructs you to make sure he does not leave the house. Ryuxu genuinely finds his arrogant attitude intriguing. One day he was making a ruckus at the front desk to see her, and now he is playing hard to get. Her curiosity is ignited, eager to discover what kind of man he really is. The following morning, Chen heads over to Rendezvous Hall, Jiangcheng's most prominent pharmacy, on some personal errand. Chen is genuinely impressed by the sheer scale of the place and the massive crowd milling around. He takes a stroll around the shop before getting down to his actual business. Casually walking through the hall, he spots a painting depicting an ancient mythical beast and mutters aloud that it looks like a fake copy. A young woman named Zhu Zixuan and an old man named Zhu Rendai overhear his remark and instantly confront him for insulting their prized family heirloom. The grandfather calms the girl down and politely asks Chen why he considers it a forgery, pointing out that countless elite collectors have verified its authenticity. Chen bluntly replies that this only proves all those so-called experts, including the old man, have terrible eyes. They might have eyes in their heads, but they are completely blind when it comes to true appraisal. He turns to leave, pausing just long enough to drop a snide comment about expecting higher standards from this pharmacy. Yet up to this point, it seems he gave the place way too much credit. Outraged by his arrogance, young Zixuan snaps and begs her grandfather for permission to beat some respect into him. Rendai sternly cautions her to restrain herself, reminding her that martial artists do not attack ordinary civilians. Ignoring his orders, she unleashes a lethal kick fueled by years of ancient martial arts training. To their absolute shock, Chen catches her flying foot effortlessly and mocks whether that is all she has. With him holding onto her leg for several awkward seconds, she blushes furiously and screeches at him to let go, calling him a shameless pervert. He obliges and releases her by throwing her down hard. He slams her straight into the floor face first. Shaking his head, Chen sighs in disappointment, noting he never expected to encounter an ancient martial practitioner in a place like this. He points out that the technique she is training in was created exclusively for men, not women. If she keeps practicing it, her internal foundation will be completely ruined in just a few years. Acting like a spoiled brat after eating dirt, Zixuan scrambles up, ready to argue back. Her grandfather immediately cuts her off, explaining that the young man just neutralized her full power strike without utilizing a single drop of true chi. Had he not pulled his strength, she would not even be on her feet right now. Stubborn as ever, she still insists he is just an amateur who knows nothing about genuine chi. She claims she only lost because she was clumsy and let her guard down. Tired of the nonsense, Chen unleashes a burst of genuine chi so overwhelming that it instantly crushes every bit of her defiance. Rendai bows deeply, apologizing for his granddaughter's disrespect and his own failure to recognize an absolute master. Chen brushes it off without holding a grudge, dismissing her as just a clueless kid. After making his granddaughter apologize properly, the old man humbly asks Chen to explain the truth behind the fake painting. Seeing their genuine humility, Chen tells them to watch carefully as he uses his spiritual energy to expose how deceptively the forgery was crafted. That clever illusion is precisely why the counterfeiters were bold enough to sign it out in the open. Only someone who commands true qi can pierce through the illusion and bring the hidden mark to light. Shortly after, a subdued Zixuan personally fetches and hands over the herbs Chen came to purchase. Still irritated and barely hiding her pout, she sarcastically acts honored to serve him, while snidely questioning if he can even afford such priceless medicine. Chen chuckles, praising her agility while teasing that he actually preferred her fiery, rebellious attitude from before. She snaps at him to watch his mouth, boasting that if her grandmaster were present, Chen would be begging for mercy. Her grandfather immediately cuts in, warning her that Chen's cultivation is by no means inferior to her master's. The elder turns to Chen once more, bowing in apology for his granddaughter's childish insolence. Chen hands Rendai a list of required ingredients, but the pharmacy does not have enough in stock to fill the massive order. The elder quickly assures him that they can source everything he needs within just a couple of days. They offer to provide the entire batch free of charge as a gesture of goodwill, but Chen firmly turns down the handout. He insists they charge him the standard market rate. He mentions he recently came into plenty of money, and he refuses to let anyone accuse him of taking cheap handouts. Saying his farewells, Chen walks out, noting he will return in a few days to collect his order. Watching him depart, the old man ponders in shock whether Chen could be a descendant of the legendary Yi clan. His granddaughter curiously asks why he pays so much attention to the guy, wondering if he is a renowned figure in the martial arts world. The elder is dead sure about one terrifying truth. If this man truly is Yi Chen, the entire city of Jiangcheng is about to be turned upside down. On his walk back, Chen's thoughts turn solemn as he remembers that his parents' death anniversary is right around the corner. He knows he needs to start getting everything ready for the occasion. However, before handling personal matters, there is a pesky tale behind him that needs to be taken care of first. Back at their manor, Zixuan scoffs at her grandfather for daring to place Chen on the same level as her esteemed master. In her stubborn view, all he did was spot a phony art piece. The elder corrects himself, admitting that saying Chen is equal to her master was a mistake, because Chen is leagues above him. He explains that Chen's emergence signals the arrival of a true supreme grandmaster. Legends say a martial grandmaster can slaughter a fully equipped, modern army using nothing but his bare hands. Standard firearms mean nothing to them, and regular humans are practically insignificant ants before their might. Looking at how young Chen is, Zixuan simply cannot fathom that he could hold such godlike status. Her grandfather grimly tells her that the young man might represent a power far more terrifying than an ordinary grandmaster. Give him just a few more years to grow, and nobody under the heavens will be capable of standing against him. Whatever happens, the elder vows that the Zhu family must never, under any circumstances, make an enemy out of that monster. Meanwhile, an undercover tracker is shadowing Chen because Shen Heihua has placed a massive bounty on the young doctor's whereabouts. The stalker is daydreaming about the fat bag of cash he will pocket once he delivers the location to the Shen family. Suddenly, Chen turns down an empty alleyway, signaling to the tracker that his cover has already been blown. He cautiously creeps into the alley anyway, only to get ambushed out of nowhere by his target. Pinning the spy to the pavement, Chen coldly demands one good reason why he should not snap his neck right now. Terrified for his life, the man begs for mercy, swearing he will spill every single detail. Taking everything way too literally, the panicked detective starts rambling off his entire life story and boring daily schedule. Pushed to his limit, Chen barks at him to cut the garbage and tell him who hired him. Shaking in fear, the detective confesses that Shen Heihua put out an open citywide bounty across Jiangcheng. Anyone who located the mysterious healer was promised a cool 1 million payout directly from the family head. Chen had previously warned that the patriarch only had 3 days left to live without proper care. Without Chen's follow-up treatment within that narrow window, Heihua is guaranteed to drop dead. The cheeky detective even tries proposing a deal, asking Chen to tag along so they can split the reward 70-30. Chen orders him to take a message back to the Shen family patriarch, warning him to quit playing these cheap games. The spy tries pleading with him to reconsider, but Chen shuts him down completely, stating he has other business today. The detective admits that his employer had to resort to hiring a private eye because nobody could track Chen's erratic whereabouts. Arriving back at the metropolitan apartment, Chen spots Sunya all glammed up and asks why she is dressed to the nines. She explains that she is taking him out for shopping, tired of watching him roam around in the exact same clothes every single day. On top of that, she plans to buy him a phone so she does not have to scream his name whenever she needs him. Even though Yi Chen feels like this whole shopping trip is a massive headache, She immediately tells him to relax about the price tag. Everything is on her tab today. Once he changes into a fresh, stylish fit, she can't help but praise how sharp he looks. She even jokes that if he walked across campus dressed like that, girls would be tripping over themselves to get his number. Then, getting curious, she straight up asks him to spill the beans about his relationship status. She offers to hook him up with someone if he is looking for romance. She insists her friend group is packed with gorgeous, single girls, but when he shuts her down without hesitation, she playfully roasts him as a totally naive virgin. The truth is, ever since Chen lost his parents, romance was the absolute last thing on his mind. He spent the last 5 years grinding through brutal cultivation, but once upon a time, he did harbor a crush on a girl from his old school. She was basically the campus crush that half the boys secretly dreamed about. Back then, he actually worked up the courage to send her a love letter, and surprisingly, she replied. Her condition was simple. She would date him only if he publicly poured his heart out during the morning assembly right in front of every student and faculty member. Being completely naive back then, he bought into her words without a second thought, only to get ruthlessly rejected before the entire school. The whole thing had been a cruel setup designed specifically to mock and humiliate him. That public disgrace crushed his spirit, sending him down a spiral of self-doubt until he spiraled into a complete outcast. He might have been a helpless loser in the past, but in the present day, Jiang Cheng's most powerful families are absolute ants compared to him. Seeing him go quiet after her jokes, Sonia starts worrying that her teasing might have actually stung his pride. Trying to make him feel better, she admits that she has never dated anyone either, pointing out that being single isn't the end of the world. She's still doing just fine on her own. Chen gives her head an affectionate squeeze and tells her to drop the ridiculous rambling. Since her mission was to get him new clothes, she should focus on that instead. She nods along and gets back to browsing, but makes sure to remind him to stick within her budget and not pick anything outrageously pricey. Out of nowhere, an old acquaintance of Sun Yi and her boyfriend suddenly walk up to say hello. This snooty woman mentions it's been ages since they last crossed paths and immediately starts prying into whether Yi has managed to find a man. She wastes no time mocking Yi, bringing up how close she used to be with Yi Chen in school and snidely remarking that seeing her companion in roadside market clothes proves she has a thing for paupers. She eyes Chen up and down, casually commenting that he kind of resembles that pathetic guy Yi used to hang out with back then. Her arrogant boyfriend chimes in, eagerly asking to hear the spicy gossip about this so-called Yi family failure. She gleefully explains how that loser confessed his feelings to her popular friend, Chu Shiren, only to get completely humiliated when she shut him down in front of everyone. The embarrassment broke him so badly that he never even dared to show his face in school again. And not long after that, his entire household ended up getting wiped off the map. She laughs that if his family hadn't been destroyed, her friend probably would have dragged out the torment even longer. Hearing them mock his painful past makes Chen's blood boil, and he coldly states that he is about to silence her permanently. Sonia immediately jumps in front of him to hold him back. She tells him not to let these clowns get under his skin and urges him to just ignore them and focus on getting his outfit. The rude woman scoffs at how broke they look, then dramatically turns to her boyfriend and demands that he buy her multiple expensive outfits right in front of them. She shamelessly promises that if he spoils her today, she will do whatever he wants in bed tonight. She even adds that he is free to invite his buddies over for the fun. Having flaunted their wealth, the arrogant duo walks off to browse the rest of the store. Chen gently moves Yi out of the way, claiming he's about to handle things, which instantly triggers her anxiety that he's going to start another brawl. They literally just got hauled into the police station over the whole Chen family incident a couple of days ago. Turns out, Chen isn't heading over to beat up the couple just yet. He simply walked over to pick out an outfit that caught his eye. He points to a set, but the store staff immediately drops a bomb. That specific suit is the single most expensive piece in the boutique, rocking a price tag of $360,000. Sonia knew this place was high-end, but hearing that insane number nearly makes her soul leave her body. Since she doesn't have that kind of cash and doesn't want to hurt his pride by admitting it, she puts on a face, claiming the color looks off and suggesting they browse for something more modest. Right on cue, that obnoxious woman swoops back in, loudly mocking Sonia for being completely broke and making up fake excuses because she can't foot the bill. Stung by the public humiliation, Yi snaps back, insisting she really just dislikes the design and claiming she can easily cover the cost. Her old classmate laughs in her face, rudely pointing out that she couldn't even finish high school because she was dead broke paying for her sick brother's treatment. Before Sonia can fire back, the woman drops Chu Shiren's name, warning that laying a single finger on her will get you permanently kicked out of Jiangcheng. Getting completely cocky, she sticks her face out and literally dares you to strike her. Chen has officially had enough of her nonsense, so he steps in and delivers a vicious slap that sends her crashing straight to the floor. Looking down at her in disgust, he coldly advises her that keeping her mouth shut permanently would be much safer for her health. Clutching her stinging face, the woman stares back in sheer disbelief that someone actually laid hands on her. She screeches at Chen, asking how he dares strike her when her best friend and her boyfriend are both massive powerhouses in the city. Chen simply shrugs it off, telling her he couldn't care less who she knows. Infuriated by the disrespect, her boyfriend steps up to flex his credentials. He proudly announces that he's the CFO of the massive Baeming Group, pulling in an easy $5 million a year. He arrogantly declares that a high society executive like him is someone a broke nobody like Chen could never afford to cross. Right on cue, Shen Heihua walks in accompanied by his son, ready to stand up for the man who saved his life. His thunderous voice cuts through the room, demanding to know who has the absolute nerve to use the Baeming Group's name to intimidate Dr. Yi. As it happens, the entire Baeming Group belongs to the Shen Patriarch, and Heihua himself is the supreme chairman. Jun turns pale upon seeing his big boss standing there, completely lost since rumors claimed the chairman was lying on his deathbed. Sunya stands frozen in shock, wondering what on earth Jiang Cheng's biggest titan is doing in this clothing store. She panics, thinking that if this powerful tycoon takes the side of her obnoxious acquaintance, she and Chen are totally doomed. The woman immediately starts buttering Heihua up with empty flattery, while Jun nervously asks if the chairman is visiting to inspect their latest business venture. Shen Heihua doesn't even spare them a single glance, treating them like complete air. Instead, he rushes forward, grabs Chen's hand with immense gratitude, and thanks him for pulling him back from the brink of death. He admits that without Chen stepping in back at the clinic, he would already be 6 feet under. The snobbish couple stands paralyzed, utterly unable to process the jaw-dropping scene unfolding before their eyes. The undisputed kingpin of the Shen clan is humbling himself before the very guy they were just calling a broke loser. On top of that, he's speaking to Chen with the highest level of reverence. Sunya is just as flabbergasted by the entire spectacle. Chen has only been in Jiangcheng for a few days, yet he already has the mighty Shen Heihua treating him like a revered master. Chen looks at the patriarch and coldly remarks that while he spared the old man's life, his family didn't show an ounce of basic respect in return. Heihua profusely apologizes for his son's utter foolishness, swearing that he already gave Meng Long a severe beating for disrespecting him, and is now here to make things right. Without wasting a second, the old man barks at his son to march over and drop to his knees before their savior. Meng Long drops straight to the floor, begging Chen for forgiveness with zero pride left. The rude woman's jaw hits the floor, seeing the notoriously arrogant Shen Meng Long groveling in public. Knowing how prideful the young master usually is, she never imagined in her wildest dreams that anyone could force him onto his knees. Terrified, she begins to wonder what terrifying monster Chen actually is. Could he be an elite powerhouse from Jiangnan province, or the heir of some supreme imperial clan? Leaving everyone completely stunned, Chen doesn't even acknowledge the old man and casually turns to Sunya, suggesting they head over to check out the women's section. He makes it clear that this time around, the shopping spree is on him. Far from being insulted by the cold shoulder, the Shen Patriarch turns to his son and roars that if Master Yi doesn't grant him pardon, Meng Long will remain on his knees until the day he dies. Jun tries to step in and play peacemaker to cool his boss down, only to get a thunderous slap across the face from Heihua. The furious chairman orders him and his father to pack their bags and get fired immediately for daring to provoke Dr. Yi. The patriarch knows full well that his very survival rests entirely in Chen's hands, and he's not about to let his employees send him to an early grave. The woman stammers in horror that they just messed with a god-level figure, while her boyfriend breaks down into tears right there, realizing his entire career just went down the drain. Later on, after they finish buying clothes for one another, Sunya admits that she is completely puzzled. She wonders how a guy who couldn't even pay his room rent managed to buy her outfits, though she genuinely beams with happiness holding her new gifts. Chen realizes she still assumes he's dead broke, which is why she deliberately chose budget-friendly items instead of pricey designer wear, completely oblivious to the millions sitting in his account. Deep down, he respects her humble nature and feels she is truly a warm-hearted person. Just as they prepare to leave, Heihua catches up with them, carrying an armful of luxury shopping bags and desperately pleading with them to wait up. He politely asks if they enjoyed their shopping, but Chen, thoroughly tired of his dramatic antics, bluntly demands to know what the old man is after. The patriarch quickly clarifies the misunderstanding, explaining that he isn't trying to bother Chen, but is actually here for the young lady by his side. Since an employee from his company was utterly disrespectful to her, he feels personally responsible to make amends. He presents the bags as a formal apology, humbly begging her to accept this small token of goodwill. Sunya is left speechless inside. The bags are the exact designer dresses she had fallen in love with earlier, but had to pass on because of their massive price tags. Meanwhile, Chen mentally gives the old man credit for playing it smart. Knowing he couldn't butter Chen up directly, Heihua targeted Sunya instead. Chen finally relents, telling the patriarch he will grant him one final opportunity and will show up at his estate tomorrow morning at 9 sharp. He drops a chilling warning before leaving, reminding the old man that the hands capable of saving his life can just as easily snuff it out. Beaming with relief, Haehua bows deeply and promises that the entire Shen family is at Chen's beck and call whenever he needs a favor. Over at Chu Xiren's luxury villa, the rude woman rushes to spill the tea about Yi Chen's sudden return to town. She explains that while his vibe and attitude have flipped completely, his face and name match the loser from their past. She frantically adds how the mighty Shen Haehua was practically groveling at the guy's feet. Chu Xiren barely even blinks at the news. She mentions that she's had dealings with Haehua in the past. Knowing how cunning and experienced the old fox is, she reasons that for him to bow before a young kid, her former classmate must have acquired some serious backing or raw power. Even so, she can't wrap her head around how a broken loser from 5 years ago could have transformed into such a terrifying figure. Xiren smugly reminds her friend that in the past, the Yi family had to crawl on their knees just to appease the mighty Chu clan. And even after 5 long years, the Chu family remains an untouchable mountain that her old admirer can only look up at from the dirt. Back at their luxury apartment, Sun Yi is over the moon trying on all the high-end designer pieces gifted by Haehua, stuff she could never justify spending her own money on. Dying of curiosity, she presses her roommate on how on earth he got connected with a powerhouse like Shen Haehua. Changing the topic, she asks if he truly has no intention of going to meet that gorgeous girl. She playfully taunts him, claiming no sane guy could turn down the prettiest girl around, but Chen dismisses the whole notion as total nonsense and tells her she's welcome to go enjoy herself alone. All he wants right now is to chill on the couch and watch some television. As he scrolls through his phone, a breaking news alert pops up about 2 dead bodies discovered inside a downtown luxury villa earlier that morning. The victims are confirmed to be Chen Zhengguo, the big-shot president of the Jiangcheng Chamber of Commerce, and his spoiled son, Chen Feng. Police reports have already classified the incident as a cold-blooded double murder. While the actual executioner sits there without flinching, Sun Yi is left trembling in utter horror. She stammers that she had been having sleepless nights worrying about the Chen clan coming back for bloody revenge. Chen casually interrupts, remarking that when scumbags rack up enemies everywhere they go, turning up dead is just an everyday occurrence. Then, in a completely deadpan delivery, he tells her that he was the one who took them out because he's secretly a world-class assassin. Naturally, she laughs it off as a bad joke, telling him to stop making up ridiculous fairy tales. She grabs her new outfits to go try them on, playfully warning him that he better not dare peek. Later that evening, Chen takes a quiet stroll along the shoreline near the apartment, planning out how to refine the rare herbs he grabbed from the pharmacy for his nighttime cultivation. As he walks along the water, he runs straight into the same female cop who interrogated him during the previous Chen family scuffle. Recalling what a massive pain she was to deal with, he decides the smartest move is to keep his distance. He coldly tells the officer he's in a hurry and tries to brush past her. The officer blocks his path, refusing to let him off the hook as she aggressively probes him about the sudden massacre of the Chen family. She tries to push his buttons, mocking that she never imagined an agile fighter like him could turn out to be the pathetic trash from the fallen Yi family. That insult crosses the line. Chen snaps, instantly clamping his hand around her throat and lifting her off the ground. Despite her training in ancient martial arts, she is completely paralyzed and unable to break his iron grip. Gasping for air, she manages to choke out that there are secrets she isn't allowed to reveal yet, and that she honestly just wanted to invite him out for dinner. Chen releases his grip, shooting down her offer on the spot and stating he'd much rather share a meal with Sunya. With that, he turns his back and walks off into the night. Staring at his retreating figure, she ponders how someone his age way past the prime window for training martial arts could possess such terrifying prowess. Even if the guy had trained relentlessly for 5 whole years without sleeping, reaching this monstrous level of strength should have been biologically impossible. Back at the apartment, while Sun Yi is fast asleep, Chen hilariously hijacks the kitchen microwave to concoct ancient alchemical pills. Obviously, a cheap household microwave isn't built for refining supreme pills, making him deeply regret not hauling his master's sacred cauldron along with him. Despite throwing in a mountain of rare herbs, the crude setup only yields 5 successful ultimate pills. Still, those 5 pills pack more than enough mystical power to completely cure Shen Heihua's fatal condition. The following morning, Sun Yu wakes up only to see Chen already dressed and heading for the door at the crack of dawn. Wondering what the rush is, she asks where he's off to, and he casually drops that he's heading out to save someone's life. Sun Yu can't help but find that hilarious considering his overall vibe. The guy spouts ridiculous claims 24/7 and looks as far away from a certified medical doctor as humanly possible. Then again, he did produce that miraculous beauty pill recipe out of nowhere, making her think he might actually possess genuine medical miracles. Glancing at the calendar, she remembers that the memorial anniversary for the 3 fallen members of the Yi household is right around the corner. She has made it a tradition to pay her respects at their graves every single year, and assumes that this time around, she'll once again be making the solemn trip alone. Yet despite all the passing years, the dark mystery behind why that entire family was violently butchered overnight remains completely unsolved to her. Down at the complex gates, Jaeja is parked by the curb, patiently waiting for Chen to come down. Catching sight of a stunning girl alone by a luxury ride, 2 random dudes assume she's just waiting for a female friend and start scheming to hit on her. One guy smugly claims that a wealthy, top-tier beauty like her would never lower herself to wait around for some dude. He analyzes that she clearly comes from luxury, and a woman whipping a BMW is too independent and proud to ever chase after a man. His buddy nods along, totally hyping up his genius deduction, only for Chen to casually stroll up and tell them their whole logic is completely garbage. Offended by the intrusion, the two demand to know why on earth he thinks he knows better than them. Chen shrugs and says it's just a gut feeling, but the bigger guy fiercely fires back, boasting that he's a certified romance god who has dated hundreds of waifus in video games, so they won't be disrespected by some random passerby. Chen simply laughs, reiterating that neither of them knows the first thing about actual women. He adds with total confidence that there's only one indisputable fact here: that stunning girl is waiting specifically for him. The 2 idiots burst into laughter, telling him to go find a mirror before attempting such a delusional pickup line. They mock that a gorgeous goddess driving a luxury ride wouldn't waste 2 seconds waiting on a broke nobody like him. Right at that moment, Jaeja catches sight of Chen, running straight over to him and pouting about how she's been standing there waiting forever. As she warmly wraps her hands around his arm, the 2 clowns who were just roasting him stand frozen with their jaws dropped to the pavement. Noticing the 2 gaping strangers, she innocently asks Chen if these guys happen to be his buddies. When Chen tells her he has no idea who they are, she warns him to watch out because there are way too many weird creeps hanging around this neighborhood. Upon pulling up to the Shen family's grand estate, Chen hands the 5 refined medicinal pills straight to Haehua. The Shen household is completely caught off guard by how simple the cure looks. They were anticipating intense herbal brews or complex acupuncture sessions. His wife even mentions she was mentally prepared for major surgery, but Chen cuts through the overthinking and simply orders the patriarch to pop all 5 pills in one gulp. The second the pills go down his throat, an intoxicating herbal aroma erupts and courses through his entire internal system. A soothing wave of warmth washes over every fiber of his being, gifting him an overwhelming sense of relief and energy he hasn't felt in decades. He actually feels far more powerful now than he ever did in his prime. Once the initial excitement settles down, the family patriarch sincerely thanks him, promising he will never forget the debt of having his life saved. To back up his gratitude, he hands over a staggering 100 million as compensation. Chen takes the cash without any hesitation, explaining that this was strictly business. He cures people for money, so there's really no need for endless praise. Much to Chen's surprise, Haehua doesn't stop there. He also offers him a massive vacant property right next to the metropolitan apartments that had just been sitting unused. Tossing the keys to Chen, the old man insists he take the place and even invites him out for dinner. Chen realizes right away that this gifted estate will come in handy for his future plans. More importantly, it gives him a secure, spacious spot to stash all his rare medicinal herbs. That's when it hits him Haehua is deeply connected in elite business circles, meaning he probably sits on top-secret corporate intel regarding outfits like the Tianjin Group. Tianjin Group was essentially his father's crowning life's work, built entirely from scratch. Yet right after his family met with tragedy, greedy vultures took advantage and hijacked the entire company through blatant fraud. Chen had tried digging into what happened to the company earlier, but it hit a complete dead end. Now, he figures that if anyone in this city holds the answers, it's bound to be Shen Haehua. Turning back to the patriarch, Chen agrees to accept the gifted estate. But when it comes to dinner, he makes it clear that the treat is going to be on him. He'll pick the venue and sets the meetup for tomorrow evening. When Chen checks if the old man's schedule is open, Haehua enthusiastically replies that he's completely free and would consider it an absolute privilege to dine with him. Fast forward a few days, and Chen heads over to the Rendezvous Hall, which stands as Jiangcheng's most prominent pharmacy. Zhu Ren has already managed to track down the rare herbs that were previously impossible to secure in bulk. The old man proudly assures him that the batch is exceptionally fresh and potent. Upon inspecting the hall, Chen is genuinely impressed, realizing the ingredients surpass his expectations in both quality and maturity. Fully pleased with what he sees, he asks for the total cost so they can settle up. The old master hesitates, admitting Chen might not like it, but mentions he's only going to charge a mere 5 million. Based on what Chen knows about the current market rates, that price is an absolute steal compared to their actual worth. In reality, the shop is taking a massive hit, considering the batch is easily worth tens of millions. Even though he hates being indebted to anyone, Chen lets it slide for the time being and accepts the deal. Noticing Zixuan isn't around, he casually asks the old man where his granddaughter is. Rend explains she went out hiking with her master, adding that had she been present, he would have made her serve Chen tea to apologize for her earlier attitude. Chen brushes it off as unnecessary, pulling out a notepad and pen to start casually jotting down some notes. He rips out the written page and passes it over to Rend. He instructs him to give it to his granddaughter once she gets back. He adds that if she can't make sense of it, she should show it to her master, as it holds immense value for her future. The old man nods and promises to deliver it directly to her. Glancing at the note, Ren suspects in the back of his mind that Chen is already repaying the discount favor. Moving on, Chen asks if Rend knows where one might find an authentic alchemy furnace. He definitely needs a proper setup, because trying to refine high-grade pills on a regular induction stove is just straight up miserable. Ren's jaw drops the moment he hears Chen knows how to brew medicinal pills. Word on the street has always been that true Chinese alchemists went extinct thousands of years ago. While ancient pills do pop up occasionally on the market, they're ancient relics preserved over millennia. In fact, some of those rare specimens can easily fetch hundreds of millions at auctions. Even if living alchemists exist today, finding one is rarer than striking lightning twice. Backed by a legitimate alchemist, even a mediocre martial arts clan could shoot to the very peak of the country within 3 short years. Putting 2 and 2 together, Rend looks at the mountain of herbs Chen ordered and realizes they're meant for pill crafting. If that hunch holds up, Chen's true worth is completely off the charts. Realizing he let too much slip, Chen quickly backtracks and acts like he knows nothing about pill concoction. He covers it up by claiming he just likes collecting old alchemy cauldrons as a quirky hobby. The old man takes the bait and suggests Chen join them at a massive high-end auction happening in 5 days. He guarantees that an authentic furnace will definitely be crossing the auction block. Chen agrees to tag along before wrapping up the visit. For the moment, his main priority is having the herbal stockpile hauled over to his new Dadu villa. A bit later, Zixuan returns from her mountain trek alongside her master. Her grandpa immediately checks in, asking if she gave her master any grief during the trip. He scolds her for disrespecting Chen earlier, reminding her that she was supposed to apologize instead of sneaking out at the crack of dawn. Hearing Yi Chen's name again instantly rubs her the wrong way. She snaps back, complaining that her grandpa talks about this guy 24/7, even though her master is infinitely superior. She brags that her master can snap a massive tree in half with just a single palm strike. Her master quickly cuts her off, telling her not to boast foolishly since there are hidden dragons out there who far outclass him, including the very person they're discussing. Choosing not to waste breath arguing, Ren simply hands over the torn paper Chen left behind. But when she tries making sense of the scribbles, it goes completely over her head. Disgusted, she tosses it aside, complaining that the handwriting is straight up trash. But before the paper even hits the floor, her master snatches it midair. The moment his eyes scan the lines, he loses his composure and shouts that this could only be penned by a peerless supreme master. He immediately begs Ren to introduce him to this hidden expert, declaring that this man has bestowed an incredible blessing upon both him and Zixuan. Curious about his extreme reaction, grandfather and granddaughter ask what's on the page, prompting him to explain the full story. The master begins by explaining his core cultivation method, the very same technique he passed down to Zixuan. It's known as the Qiang Heart method, an esoteric art he stumbled upon by chance during his youth. The catch, however, was that the manuscript was heavily incomplete. In the early stages, his strength exploded, allowing his cultivation realm to make massive leaps forward. But as he progressed deeper into the art, dangerous flaws began tearing through his body. The severe internal backlash eventually started wreaking havoc on his vital organs. Hearing this, Zixuan connects the dots, recalling the strange, suffocating discomfort she feels whenever she pushes her training too hard. She anxiously wonders if the flawed manual is already backfiring on her. Her master reassures her, telling her there's no need to panic. His aim was solely to give her a solid martial arts foundation. Since her training is still shallow, the technique's hidden backlash hasn't reached a fatal level for her. For him, however, continuing down this path meant certain death from total organ failure, unless he completely shattered his own cultivation. Hearing this grim diagnosis, Rend feels utterly helpless, unable to think of a way to save him. Lao Qin has been the family's primary guardian, and losing him would leave the Zhu clan completely vulnerable. But with a wide grin, the master chuckles and reveals that was only true until moments ago. Because this tiny scrap of paper holds profound, revolutionary martial insights that fixed every single flaw. It's an absolute masterpiece of correction, completely eliminating any risk of internal backlash moving forward. Seeing her proud master openly bow to Yi Chen's genius and revere him as a savior, Zixuan can't help but wonder who this guy actually is. Pulling up to the Dadu Villa compound, Chen is stunned by just how massive the estate really is. He assumed he was getting a decent apartment, but he ended up with a full-blown luxury villa. Stepping inside to inspect the interior, he discovers the place comes fully furnished with top-tier decor. Old man Heihua really went above and beyond, saving Chen from the hassle of setting everything up himself. Still, wandering through the echoing halls all by himself, the sheer emptiness feels a bit lonely. He catches himself thinking how much livelier it would be if Sun Yi were staying here with him. She had mentioned earlier that morning that she needed to head back to her hometown for urgent business and might not make it back by tonight. He reminisces about how, even though his childhood home was far smaller, their family of 3 lived in warm, joyful harmony. That house was always brimming with life, but now he's the sole survivor left behind. Tomorrow marks his parents' death anniversary, and his resolve to avenge them burns hotter than ever. He clawed his way out of the depths of hell for one purpose alone: to sever the head of their killer and lay it before their graves. Shortly after, the delivery convoy pulls up, and workers start unloading the massive crates of medicinal herbs. He counts his blessings for landing this villa right when he needed it most. Without this expansive estate, he wouldn't have had anywhere near enough room to store such a staggering haul. Patriarch Zhu and his granddaughter show up in person as well, making sure every single crate reaches the right destination safely. Ren assures Chen to just give the word if he ever requires anything else. This also marks Chen's first face-to-face encounter with Zixuan's master, who immediately greets him with profound reverence. Chen thanks Patriarch Zhu for coming down personally and warmly invites the group inside. But before Chen can strike up a casual chat, the seasoned martial artist abruptly bows and begs him to accept his undying gratitude for saving his life, catching both Chen and Zixuan completely off guard. Introducing himself, the master explains that thanks to Chen's corrections to the Kiang Heart method, he not only shattered his cultivation bottleneck but also eradicated the lethal internal backlash completely. Going forward, he declares he will always honor Chen as his ultimate benefactor and address him respectfully as Grandmaster Yi. Chen brushes the praise off as no big deal, though he admits one detail has piqued his curiosity. He asks why he's being called a Grandmaster, wondering if that's considered the peak title in their hierarchy. Scratching his head, he plays dumb, claiming he just descended from mountain isolation and knows next to nothing about modern Huaxia martial arts ranks. Zixuan's master buys the cover story completely. He assumes that if Master Yi was secluded in deep mountain cultivation, it makes total sense that he'd be out of touch with mundane ranking systems. The martial artist breaks down the Huaxia ranking system, explaining that it spans 4 core tiers: external strength, internal strength, half-step transformation, and master of transformation. Furthermore, every single tier is split into 3 phases: minor, major, and peak. He uses Zixuan and Chen to illustrate the stark contrast. While Zixuan is barely scraping the surface of internal strength, Master Yi stands as a pinnacle master of transformation, a supreme figure countless elite fighters revere. Chen silently notices these worldly ranks differ from what his own master taught him, though he finds that completely expected. The heavenly arts he cultivates operate on an entirely different dimensional plane compared to the standard martial arts of the mortal world. In his path, each realm spans 9 full layers, leading up to the spiritual realm and the even more monstrous realms lying beyond. Still, those godly heights are far beyond where he currently stands. Right now, he's sitting at the 5th layer of the Kaiyuan realm. Measuring by Qin Yuanming's description, China's so-called grandmasters roughly equate to fighters between the Kaiyuan and pneumatic realms. While they aren't astronomically far behind him in raw tier, they still pack more punch than he had initially assumed. Chen asks the master whether these top-tier powerhouses are common throughout China. The martial artist admits he doesn't have an exact count, but confirms that almost all of them are allied with elite aristocratic families. Despite living in a modern era ruled by technology and law, those at the pinnacle of power always keep elite martial artists in their corner. Ranked from top to bottom, Jiangcheng's 4 dominant dynasties are the Chu, Zhao, Lu, and formerly, the Chen family. Even the Chen clan, despite being the bottom rung, possessed an elder who was a hidden grandmaster in deep seclusion. Tragically, they were obliterated a few years back, getting overthrown and replaced by the Wan family. Chen recalls the dying threats made by Zheng Guo, wondering when the Zheng patriarch will finally make his move to hunt him down. Out of all the figures across Jiangcheng's elite, the one etched deepest in his memory was Xu Ran from the Chu family. Had it not been for her ruthless humiliation back then, he never would have been shattered and labeled as useless trash. But the tables have turned, and the hour of reckoning has arrived. He is determined to make her realize he has evolved into a godlike powerhouse far beyond her reach. Sensing the sudden surge of terrifying killing intent rolling off Chen, the master shudders, realizing this kid has soaked his hands in mountains of blood. To wield such lethal mastery at his age, the old warrior knows without a doubt that Chen has walked through sheer hell. Quite a bit of time has passed since Sun Yi left, and though Chen has called her repeatedly, none of his calls are going through. The total silence starts gnawing at him with unease. He begins to suspect something might have gone terribly wrong back at her family's place. If she doesn't check in by tomorrow, he resolves to track her down personally. For the moment, his stomach takes priority, so he steps out to find a bite to eat. Luckily, he spots a familiar roadside seafood stall just around the corner. It turns out to be run by his old buddy, Wang Yuheng. The place instantly floods him with waves of nostalgia. The food back in their school days was so ridiculously tasty that he practically lived here. He's genuinely surprised to see the humble stall still running after all these chaotic years. In fact, his endless visits back then were the exact reason he and Yuheng became tight friends in the first place. Even when Chen hit rock bottom, these friends never once turned their backs on him. In the old days, this joint was always packed to the brim with customers. He finds it strange that the entire place is completely deserted tonight. Shrugging it off, he pulls up a chair and orders their classic skewers alongside a cold drink. Before he can settle in, an elderly woman walks over with an apologetic look, telling him they're shutting down for good and advising him to eat somewhere else. She explains they're relocating tonight, inviting him to drop by their new location whenever he gets the chance. Chen immediately senses that something smells fishy. This stall has held down this corner for over a decade. Packing up out of the blue like this makes zero sense. What alarms him even more is the fresh bandage plastered across her face. It's painfully obvious she was recently roughed up by someone. Just then, her husband steps up warmly, setting down a fresh plate of hot skewers. He gently tells his wife not to hurry their guest away. Boss Wang smiles, saying that if this young man is destined to be their final customer, he'll make sure he's properly served. Spotting a matching bandage on Wang's face, Chen remembers how deeply loving this couple always was. There's no way in hell this is domestic abuse. Someone else did this to them. Wang tells him to enjoy the meal on the house without worrying about the bill. The only catch is he needs to eat fast. They're desperate to shut the shutters and get out as fast as possible. Lured in by the mouth-watering nostalgic aroma, Chen is about to take his first bite when an abrupt disturbance prickles his senses. His razor-sharp instincts kick in before the threat can land. As a heavy wooden chair comes flying straight at his head, he smashes it into splinters with effortless precision. The ones hurling furniture turn out to be a gang of local thugs who also frequent this joint. But unlike Chen, these lowlifes are nothing but pure scum. The punks bark at Chen to get lost immediately, sneering that the shop is closed for business. Their ringleader, Tiger, steps up and corners the trembling couple, demanding how they dared serve food before coughing up their protection money. He yanks Wang up by his collar, trying to intimidate him into submission. But the shopkeeper stands his ground, bravely stating that their tiny stall doesn't make enough to pay extortion fees. Tiger sneers, revealing that he's already one step ahead of them. He brags that he's already tracked down the location of their new shop. If they don't fork over 50 grand by tomorrow, he and his crew will trash their new shop and break their bones. Thinking they've wrapped up their intimidation act, the gang turns to leave, telling Chen he can scamper off too. But Chen calmly chimes in, saying he never gave them permission to walk away. Tiger assumes his ears are playing tricks on him, asking if this little punk is actually daring to talk back to him. Chen fires right back, asking who else he'd be addressing if not a barking dog, instantly sending Tiger into an explosive, unhinged rage. But before he can even blink, the Grandmaster delivers a stinging backhand across his face, telling him to know his place. That single strike completely knocks the gang leader unconscious on the spot. The strike lands with such blistering speed that the rest of the gang doesn't even register their boss getting hit. Furious after being embarrassed by an apparent nobody, the arrogant boss lunges forward, only to catch another vicious blow that launches him straight into the ceiling, leaving his face stuck in the plaster with his legs dangling midair. With their leader completely out cold, Chen coldly orders the remaining lackeys to drop down and roll away like worms. He makes it crystal clear that if they dare show their faces around here again, he won't let them off with just a light beating. After thoroughly thrashing the goons, Chen watches as they drop to their knees, desperately begging for mercy and swearing never to cause trouble again. He drops one last stern warning, letting them know that crossing paths with him on these streets again will end very badly for them. As the punks scramble away, Chen glances around the shop and notices the utter chaos left in the wake of the fight. He instantly regrets not making those scumbags sweep up the debris before kicking them out. By this point, Uncle Wang and his wife finally piece together who he is and cautiously ask if he's really a kin. Tears well up in their eyes as they express how incredibly relieved and joyful they are to see him alive and well. Chen is genuinely caught off guard that the elderly couple still remembers him after all these years. They explain that he shot up so tall and built so much muscle that they could barely recognize him at first glance. Leaving the shop behind, Chen heads straight to the Dadu apartments, where he spots a familiar figure and asks why she's been completely ignoring his phone calls. He brings up the seafood place he visited earlier and offers to take her out to eat. The woman had her back turned toward him the entire time, but when she finally spins around, it turns out to be Xia Ryuxu instead. Yet because they've never met face to face, Chen has no clue who the woman standing in front of him actually is. She finds the situation utterly ridiculous, mocking him for causing a massive scene at her company's reception, only to fail to recognize the owner when she's right in front of him. Suspicious of her unexpected presence, Chen bluntly questions why she's hanging out in Sun Ye's apartment. She explains that she and Sun Ye are childhood best friends who used to hang out and play at each other's homes growing up. Her best friend had simply handed her a spare key so she could drop by whenever she wanted. Flipping the script, she demands to know exactly what his deal is with Sun Ye. Chen casually shrugs and replies that he needed a roof over his head, making Sun Ye his current landlord. This marks the very first time Chen is laying eyes on Xia Ryuxu in the flesh. After all, tracking her down was the main reason he came to Jiangcheng to begin with. His master had sent him on a mission to protect her, yet looking at her now, she seems completely fine and nowhere near any danger. She gives him a sly side-eye, smirking as she remarks that he's far bolder than she gave him credit for. Uninterested in small talk, Chen tells her that Sun Ye isn't here and suggests she go discuss business at the office instead. Watching him act like he owns the place rubs her the wrong way. She lets him know that she's been trying to get hold of Sun Ye all day, noting that she didn't even show up for their crucial board meeting. She presses him to see if he has any clue where on earth Sun Ye might have disappeared to. That genuinely raises Chen's alarms, realizing that if her best friend can't reach her, Sun Ye must be dealing with something serious. Sensing that she might be in deep trouble, he decides he needs to track her down immediately. Filled with urgency, Chen immediately turns on his heel and heads for the door. Xia steps in to block his way, but he coldly brushes her off, telling her to stay out of it. She calls him out, pointing out how desperately he was trying to find her earlier, yet now that she's standing right before him, he's walking away. Chen shoots a stern look over his shoulder and warns her not to trail behind him. In her entire life, no one has ever had the audacity to speak to her with such disrespect. She genuinely can't comprehend where this guy gets off acting so arrogant. To her, he's just some lucky guy clutching an incomplete medical prescription. She had even hired a private investigator to dig into his background, only to hit a complete dead end with zero records found. That bizarre lack of records pointed to only one possibility. His files are classified at the highest levels, completely off limits to regular citizens. Someone with his unique value could be an enormous asset to her company, yet he treats her like an annoying disease. Swallowing her pride, she forces herself to tolerate his terrible attitude. She broke away from the main Xia clan to build her own empire in Jiangcheng, desperate to prove her independence without relying on family influence. Besides, he was the one who sought her out in the first place. Jiangcheng is a massive metropolis, and without a personal network of eyes and ears, tracking Sun Ye down on his own is basically finding a needle in a haystack. And by the time he wandered around and stumbled upon her, disaster might already strike. Though he hates getting entangled in old connections, Chen realizes he's out of options and reaches for his phone to call in assistance. Chen dials a private line so exclusive that only 6 living individuals across the globe even possess the number. The moment the man on the other end answers, he's utterly stunned to hear the legendary Grandmaster speaking to him. Chen opens with a sharp warning not to trace the call, adding that if any operatives are caught tailing him, he will strip away everything he ever granted them, including their very lives. Having set the boundaries, Chen demands immediate intelligence on Sun Ye, providing her name, workplace, and the timeline since she vanished. He gives the man a strict 5-minute deadline for full results before abruptly hanging up the phone. The man had safeguarded that special phone for 3 long years, yearning day and night for this very ring. At long last, the Grandmaster had reached out. As a proud smile spreads across his face, he quietly whispers, "Master," revealing he was Chen's disciple all along. Moments later, the disciple calls back right on cue, reporting that he has successfully pinned down Sun Ye's movements. She had driven away from the apartment building at 11:35 a.m. in a vehicle bearing license plate Jiang 180TS, heading straight for the Jiangcheng 5th People's Hospital. That exact car is currently sitting in the hospital's parking lot. According to the intel, her younger brother had been hospitalized, and just 15 minutes before she showed up, his health took a critical turn, requiring an urgent 700,000 yuan operation. In a desperate scramble for cash, Sun Yi reached out to 3 separate lenders. Her first stop was a local loan and mortgage agency. She even liquidated her car on the spot for a mere 50,000 yuan just to scrape together funds for the procedure. The disciple mentions that he has gathered even deeper details on the situation. However, Chen cuts him short, stating that he doesn't need to hear another word. He had already figured something went wrong, but knowing her exact location was all that truly mattered. Over at Jiangcheng 5th People's Hospital, a frantic Sun Yi has emptied out every last cent of her bank account to fund her brother's life-saving surgery. Even after selling her car for quick cash, she still falls short by 300,000 yuan for little Heyazi's medical bill. Utterly overwhelmed, she racks her brain trying to figure out how on earth she's going to cover the remaining balance. Her parents, Sun Yonggui and Jiang Yunlin, are equally helpless and drowning in panic. Her father admits the family has completely run out of funds, leaving them with no choice but to beg his wealthy second uncle for a loan. Her mother mentions she already placed the call, so he ought to pull up any second. As the wealthiest relative who has spent years treating them like dirt, the thought of begging him for a dime makes Sun Yi's stomach churn. Right on cue, her uncle struts into the corridor alongside his wife, both decked out in flashy designer outfits. Uncle Fu is visibly taken aback by how stunningly gorgeous his niece has become. It had been several years since their last meeting, and she had blossomed into an absolute beauty. Her father, Gui, lays out the desperate reality to his brother, pleading that they're completely trapped with nowhere else to turn. They beg him to save their boy's life, swearing to repay every single penny back over time. Unsurprisingly, Fu's reaction is far from the lifeline the family was praying for. He makes excuses about his business struggling and insists he doesn't have any spare cash lying around. He claims that had this occurred earlier, he might have chipped in, but right now his hands are tied. In truth, he's just terrified that if he lends them a cent, they'll never be able to pay him back. Yi desperately reminds her uncle that without this surgery, her little brother isn't going to survive. Right then, Uncle Fu's scheming wife, Dong Kaiju, nudges him and brings up the discussion they had with a high-profile guest the previous night. They had casually talked about setting up his boss's mentally challenged son with a bride, and now the perfect candidate is standing right before them. With Sun Yi's looks, marrying her off to his boss's dim-witted son would basically lock in his corporate promotion. Fu hadn't even considered that angle. Sure, the boss's heir has severe mental disabilities, but sacrificing Sun Yi would easily pave the way for his career advancement. The aunt turns to Sun Yi and casually asks if she's seeing anyone, to which she honestly replies no. Calling that fantastic news, the aunt puts on a fake sympathetic act, claiming their top priority is saving the boy and that she knows an easy way to get the cash. Desperate for any solution, Sun Yi asks what she means, prompting her aunt to finally drop the mask and lay out the deal. Kaiju explains that the wealthy heir of Hengsheng Group's chairman Li is looking for a wife, and by marrying into that fortune, her brother's medical bills will vanish and her family's future will be secured. Gui is horrified by the shameless proposal, realizing they are essentially trying to sell off his daughter. Her mother chimes in with tears, firmly refusing to ruin their daughter's life yet again. She points out that Sun Yi already gave up her education to support the household and has sacrificed far too much already. Yet the wicked aunt brushes it off, arguing that arranging a wealthy marriage isn't selling anyone. She claims that the final decision rests entirely on Sun Yi's shoulders. She maliciously guilt-trips them, highlighting that Hayazi is only 14 with his entire life ahead of him. She coldly asks if they really have the heart to just stand by and watch him die. She weaponizes every drop of emotional guilt, twisting the narrative to force Sun Yi into accepting the miserable arrangement. Gui breaks down over his utter helplessness as a provider. He's crushed by his inability to earn enough, forced to watch his daughter pay the price for his poverty. Her devastated parents weep, wondering if suffering is just their family's cursed destiny. Uncle Fu jumps in, insisting that tying the knot with wealth is a blessing in disguise. He gloats that they would never have to worry about cash for the rest of their lives. Suddenly, Chen's booming voice echoes down the hall, loudly demanding to know who's planning on selling anyone off. Striding straight up to his roommate, he calls her a silly girl and playfully scolds her for hiding her brother's critical condition from him. Sun Yi's parents freeze in sheer disbelief. Their daughter had never once brought up having a romantic partner. Chen steps right beside her, casually telling her parents that she was just too shy to introduce him. While Sun Yi turns bright red from embarrassment, Uncle Fu and his wife are furious at the sudden disruption. They snap back, reminding everyone that Yi explicitly denied having a partner, demanding to know where this fraud popped up from to play hero. Seeing the doubters refuse to buy the act, Chen turns to Sun Yi and taps his cheek, playfully asking for a kiss to shut up the clueless clowns. Knowing this troublemaker rushed all the way here just to save her from a nightmare, she decides to play along. Flustered as she is, she leans in and plants a soft kiss on his cheek, instantly wiping the smug doubts off her relatives' faces. Refusing to let his promotion slip away, her uncle pushes back, bringing up the astronomical cost of the surgery. He sneers that a massive medical bill like that isn't something just any random guy can afford. Chen scoffs, claiming 400,000 yuan is pocket change and that he already settled the bill on his way in. Naturally, they call his bluff and demand to see the official hospital payment receipt as proof. In truth, Chen had sprinted here in such a rush that he hadn't actually stopped by the billing counter. So he smoothly bluffs, claiming he handed the funds directly to Jiangcheng's most renowned physician, Dr. Yi. Kaiju scoffs that she's never heard of any Dr. Yi, mocking Chen and accusing him of making up a fake identity to look important. Chen inwardly chuckles, thinking this annoying aunt has the sharp nose of a detective since she almost called out his bluff. Just as the obnoxious couple creates a louder racket, the hospital staff rushes over to break up the disturbance. The chief physician handling the surgery happens to be Dr. Q, the exact same doctor who was attending to the Shen family patriarch. Fu immediately sucks up to him, hurrying forward to greet the esteemed doctor like an old friend. Yet the second Dr. Q catches sight of Chen, he forcefully shoves Uncle Fu out of the way and rushes to clasp Chen's hands in deep reverence. He bows respectfully, thanking the Grandmaster for enlightening his medical perspective during their last encounter. Watching such a legendary medical authority bow before a young nobody leaves every single person in the room with their jaws on the floor. Chen, however, has completely forgotten who the guy is and stands there wondering who this random doctor bowing to him might be. Chen asks if they've met before, leading Dr. Q to eagerly explain that he was present at Patriarch Shen's estate treating Heihua. The memory clicks, and Chen is mildly relieved to realize the man isn't just another con artist. He had originally written him off as a fake physician who only leeches off rich families. Fu interjects angrily, questioning how Dr. Q could treat this nobody like a miracle healer when he's clearly a penniless fraud. He assumes the doctor is merely extending professional politeness while this brat acts ungrateful. Dr. Q turns his gaze toward Fu and asks Chen who this annoying fellow is, to which Chen simply shrugs and calls him a loud nuisance. Hearing that, Dr. Q immediately summons hospital security to throw the loudmouth aunt and uncle out for disturbing patient care. With a sharp smirk, the doctor loudly suggests that the unruly couple might be carrying the rabies virus. And to prevent an outbreak, he orders them dragged into medical quarantine for good measure. Chen inwardly applauds the doctor's ruthless and petty way of dealing with annoying people. His medical expertise might be fairly basic, but his ability to humiliate trash is definitely top tier. Once the hallway clears, Sun Yu walks over to Chen and softly asks for his help. She promises that she will work tirelessly to repay every single cent of the surgery fee. Realizing that his idol is personally tied to the patient's family, Dr. Q gladly takes full personal charge of Hayazi's operation. Before heading into the operating room, he humbly asks the Grandmaster to evaluate his planned surgical procedure. Chen nods in approval, giving him a few foundational acupuncture techniques that could elevate his medical mastery to new heights. He jots down the ancient steps right there on the spot while they talk. Skimming through the notes, Dr. Q's trembling hands make it obvious that he's staring at a legendary medical treasure. The Grandmaster had casually penned down the mythical, long-lost Qi blood needle technique. Armed with this divine insight, the doctor knows his surgical skills are about to break through to a whole new level. Chen pulls out his bank card and asks for the remaining balance so he can settle the account immediately. Dr. Q adamantly refuses the card, assuring Chen that the hospital will cover every single expense on the house. Chen's sudden presence had completely flipped the entire crisis on its head. Sunya's parents are left staring in total shock, wondering what kind of powerhouse their daughter managed to bag. Later that night, as her parents get ready to head home, they quietly caution her that living together with a guy can bring plenty of complicated situations. Her father awkwardly adds that since they aren't officially married yet, she needs to stay safe and make sure things don't get out of hand. Sunya turns beet red with embarrassment and yells at her dad to stop talking utter nonsense. To make matters worse, Chen gives her a cheeky thumbs up, joking about how surprisingly modern and open-minded her father is. His playful teasing leaves her wishing the ground would just swallow her whole. She glares at him for eavesdropping, but he casually blames his superhuman hearing. Desperate to change the subject, she quickly suggests they head over to retrieve her mortgaged vehicle. Then she sighs, remembering she already signed the car away and will have to take time off work tomorrow to sort it out. Just as she despairs, Chen dangles her car keys right in front of her eyes, revealing the deal never went through. He winks and tells her that as her fake boyfriend, handling little messes like that is part of the job. That thoughtful gesture completely overwhelms her with emotion. Catching him completely off guard, she lunges forward and throws her arms around him. Gently holding her her close, Chen whispers that if anyone should be grateful, it's actually him. During the drive back to the metropolitan apartments, Sun Yi admits that one burning question has been on her mind. Why did he go to such extreme lengths just to help her? Was it simply because she allowed him to crash at her apartment? Chen just smiles mysteriously, telling her she'll discover the real answer by tomorrow and should look forward to the surprise. Suddenly shivering, Sun Yi mentions a sudden chill in the air, assuming the car's heater has stopped working. In truth, though, that sudden chill in the air is pure murderous intent, and he spots it in a heartbeat. He warns her to keep her doubts to herself and hang on to every single instruction he's about to give. Without even asking her to hit the brakes, he pushes the door open, ready to dive straight out of the moving vehicle. Right before leaping, though, he firmly commands her to floor the gas straight back to the flat the second he lands, warning her not to hit the brakes for anyone. The moment she gets inside, she needs to snatch his phone and duck into his bedroom. After that, her final task is to ring up the last dialed contact on his screen. Once connected, she has to tell whoever answers to dispatch their elite squad to the flat within 30 minutes flat. Should anyone barge in during that half-hour window, she shouldn't put up a fight at all and simply give herself up. Once he wraps things up on his end, he'll personally pull her out of trouble. This showdown belongs strictly to martial masters, way beyond anything a regular civilian can survive. Sticking by his side will only put a massive target on Sun Yi's back. Taking on Chen in a solo duel feels like suicide, so having personal backup makes total sense, which is precisely the enemy's game plan. Chen finds himself facing a duo, yet one of them radiates sheer danger and looks like he already has Chen completely mapped out. The Grandmaster points out that if his memory serves him right, this very guy had meddled during the Yunhu Villa chaos. He figures the guy showed up today just to tie up loose ends and shut him up permanently. The opposing martial artist, Yao Jinggu, mocks him as complete trash who isn't even worth getting his own hands dirty over. He simply orders his chauffeur, Huang Qing, to finish off the last surviving brat of the Yi family. The driver rushes forward swinging wild punches to crush him, but fails to connect even once before the Grandmaster counters with a solid strike to the jaw, putting him to sleep on the spot. His master, Yao, clearly hadn't pinned high hopes on his henchman anyway. The guy literally got folded in one shot. The real boss gives him some credit for the sheer progress he pulled off over those 5 dedicated years of training. He casually drops that 5 years back. He personally spearheaded the massacre of his family, and today he's finishing the job by ending him too. Yao's chauffeur was no pushover in combat, yet the supposed outcast of the Yi clan wiped the floor with him. Clearly, Chen is packing far more heat than he let on. When the Grandmaster asks where he's going with this, the villain straight up offers him a job as his new pet dog to fill the vacancy left by his driver. The Grandmaster just brushes him off, mocking how bloated his ego is despite having bottom-tier abilities. Chen states he's far from weak before venting an aura so suffocating that the foe is dead sure it belongs to a Grandmaster, even while struggling to believe someone this young could exist in all of China. After 40 grueling years of cultivation and burning through endless treasures, the old man hasn't even sniffed that pinnacle himself. Pure panic slowly begins clawing into the villain's mind. Catching his own fingers trembling infuriates him, as this wasn't how the script was supposed to go. He barks that Chen must have used some cursed shortcut to climb this high in only a few short years. He insists decades of experience can't be outmatched, though the Grandmaster finds the entire argument utterly hilarious. With tensions boiling over, their clash ignites as the veteran warrior locks horns with the young upstart. To everyone's shock, the elder actually lands a scratch on his hand, making Chen take a step back. Smirking smugly, the old man praises Chen for parrying his assault, though he warns that those delicate wrists won't hold out much longer. The Grandmaster freely admits he let his guard down slightly, causing those minor marks, but emphasizes that such petty scratches mean nothing. The second the words leave his mouth, blood begins trickling from the old man's eyes as he hacks up crimson. As it turns out, the previous exchange had shattered the villain's own finger completely. The Grandmaster can't help chuckling, remembering all that big talk about combat experience. Right then, a switch flips inside Chen, his rage exploding as he launches forward to avenge his fallen parents. Aiming for a devastating blow, Chen leaps high into the sky. Yet in the villain's eyes, being airborne leaves him wide open. Assuming the kid has zero room to dodge midair, the old martial artist channels every drop of his true chi directly into his palm. Confident of victory, he extends his razor-sharp nails several inches, aiming to slice Chen to ribbons. To his horror, when his claws slice through Chen's legs, he realizes he only shredded an afterimage woven from dark spiritual energy. This technique sits on a tier so divine that Yao's mortal brain can't even process what just happened. Before he can even react, Chen blindsides him completely, utterly tearing his defenses apart. The Grandmaster scoffs, declaring that a clown like him doesn't even deserve the title of a true master. Gripping the villain's skull, he demands straight answers to a few questions, hinting that he might just let him walk away alive. First on the list, He needs to know how Yao tracked him down and exactly how many others are aware of his survival. Desperate to stay alive, the broken fighter promises full cooperation while pleading for his life. Yet that smug little smirk and cheeky tone instantly tick Chen off, forcing him to remind the fool that he holds zero bargaining power. The elder confesses that recently, he caught wind of someone digging up Chen's profile from the dark web. Driven by curiosity, he dispatched his own agents to scour the same database, eventually pulling up photos and video clips. Matching those files against the late Yi Chen of the Yi family, his doubts surged, since the resemblance was practically identical. Since he prides himself on never leaving potential threats unchecked, he personally showed up to wipe him out. Besides, Master Dragon had decreed long ago that not a single member of the Yi bloodline should be left breathing. While the Grandmaster has never heard of this Master Dragon, he knows in his gut that this monster is the true architect behind his tragedy. Stamping his boot down on the old man's chest, he demands Dragon Master's location and true name. Yao gasps that a mortal like him has no right to even utter the Master's true identity. All he knows is that the entire ancient martial realm and the supreme clans in the capital bow their heads and address him solely as Dragon Master. When it comes to Chen still being alive, the elder hasn't had the chance to pass the message up the chain. He doesn't even hold the status to know his master's whereabouts, let alone the clearance to speak to him directly. Following this, Chen presses to find out why an almighty figure like that was so obsessed with slaughtering the Yi family at Cloud Lake Villa. The old man mutters that he vaguely recalls the Dragon Master hunting for a specific relic, and every single lead pointed straight to the Yi family. This clue instantly makes Chen question if the target was the mysterious stone his father handed down to him. He reasons that if anything in his lineage could draw the greed of a titan like that, it has to be the Samsara graveyard sealed within that stone. With his dying breaths, Yao cackles that his squad is already raiding his girl's apartment, daring Chen to finish him off if he wants her dead. Unfazed by the threat, the Grandmaster brings his heel down and crushes his skull without a second thought. Meanwhile, Yi reaches her fake boyfriend's new flat and sprints inside, creeped out by a menacing gaze locked onto her back. Bursting through the front door, she darts into Chen's quarters and dials out using his device. She explains the danger to the voice on the other end, Chen's right hand, man pleading with him to send his fiercest fighters to guard her within 30 minutes. Yao's goons have already staked out the Dadu apartments, masked in eerie crimson and black visors, ready to wipe you out. Their orders are simple: butcher anyone standing in their way, leaving zero witnesses alive. Having passed along Chen's urgent words to his subordinate, she starts second-guessing whether she just contacted law enforcement or someone else entirely. Still, cop or criminal, she couldn't care less as long as someone shows up to save her skin. The top investigator goes ballistic upon learning his master's inner circle is under threat right under his watch. He rallies his entire elite force on the spot, ordering an immediate march toward Jiangcheng. He roars that if a single scratch lands on that lady, none of them will keep their heads on their shoulders. Deciding to lead from the front, he commands his crew to prep the chopper immediately. A subordinate hesitates, reminding him that he's slated to host the crucial summit with the 6 ruling clans tomorrow. The entire balance of power across Jiangnan province is on the line. He shuts them down instantly, stating he won't attend, and if those families have an issue, they can come hunt him down at Qianlong Tower themselves. Back at the complex, Yao's hitmen breach the Dadu flat to execute Ye. Terrified out of her mind, she huddles in fear inside Chen's bedroom. Fortunately, the room is shielded thanks to a defensive barrier Chen had cast over the entrance. Yet the threat is far from over, as the squad pinpoints her hideout and gathers right outside the bedroom door. They taunt her to step out like a good girl, promising a quick and painless death. Another thug chimes in, arguing they should drag it out and torture her bit by bit. Their squad leader steps in, ordering everyone to scrap the kill order for now. Since Yao has gone completely dark, he suspects things went south and figures holding her hostage is far more valuable. That said, the captain gives them free rein to mess around with her, which is music to their ears. The creeps in the pack get totally hyped, drooling over the twisted perks. They resume battering the door, yet can't leave a single dent, even with their heaviest bruiser smashing into it. The squad leader detects dense chi radiating from the wood, and out of nowhere, the thug kicking the entrance watches his hand ignite with a spectral blue fire. In seconds, the blaze spreads violently, wrapping around his whole frame. Even with Chen miles away, Yao's hit squad is getting completely wrecked. The flaming thug screams bloody murder for backup before suffering an agonizing demise. The leader warns the crew that whatever spell is binding this frame, raw muscle isn't going to crack it. If they keep forcing their way through, the sinister ward will retaliate just as harshly, shutting them out completely. The brutal setback makes it crystal clear that their target is connected to someone terrifyingly powerful. Ditching brute strength, the commander whips out lockpicking gear instead. Inside the bedroom, Ye hears the chaotic shrieks outside and deduces someone just met a gruesome end. Unfortunately, the killers pop the lock and barge in, totally stunned by how drop-dead gorgeous she is. Creeping closer, one of the mercenaries sneers that her little stunt just cost one of their brothers his life. The boss sternly reminds them not to cross the line, insisting she needs to stay in one piece. Meanwhile, Yi replays Chen's instructions in her head. Stay breathing, don't resist, and simply surrender. With her life and dignity hanging by a thread, she clings to the hope that her roommate will burst through the door in time. Right on cue, the investigator's elite enforcers crash the party, making a lethal entrance by dropping the scumbag lunging at her. Because the takedown was lightning fast, the remaining hitmen freeze in pure disbelief. Yet before they can draw their weapons, more of their squad drop dead across the floor. Panic sweeps through the assassins as bodies hit the deck one after the other. Fearing for their skins, they can't fathom how they ended up crossing paths with the undisputed overlord of Jiangnan. He is widely regarded as the most terrifying powerhouse across the entire province. Word on the street is that provoking every elite clan in Jiangnan is safer than stepping on the toes of the underworld king. Realizing they're completely outmatched, the surviving goons throw down their arms. Too little, too late. The strike team had strict orders to neutralize every hostile, executing the squad then and there. Her saviors step forward, assuring you that they work for Chen and she's completely safe now. Meanwhile, at 3 in the morning, the Grandmaster drags Yao's mangled body toward Tiandin Mountain Cemetery, hauling the butcher straight to his parents' resting place as an offering of vengeance. Thrashing Yao senseless to drill in some respect, Chen demands he drop to his knees. The broken master sputters that a supreme warrior of his standing will never bow before a mere kid. He claims he'd prefer a swift execution over swallowing such sheer disgrace. The Grandmaster isn't having any of it, violently forcing him to bend and slamming his skull into the dirt. After bowing for barely a moment, the old man jerks his head back up, which thoroughly annoys Chen. Snatching him by the hair, the Grandmaster smashes his face into the grave soil over and over again. Once he feels the respect has been properly paid, he coldly announces it's time for the final sacrifice. What follows is nothing short of ruthless carnage. He butchers Yao, packing his remains as an offering for his parents, and declares this is merely the opening act. He vows to drag every single soul tied to the Yunhu Villa slaughter straight to hell to answer for their crimes. Later that morning, Yi visits Tiandin Mountain Cemetery to pay her respects to her fake boyfriend's parents. Her thoughts drift toward him as she walks among the quiet tombstones. Initially, she had written him off as just another con artist. Had he not shared an uncanny resemblance to her late classmate, she never would have brought him home. Yet to her amazement, when she arrives at the family plot, she finds him passed out by the tombstone, softly whispering for his mom and dad in his sleep. The puzzle finally clicks. He truly is Yi Chen, the boy presumed dead 5 years ago, and she kicks herself for not piecing it together sooner. Yi finally understands why he always stuck around, shielding her from danger and fixing every mess in her life. She scolds herself for being so blind, knowing only he would ever go to such lengths just to keep her safe. Thinking about the living hell he must have endured to transform into this man, she wraps her arms around him, whispering that he will never have to walk this lonely road again. Turning toward the gravestones, she tells his parents just how overjoyed she is to have Chen back in the world. She makes a heartfelt promise to look after him from now on, because no matter how strong he's become, he still needs someone in his corner to look out for him. Moments later, his eyes flutter open, and after asking what brought her here, he casually takes another swig from his bottle. She snatches at the bottle, telling him he's been drinking all night and insisting he head home with her right now. She claims his parents just entrusted her to keep him in line, so he needs to hit the shower and crash into bed. The bossy tone makes her sound just like a nagging wife, and Chen doesn't miss the chance to tease her about it. Instead of turning red like usual, she keeps a straight face, claiming his folks officially appointed her as their stand-in daughter-in-law until he ties the knot. Basking in the warmth of the moment, it hits him that maybe his parents cared more about seeing him truly happy than watching him drown in bloody vengeance. 3 hours later, a mysterious woman, presumably Yao Jinggu's disciple, arrives at the graveyard and discovers his butchered corpse. Plagued by bad omens and nightmares all night, she had followed her gut straight to this site. She is utterly horrified seeing the gruesome fate that befell her master. She can't comprehend what kind of monster could slaughter a grandmaster and offer his flesh as a sacrifice. Reading the carved inscriptions on the graves, the truth strikes her. This wasn't just a hit, it was personal payback. The recent demise of Zheng Guo and his heir from the Chen clan connects the final dots in her mind. Acting swiftly on this massive lead, she orders her syndicate to pull and analyze every surveillance feed around Tiandin Mountain without delay. All she cares about right now is figuring out who visited the Yi family graveyard today, particularly around the exact spot where she's standing. Meanwhile, back at the apartment, Chen is passed out in just his boxers while his fake girlfriend is asleep beside him in full pajamas. He slowly wakes up with a throbbing headache, instantly regretting how heavily he drank the night before. A sudden knock at the front door pulls her out of her sleep as well. Seeing her rub her eyes in his bed makes him blush a bit, but he quickly smirks and teases her, asking if she finally couldn't resist him. She snaps back instantly, reminding him that he was the drunk mess who wouldn't let go of her the entire night. She complains that she can still smell the booze radiating off him. Chen shrugs and asks what's the big deal about cuddling when she is technically his temporary wife anyway. She retorts that it's not about the rule, but he definitely shouldn't do it while completely wasted. Cutting the banter short, she orders him to answer the door while she goes to change into something decent. There's no way she's letting any guest catch her in sleepwear. He swings the door open only to find Jaeja waiting in the hallway. She brings up the dinner meeting arranged with her father, explaining that since his phone was unreachable, she had to drop by in person. Internally, though, she's completely rattled catching him standing there shirtless. After he gives her a time and address, 7 p.m. rolls around, and the Shen family heads toward number 14 Salem Lane for dinner. Neither the father nor daughter has ever heard of the spot, but their driver recognizes the address, looking noticeably awkward the moment it's brought up. The patriarch doesn't mind as long as the driver can get them there, and seeing the driver's hesitation, he assumes it must be some ultra-exclusive high-end venue that's well worth the expense for Yi Chen. Much to his surprise, the driver clarifies that it's actually just an obscure, run-down alley in the city. It's packed with shabby night stalls where people barely spend 30 when a meal. Definitely not the kind of place tycoons like Haehua and his daughter ever set foot in. Jaeja bursts into giggles at the thought of a man who commands hundreds of millions per consultation taking them out for cheap street food. She teases that he's being cheap, but her father defends him, arguing that true masters often have simple, eccentric tastes. When their luxury limousine pulls up in front of a tiny diner at number 14 Zilin Lane, the owners can hardly believe their eyes. The humble shop belongs to Wang and his wife. Chen had always loved their cooking, and they had recently relocated to this quiet spot. While the couple is still staring in awe at the luxury ride outside, their regular customer Chen walks in with his pretend girlfriend and tells them to whip up a feast for his guests. Wang wonders what kind of high-profile elite Chen has gotten involved with, but he keeps his mouth shut and minds his own business. Stepping out of the vehicle, Haehua takes a deep breath and remarks that the aroma in the air is exactly what he anticipated. His daughter, however, is baffled as to why he's getting so dramatic over standard Jin Tong barbecue smoke. The shopkeeper warmly ushers everyone inside, and before long, steaming hot dishes are served across their table. Despite her initial skepticism, Jaeja is completely blown away by how amazing the skewers taste, especially given how dirt cheap they are. The patriarch enjoys the cheap and tasty meal as well, though he points out that the location is far too isolated and cramped. The entire joint literally only has a single table set up. Knowing what this place needs most is steady foot traffic, he quietly orders his driver to have their PR team step in and handle marketing. He vows that even if they have to turn this entire alley into a buzzing food street, this specific shop must be packed full during rush hours. Wang and his wife are left utterly speechless seeing someone change their fortunes with just a casual sentence. Deep down, they know this massive favor is happening entirely because of Chen. Chen thanks Haehua on their behalf, but the old patriarch brushes it off, telling him there's no need for such formalities. The patriarch is fully aware that this gathering isn't just about sharing a casual meal. There is a much bigger motive behind this invitation. Acknowledging that Haehua is a busy corporate powerhouse, Chen decides to skip the small talk and cut straight to the chase. He looks him in the eye and asks what he knows about the Tianjin group. Though caught off guard by the question, the patriarch composes himself and begins explaining the background. 5 years back, Tianjin Group was the crown jewel of the Yi family, led single-handedly by Yi Tianjin. Everything came crashing down during the bloody massacre at Yunhu Villa, where the Yi family was wiped out. After the slaughter, the conglomerate's assets were carved up, leveraged, and completely repackaged, leaving virtually no clear trace of the original company. In short, the company's past identity was wiped clean off the map. Haehua finds himself puzzled as to why Grandmaster Chen is digging into the history of the Tianjin Group. Then the realization strikes him. His surname is Yi. It dawns on the old man that the surviving heir of the fallen Yi family never died. He has returned with unstoppable power. Seeing that Shen Haehua has connected the dots, Chen doesn't waste time explaining his identity and bluntly states that he's here to reclaim everything stolen from him. When Chen asks what became of his father's business, the old man explains that the 5-year-old partition involved a chaotic web of powerful factions. The main culprit behind the takeover is the King Group, spearheaded by its boss, Zheng Jingeming. That single name is etched into Chen's soul until his dying breath. Jingeming used to be his father's closest confidant, and Uncle Chen had trusted with his whole heart. Yet he was the very person who personally handed Chen's father the fatal invitation to Yunhu Villa. Even as his father was being murdered, that snake stood by smiling, bending over backward to kiss up to the elite from the capital. Noticing his intense anger flaring up, Yi gently reaches out to comfort him, but Chen calms himself and tells her he's fine. Realizing his savior lacks current intel, Heihua offers to mobilize his own network to gather every detail on the King group so they can team up and bring it down. Jiajia spots her father shaking and briefly thinks it's out of fear, only to realize he's shivering from pure excitement at the prospect of tying their fate to Chen. He's locking in a massive gamble right there on the spot. The Grandmaster echoes the Patriarch's earlier warning right back at him. Since the old man himself called this a dangerous quagmire, Chen asks if he isn't terrified of dragging his entire family into the line of fire. Heihua simply chuckles, replying that as a pure businessman, he always chases massive profit. He asks for just a 10% cut of the profits with zero actual control over the company. The moment Chen gives the green light, he's ready to mobilize everything immediately. As the director of Hyome Group, Yi sees right through the move, noting that Heihua isn't chasing cash. He's intentionally chaining his family's destiny to Chen. Accepting the proposition, Chen acknowledges his sincerity and agrees that having allies by his side will be beneficial. He promises that if the Shen family ever runs into danger, he will personally step in to protect them. The old man is thrilled by the prospect of expanding into new territory, knowing that pulling this off will launch his family into the stratosphere. As Chen and his girlfriend head out after dinner, he senses shadows trailing behind them, though he detects zero murderous intent. He realizes these are bodyguards dispatched by his disciple, the king, specifically assigned to guard Yi. During the ride home, Yi mentions that her snack stash is completely empty and she needs to grab more. She asks if he wants anything, and even after he turns it down, she buys extra anyway just in case he gets midnight cravings. Chen considers calling the king to thank him for the security detail, but decides a face-to-face meeting would be far better. He dials his student after all, but not to hand out compliments over a phone call. Knowing the king is currently in Jiangcheng, he orders him to set up a private rendezvous for 8 p.m. There are several urgent matters they need to settle. The king practically explodes with joy over the phone, thrilled that his master has finally agreed to grant him an audience. He arranges the meetup at his own elite venue, the Yu Hao Club. It's the perfect spot for confidential discussions. Private, secluded, and dead silent. The Grandmaster quietly wonders what moves this powerhouse has been making behind the scenes. It stands as the most prestigious VIP club in the entire city. Securing even a tiny piece of property in that district is an impossible fantasy for regular folks. Yet surprisingly, the whole place belongs entirely to Ling Tian. The king is the undisputed owner of the establishment. Elsewhere across town, Xu Ran is still deeply shaken by Yao's sudden demise. Her somber face makes it obvious that grief is eating away at her. Her father tries to comfort her, claiming it was nothing more than an unfortunate accident she shouldn't obsess over. She refuses to buy the accident excuse, especially after their family's investigation hit a complete dead end. They threw all their resources into uncovering the cause of death, but every single lead vanished into thin air at the crucial second. It feels as though a hidden hand is intentionally scrubbing every trail, and she has no idea who holds that kind of terrifying power. Her father tells her not to panic just yet. He reveals he has a meeting tonight with an official from the National Security Bureau, confident that government intel will crack the case wide open. Upon arriving at their destination, a club hostess halts the father-daughter pair at the entrance, asking for their VIP credentials. After presenting their exclusive pass to the guards, they are granted entry into the establishment. As a regular who knows the venue inside out, Xu Ran instantly senses an unusual atmosphere tonight. The hall is unusually packed with high-status power players and heavyweight elites. Her father gestures toward a hunchbacked elder, informing her that the man is Master Rudder, the true overseer running Yu Hao Club. Beneath that frail, bent posture lies a fearsome martial arts powerhouse of terrifying strength. His presence alone is why not a single soul in the city dares to cause trouble at this club. His daughter admits that one detail still doesn't add up to her. No matter how elite the club is, Master Chua's presence alone shouldn't be enough to make every single Jiangcheng family bend over backward to flatter them. Her father nods in agreement, knowing the true puppet master calling the shots in the shadows. The real force behind it all is the king of Jiangnan himself, Yi Lingshan. Hearing that legendary name for the very first time leaves Xu Ran completely stunned. While the Chu clan reigns supreme inside Jiangcheng, their power stops strictly at the city borders. The entire Jiangnan province bows beneath the absolute dominance of the king. He operates on a level way beyond their reach. Her father cuts the topic short, noting that their high-ranking guest from the bureau will arrive any minute and must receive top-tier hospitality. While her dad steps away to handle the VIP, she decides to take a walk through the venue to clear her head. Every time Xu Ran blinks, the gruesome sight of Yao Jinggu's lifeless corpse flashes across her mind. His actual death isn't what truly haunts her. What terrifies and obsesses her is the identity of the person who put him in the ground. His body was offered up as a sacrifice before the Yi family graves, leaving her wondering which survivor of the Yi bloodline is still breathing. Right at that very moment, she unexpectedly runs straight into Chen. She assumes that if this were the real Chen, he'd be begging on the streets as a beggar, so there's no way he could set foot inside an elite venue like this. Convinced he's just an uncanny lookalike of her former classmate, she decides to offer him some condescending pity disguised as charity. She walks up and greets him casually, but Chen plays totally dumb, coldly asking how he can help her as if she's a complete stranger. She claims she mistook him for an old school friend who brings back bittersweet memories. She goes on to mock that classmate, calling him a pathetic loser with a miserable background. She introduces herself and smugly extends her hand, offering him her business card with an invite to follow her into the club. Instead of taking it, Chen slaps her hand away in pure disgust. She stands there in utter shock, but Chen isn't finished humiliating her. He stomps right onto her fallen card, states that he doesn't give a damn about the Chu family, and tells her to get lost. Infuriated, she calls him an arrogant fool who has no idea what a golden opportunity he just threw away. Chen simply doubles down, ordering her to scram and warning that he won't repeat himself a third time. Losing her mind with rage, she swings to slap his face, screaming that no matter what backing he has, it pales before the Chu clan. Out of nowhere, Master Rudder intercepts her strike before turning to Chen to ask what brings him here. Mistakenly assuming the master is speaking to her, she eagerly introduces herself and showers him with fake flattery. Having zero patience for her, the master cuts her off and barks at her to get lost. He makes it clear that the Chu family means nothing to him, and slaps her with a lifetime ban from ever setting foot in Yu Hao Club again. Terrified, she apologizes and backs away, but glares at Chen on her way out, hissing that he just got lucky this time. A little while later, Chen is clearly running out of patience waiting for the king. The scheduled time has already passed, yet his disciple hasn't shown his face. The club master quickly intervenes, suggesting there might have been a minor delay and promising he'll arrive shortly. Chen coldly reminds him that he gave the king exactly 3 minutes. If he's a second late, he shouldn't bother showing up at all. Master Rudder is stunned to hear a young man talk about the Supreme King of Jiangnan with such casual disregard. He racks his brain trying to figure out what monstrous identity this young man holds. The only reason a proud martial artist like him is playing host here is out of pure loyalty to Ling Tian. Under normal circumstances, his massive ego would never allow him to serve another human being. Right on cue, the king rushes in, and Rudder immediately bows low to pay his respects. Though it's been an entire year since they last met, Rudder can instantly tell the king's monstrous aura hasn't faded one bit. Chen simply glares at his disciple and points out that he's 2 minutes late. Chen adds that if he had taken one more second, he would have walked out the door. Master Rudder tries to smooth things over for his master, explaining that the king of Jiangnan is weighed down by endless state affairs. Before Rudder can even finish his sentence, the king drops straight to his knees, frantically begging Chen to forgive his tardiness and calm his anger. Everyone in the room is frozen in sheer horror, especially the club master, whose brain completely short-circuits at the sight. The Supreme King of Jiangnan literally prostrated himself before saying a single word. When Chen demands an explanation, the king bows even lower, begging his lord for mercy, a title that sends shockwaves through Rudder and the guards as they realize Chen is the mythical palace lord himself. The king rules the supreme underground syndicate of Jiangnan, commanding all authority and setting the laws of the province as its most terrifying overlord. Yet only an elite few know that the supreme throne above the king has remained officially vacant all this time. Ling Tian has always maintained that he is merely a proxy ruler, and the true sovereign is the temple master. Master Rudder realizes the ultimate riddle has finally been unraveled before his very eyes. Without hesitating for a second, Rudder and the king's personal guard drop to their knees to pay absolute homage. Chen brushes off the grand title, ordering the king to remain inside while commanding everyone else to clear the room immediately. Obeying instantly, the king orders his men to secure the entrance outside. He warns them that no one must interrupt their discussion, and anyone foolish enough to try should be executed on the spot. Once the guards step outside, the king assures his master that absolute silence is guaranteed and no one will dare spy on them. Chen looks at him and demands to know why he keeps calling him master. Is all this loyalty simply because Chen saved his life back in Cloud Demon Valley years ago? Quite a bit of time had passed since that chaotic showdown at Cloud Demon Valley. Back then, a massive mob of martial artists ambushed the king and his sworn brothers, leaving them so brutally wounded that survival seemed practically impossible. However, upon finding out they hailed from Jiangnan province just like himself, Chen took pity on them and unleashed his master's formation talisman to wipe out their attackers. Having his life spared by such an overwhelming figure only deepened Ling Tian's absolute devotion and reverence toward the Grandmaster. Ling Tian clarifies that his decision to address Chen as his master actually traces back to an ancient medallion. Enclosed right in the center of it is the distinct image of a dragon. Chen glances at the medallion initially, completely unbothered and writing it off as nothing special. However, his composure slips the moment he spots the engraved figure of a young man who looks shockingly identical to himself. Suspicious, he directly demands to know who commissioned this piece and dared to put his likeness on it. The king quickly waves off the accusation, explaining that the relic is over a century old and existed well before Chen ever rescued him. Realizing the antique is completely authentic, the Grandmaster asks where he actually managed to obtain such a relic. His follower reveals it's a sacred family heirloom handed down by his great-grandfather, an unmatched physiognomy legend and the era's greatest feng shui master. His ancestor foresaw their bloodline completely vanishing in a century, so he defied fate using a forbidden heaven-defying technique to seek out a sovereign blessed with the purple Walong Qi. Ultimately, he sacrificed the final 2 decades of his lifespan to forge this token, gambling everything to alter his lineage's destiny. The great-grandfather passed down a single prophecy. The emperor depicted in the metal bears the surname Yi, and destiny would bring them together after 100 years. Should he fail to embrace this golden chance, he would forever carry the blame for the total annihilation of his clan. Chen internally scoffs at the absurdity, wondering what kind of self-proclaimed emperor anyone could even talk about in the modern world. Then again, his own master had previously mentioned that he bore a purple dragon destiny, which was the exact reason he was ordered to save Ziru Waxui. The mythical purple dragon possessed the raw power to disrupt the heavenly Tao and rewrite someone's fate entirely. Brimming with pride, the king boasts to his master about the formidable syndicate he has personally built and dominates across Jiangnan. While he currently can't challenge the capital's heavyweights, he vows to take over the capital down the line, eagerly offering his forces to help settle Chen's personal vendetta. Chen, predictably determined to slaughter his family's butchers with his own 2 hands, snaps back with intense fury. He issues a stern warning, making it clear that if the king dares to stick his nose into his vengeance, they will instantly become bitter enemies. Panicking over his misstep, the subordinate quickly backtracks, insisting he would never dream of crossing his master or drawing his wrath. Inwardly, he curses his own arrogance, knowing full well that a monster of the Grand Master's caliber would never require anyone's backup to claim blood for his clan. Cutting through the nonsense, Chen lays down 3 non-negotiable rules if the king truly wants him as his mentor. First, he is forbidden from meddling in Chen's daily life and cannot take a single action without an explicit command. Second, he must assign his most lethal operative to guard Chen's girlfriend and execute anyone who dares lay a finger on her. Lastly, he must exhaust all his resources tracking down the mysterious figure from the capital while unraveling the truth behind the Cloud Lake Villa tragedy. Because that whole affair is far darker than it looks on the surface. Without a second of hesitation, the king accepts every single demand laid down by his master. Wrapping things up, Chen states he has said his piece and will reach out whenever he requires his services. Just as the Grandmaster prepares to step out, Ling Tian interjects to deliver an urgent update. He explains that multiple factions have begun snooping into Chen's background, starting with the prominent Chu family. They managed to tap into the surveillance footage around Mount Tiandang and sift through the records regarding Yunhu Villa. Thankfully, Ling Tian pulled strings in the shadows to completely purge any trace of the Grandmaster's involvement. The second faction poking around is Jiangnan's Xia family, though their probing remains fairly shallow and uncoordinated. The third threat, completely beyond even the king's ability to intercept, involves the National Security Bureau alongside the elite Dragon Soul Commando unit. Chen immediately figures the Xia clan is simply hunting for his exclusive medicinal formula. As for the Chu family, Su Ran's earlier behavior proves they are still completely blind regarding his true identity. Yet there is no denying they are actively sniffing around his trail. The official government ties of the Security Bureau and the Dragon Soul Commandos, on the other hand, leave him genuinely puzzled as to why they're tailing him. The king urges his master to stay calm, promising to arrange Fall Guys to take the blame for the deaths of the Chen duo and Yao Jinggu. He points out that without hard proof, authorities wouldn't dare strike recklessly, though he still advises his master to remain cautious. The Grandmaster offers a brief nod of gratitude before taking his leave. On his walk back home, Chen continues to puzzle over why the Chu family is so obsessed with tracking him down. He deduces that they must have caught wind of his location, as no other explanation makes sense. Right on cue, he crosses paths with none other than Chu Shuran herself. Eager to settle her personal grudge, she arrogantly orders him to drop to his knees and beg for her forgiveness. She snidely claims that bowing down is the only way she might even think about sparing his life. Chen treats the entitled brat like thin air, utterly tuning out her obnoxious demands. Casually ignoring her, he mutters to himself about how he really ought to buy a car soon, thinking it would at least make getting around so much easier. Furious at being brushed off, she lunges at him with pure bloodlust. She attempts a sneak strike from behind, but Chen effortlessly slips past her attack without even glancing in her direction. In one fluid movement, he snatches her wrist and slams her straight into the pavement. A single effortless counter was all it took to shut down the entire confrontation. Even sprawled on the floor, she stubbornly shrieks that disrespecting her illustrious clan will carry a fatal price. She screams that the second he steps outside the Yu Hao Club, he's a dead man walking. Having zero patience for arrogant threats, Chen clamps his hand over her face and coldly promises to put an end to her life. Declaring that a foul-mouthed pest belongs in the trash, he hurls her head first into a nearby dumpster, calling it her rightful home. Utterly humiliated, she shrieks out curses from inside the trash, wishing the most agonizing death imaginable upon him. Leaving Su Ran in the garbage, Chen heads back to his place at the Dadu apartments. Riding the elevator up, he ponders over the fact that she wasn't involved in his parents' murder and carried no real blame for the massacre. According to his own memories, she had never shown up at Yunhu Villa back then. Still, he's certain the king hasn't caught on to their connection yet, because if he had, the Su family would have already been wiped off the map. Since it's already 1 in the morning and his roommate is sound asleep, he tiptoes straight to his bedroom to avoid waking her. Opening the door, he is startled to find a woman fast asleep under the covers of his bed. Assuming it's Sunya, who is usually quite reserved, he figures she crawled into his bed because she was terrified after all the chaos they recently survived. Not wanting to disturb her rest, he quietly slips under the blanket and lies down next to her. Come morning, he opens his eyes only to find Jia Ryuxu staring right back at him. And he isn't the only one completely caught off guard. Both of them instantly freeze up, completely panicked by the awkward situation. Stunned, he blurted out, demanding to know why on earth she is in his bed. Before she can even muster an explanation, Yi walks through the door and stops dead in her tracks. Yi is left utterly speechless, finding her best friend and boyfriend sharing a bed when Chen explicitly promised he wouldn't be coming home. Suspicious, she asks point blank if the two of them crossed the line while lying together. Chen mentally pieces together that by the time his meeting with Ling Tian ended, the night was practically over. Sunya had phoned him right around then, checking if he was returning home. Assuming she was losing sleep waiting up for him, he lied about staying out and told her to turn in early. Meanwhile, Ryuxu had gotten so thoroughly wasted the night before that her head is still pounding with a massive hangover. Otherwise, there is no way she wouldn't have realized a whole man was sleeping right beside her. Both scramble to reassure Ye that the whole mix-up was purely an innocent accident. It turns out Ryuxu's mother had unexpectedly stormed into Jiangcheng the day before, claiming a crisis struck the Xia family and ordering her home within 7 days. Going back would mean being forced into an arranged marriage with a man her mother picked out. Panicked, she bolted straight to her best friend's apartment, drowning her sorrows until she completely passed out. In her drunken stupor, she completely forgot Chen was living there and unwittingly collapsed onto his bed. Mortified by her own recklessness, she feels completely ruined, convinced her purity has been compromised. Acknowledging his own role in causing the chaos, Chen steps up and promises to take full responsibility. Internally, he honestly can't fathom why everyone is blowing such a trivial accident out of proportion. Still, since he technically held her through the night, he figures taking ownership is the honorable thing to do. Ryuxu is left utterly infuriated by Chen's casual claims of taking responsibility. She snaps, asking if he genuinely believes some random prescription he lucked into gives him the status to stand by her. Her point was that they belong to entirely different worlds, a sentiment Chen actually agrees with, though from a vastly superior perspective. Giving a dismissive response that matches her tone, he turns around and walks out. As soon as he clears the building, Shen Heihua calls him up, eager to brief his savior on some critical developments. The matter revolves entirely around the King group. The Shen family had their strategists draw up 2 comprehensive battle plans. Both approaches boast a 90% success rate, and he offers to forward the documents immediately if the Grandmaster wishes. Chen brushes the paperwork aside, reassuring him that his trust in him is absolute. All he cares to know is his specific role in the mission and what outcome they'll secure. The elder explains that he has a vital contract that Chen needs to somehow force Zhang Jingaming to sign. Furthermore, the Tianjin group currently operating as the King Group is gripped by a sinister syndicate called Kingmen, a criminal syndicate that must be utterly wiped out. The Grandmaster cuts him off gently, reiterating that he has full confidence in his judgment and requires no further explanations. The old man asks whether, if those 2 major hurdles are cleared, they can reclaim the Tianjin group within just 3 days. He explains that should Chen pull it off, His father's conglomerate will officially be back in their hands in under 72 hours. Hearing this timeline, the Grandmaster instructs him to dispatch the paperwork right away. He promises to have the signature secured before the night is over. Haehua is left marveling that if the Grandmaster actually pulls this off, his power truly exceeds anything he ever imagined. Shortly after, the Grandmaster arrives outside the towering King Group headquarters, gripping the contract in hand. Based on Ling Tian's intel, Zhang Jingeming is in the middle of a high-stakes meeting, and Chen is about to make him sing. The layout matches Ling Tian's detailed report down to the smallest detail. The high-rise boasts 33 stories, yet the public elevators only ascend as far as the 29th floor. Only 4 levels remain above, but accessing them requires an exclusive high-level security pass. Floors 29 through 31 serve as corporate fronts to stash personnel, while the 32nd floor houses Kingman thugs running black market deals. Zhang Jingeming himself is stationed all the way up on the 33rd floor. Reaching the summit demands unconventional tactics, and Chen's chosen method is blasting right through the reinforced glass using raw qi. While shattering it outright would be simpler, showering innocent pedestrians below with falling shards isn't an option. Instead, he chooses to channel his energy to vaporize the entire glass panel into thin air. Propelling himself upward on an aura of qi, he breaches the 32nd floor, immediately alerting the thugs inside with the sudden commotion. Just as they turn to investigate the noise, the Grandmaster steps out from the shadows. Facing the room full of enforcers, he calmly announces that his face is the absolute last thing they will ever see alive. The moment a thug dares to lunge forward, Chen slices him down with a single merciless strike. Ling Tian's dossier made it clear. These Kingman scumbags engage in drug trafficking, arms smuggling, kidnappings, and cold-blooded contract hits. Leaving scum like this breathing is a crime against humanity in itself. Up on the 33rd floor, Jingeming and a foreign associate are deep in negotiations when muffled chaos echoes from below. He shrugs it off, assuring his client it's likely just his boys bickering over a card game and nothing to fret about. After all, this entire level is locked down by elite Kingman commanders, each a hardened martial arts powerhouse. Brushing off the noise, they resume talks, with the foreign buyer claiming his nation approaches this alliance with total good faith. He requests the classified layout of Jingcheng Province's airport, promising that if Jingeming hands it over, he will manage all of Country M's lucrative trade operations at the port. Jingeming's subordinates flinch at the request, knowing full well that surrendering that map would severely jeopardize national defense. To put it plainly, that's high treason. Jingeming simply scoffs, arguing that their arms and narcotics trafficking already warrant hundreds of firing squads, so treason is just another drop in the bucket. The foreign broker sweetens the pot with one final incentive. He offers 10 units of advanced automated machinery, casually noting that a single unit commands 50 million on the open market. Jingeming rises with a greedy, ear-to-ear grin, boasting that given such overwhelming generosity, he would be a fool to turn it down. Having sealed the treasonous pact, both men reach out to shake hands and finalize the deal. Before their fingers can even touch, the adjacent wall detonates, and Chen strides through the smoking rubble with fury blazing in his eyes. He knew Jingeming was scum who would sell out his homeland for a quick payout, and every traitor in the room has forfeited their right to live. Executing them 1,000 times over wouldn't begin to atone for their crimes. Squinting through the dust, Jingeming recognizes the intruder as the surviving son of the Yi family. Yet his mind refuses to accept that the kid survived the brutal slaughter they inflicted on his household 5 years prior. Shocked that Chen breached the sanctum so easily, he screams for his security, only for Chen to coldly reply that the guards are asleep and won't ever be waking up. As Jingeming struggles to believe his elite guard fell to a kid, Chen pulls out the contract from his coat, slaps it onto the table, and demands his signature. The paperwork is an unconditional, full equity transfer agreement. Scanning the terms, Jingeming laughs maniacally, calling Chen an absolute lunatic for daring to demand full ownership of the King Group. Losing patience, the foreign associate barks an order for his personal bodyguard to gun Chen down on the spot. The mercenary whips out a heavy minigun and immediately unleashes a relentless barrage of lead. Unfazed, the Grandmaster casts an impenetrable chi barrier, halting every single bullet dead in the air. As the shield suspends the swarm of lead, Chen casually remarks that while he's seen plenty of modern firearms, he prefers not to use them, so he'll gladly return them to sender. With a flick of his wrist, he launches the entire storm of bullets right back, obliterating the bodyguard's face in an instant. Jingeming's elite martial artists rush in, barking that his flashy shield was nothing more than a parlor trick. The Grandmaster senses their half-step Grandmaster power, a level considered top tier across Jiangcheng. Unfortunately for them, stacked against his godlike power, their strength is like an ant before an elephant. Terror grips Jingeming as his last line of defense crumbles, leaving him completely defenseless. The horrific reality dawns on him that he's facing a true Grandmaster, though his mind breaks trying to fathom how a mere kid could achieve such godhood. Seeing the carnage, the foreign businessman decides it's time to bail, politely telling Jingaming to settle his affairs while he makes a quiet exit. The Grandmaster has zero intention of letting a traitorous foreigner walk away, planting a single devastating kick straight through the man's chest and ending his life on the spot. Now that it's just the two of them in the room, Chen drops an unconditional share transfer agreement in front of Jingaming and tells him to sign it. Having watched everyone else get slaughtered right before his eyes, the traitor is shaking in his boots and signs on the dotted line, desperately hoping it will save his skin. He hands over the signed papers, only for the Grandmaster to casually drop a bombshell. His life has officially expired. Those blunt words hit Jingaming like a truck, leaving him completely frozen. Scared out of his mind, he stammers that the King group answers to Kingmen, warning Chen that touching him will unleash absolute hell upon him. Chen just chuckles at the empty threat and admits he initially only wanted to take down the King group, but he's decided to upgrade his targets. He plainly states that tonight, the entire Kingman faction will be wiped off the map. Dropping that grim promise, he asks his terrified rival if he wants to squeeze in any last words. Chen's sheer cockiness finally gets under Jingaming's skin. He tries to intimidate him by bringing up the fearsome master leading the Kingman sect. He snaps that killing him won't just end Chen's life, but his entire family will be hunted down and slaughtered for it. Chen coldly reminds him that his entire family was already murdered 5 years ago. They took their final breaths at Yunhu Villa. Jingaming had his doubts all along, but hearing that confirms his opponent's true, terrifying background. Panicking over the fact that a Yi family survivor is standing in front of him, Jingaming frantically babbles that this is all a massive misunderstanding, swearing he used to be his father's closest brother. Chen isn't buying a single word of his lies and shuts him up with a vicious knee straight to the face. The exact moment the Grandmaster dreamed of for years is finally playing out before him. One of the key architects of his family's massacre and his years of agony is now crawling at his feet, pleading for life. The sight pulls a dark laugh out of him, but beneath that chuckle, a burning inferno of dormant fury is reignited. He boots him hard in the gut, demanding to know why he should show any mercy when Jingaming didn't spare a single member of the Yi family. He unleashes a relentless barrage of punches to his face, demanding with every strike to know what his parents ever did to earn such betrayal and death. Jingaming stripped away his entire world, leaving him with no choice but to walk the path of bloodshed. Had none of this happened, he would have lived an ordinary, hardworking life just like anyone else. Back in the day, he couldn't even stomach watching a chicken get slaughtered, but today, pure vengeance fuels every single breath he takes. He vows to hunt down and butcher every single scumbag tied to the Yunhu Villa tragedy until the ledger is completely cleared. Luckily, the king of Jiangnan was thoughtful enough to handle the tedious aftermath for him. He had dispatched cleanup crews to erase all evidence from the scene and even arranged a fresh set of clothes for him. With that taken care of, it was time to move on to his next objective: crushing Kingmen. As soon as he sets foot in Jiangcheng, he immediately crosses paths with that familiar female officer. Her name is Officer Bailey Bing. She asks what brings him to town, so he simply throws the exact question right back at her. She brushes it off, claiming she's running a classified operation and can't spill any details. Chen gives her a taste of her own medicine, saying he isn't obligated to explain himself either. Out of nowhere, a massive explosion rips through an adjacent building, sending giant chunks of concrete and shrapnel flying through the air. To make matters worse, they happen to be standing right underneath it, putting them in the direct blast zone of falling boulders. Seeing a massive slab dropping right over her head, Officer Bing freezes, knowing it's too late to dodge. But Chen swoops in at the absolute last second to pull her out of harm's way. Once the dust settles, he checks if she's hurt, and she breathes a sigh of relief, thanking him for the rescue. Chen had reacted on pure reflex, knowing deep down that this blast and her sudden peril were indirectly tied to his own actions. Glancing up at the smoke, he instantly figures out that someone is wiping out evidence by detonating the entire floor. Blowing up entire crime scenes is classic cleaner protocol. Right on cue, several Kingman martial artists rush past, and Officer Bing instantly spots their distinct group tattoos. She instantly suspects that these goons are the ones responsible for the blast. She had already been running a deep investigation into Kingmen lately. In her eyes, their entire syndicate and corrupt influence were nothing short of a cancerous plague on the city. Yet, the authorities have been completely tied up due to a total lack of hard proof. Now that she finally has a hot lead, she tells Chen she has urgent business to handle and makes her move. Meanwhile, Chen is equally eager to speed up his own agenda. Tailing the thugs, the officer watches them sneak into a secluded facility that looks like an underground base. They had picked a rundown, abandoned factory as their hideout to stay off the radar. She feels certain that securing just one solid piece of evidence will be enough to call in the cavalry and raid the place. She sneaks up onto the factory roof and peers through the glass ceiling, observing the workers below. She quickly realizes she's cut off with zero cell service, and while a mysterious crate catches her eye, she has no idea what's inside. Snapping photos of whatever is inside that crate would serve as ironclad proof to shut them down. Down below, the Kingman lackeys grovel before their boss, Grandmaster Rudder, swearing they have no clue how the building blew up. The boss is furious that an entire squad was sent out, only for these two pathetic survivors to come back empty-handed. To make things even more pathetic, the idiots didn't even notice they had a tail. As it turns out, Rudder had clocked Officer Bing watching them from above the entire time. She is stunned to discover that this brute is actually an ancient martial arts master. Realizing his strength is leagues above hers, she decides running away is her only option. Before she can even take a step, he closes the distance in a flash, grabs her, and slams her violently onto the floor. After rocking her with a heavy blow, he lifts her up by the collar, only to realize he caught a gorgeous woman he can mess around with. She warns him that she's a cop, and her squad already has this location pinpointed and is en route. She makes it clear that if he lays a finger on her, his entire gang will be wiped out. The brute couldn't care less, bragging that his criminal record is so dark that a firing squad couldn't even balance his debts. His mind is completely focused on taking advantage of her right then and there. Even though dread is crawling down her spine, she keeps her composure. She drops her ultimate trump card. Her father is Commander Bailey Xing of the Southwest Military Region. She snaps that if anything happens to her, dying 1,000,000 times over won't be enough to spare Kingman from absolute annihilation. Turns out, the musclehead actually has half a brain. He immediately recognizes her father's name as a legendary top brass military figure, a man so influential that even the elite families in the capital tread carefully around him. Still, he can't wrap his head around why the daughter of such a heavyweight is running around playing street cop. Even after knowing her pedigree, the thug brushes it off, saying he'll deal with the fallout after he's had his fun. She silently kicks herself for charging in without backup. She would rather die on the spot than let these creeps lay a hand on her. Right on time, a figure perched atop nearby shipping containers calls out, telling the beefcake that if the lady isn't interested, he shouldn't be forcing himself on her. The goon barks back, demanding to know who has the guts to trespass on Kingman turf. Stepping into the light, Chen sarcastically apologizes, adding that he didn't want his trip to Kingman to be a waste of time. His only goal here is to wipe out every single soul in Kingman. The whole gang just bursts out laughing, treating his threat like a bad joke. The leader brags that he has some of Kingman's deadliest fighters backing him up. He claims not even a certified grandmaster would dare utter such nonsense. He orders his goons to turn him into minced meat, and a hail of gunfire erupts immediately. Chen casually weaves through the bullets with blinding speed, using his chi to knock every shooter flat on their backs. While the others are paralyzed with fear, one cocky gunman steps up, dismissing the feat as basic internal strength parlor tricks. He mocks Chen for having the suicidal guts to walk into Kingman's stronghold all by himself. Too bad for him, he's way too slow to land a hit and gets obliterated with a single punch. Petrified by his overwhelming power, the remaining thugs scream and label him a monster. Watching up close, Officer Bing realizes with horror that every single strike he throws is designed purely to kill. He fights like a ruthless machine, wasting zero motion. She had no clue such a monstrous presence even existed in Jiangcheng. Rudder acknowledges that Jiangcheng does indeed hide a few formidable fighters like him. Seeing that Chen has mastered peak internal strength, Rudder decides he'll take the pleasure of ending him personally. Pumping his iron-like muscles, he arrogantly claims his body is completely invulnerable to pain. He generously adds that if Chen drops to his knees and begs, he might just spare him and recruit him into the gang. Before the sentence even leaves his mouth, the Grandmaster counters with a brutal strike, dislocating his jaw in an instant. That single blow is a wake-up call to Chen's lethal power, but the thug resolves to take Chen down with him even if it costs his life. Chen doesn't give him the chance and connects with another devastating technique, the explosive liver strike. That devastating blow shatters his spirit, leaving the beefcake begging to make a deal and swearing total obedience. Unmoved, the Grandmaster shows zero mercy and cleanly cuts him down with a final strike. Officer Bing watches the whole spectacle in disbelief as one single man tears the entire Kingman faction apart. When Chen turns around and walks toward her, fear grips her entirely. He grabs her legs to tend to her severe thigh injuries, but she immediately assumes the worst and thinks he's trying to assault her. He bluntly tells her that her bones are dislocated with multiple fractures, warning that struggling now will cripple her for life. She is stunned to realize he is genuinely treating her, and a soothing warmth washes over her as his chi gently circulates through her body. Once she's back on her feet, she genuinely thanks him for the treatment. She remarks that if he ever took up medicine, he'd be an absolute world-renowned doctor. Chen shrugs it off, saying medicine isn't his style, and tells her to start digging through the Kingman members' phones. He points out that all the solid evidence she needs should be right there. As he turns to leave, she asks where he's headed, to which he replies that there are still a few leftover pests to exterminate. By tomorrow morning, Kingman will be completely erased from Jiangcheng. He has fully resolved to finish them all in a single night. A short while later, Officer Bing returns to the abandoned factory with her squad to process the scene. She shows her team the massacre, including the corpse of their grandmaster. Rudder's frozen face still wears the horror of whatever nightmare he witnessed before dying. Realizing Kingman has been turned into a slaughterhouse and things in the city are spiraling out of control, she calls her brother to report. She tells her brother that Yi Chen wiped out Kingmen along with their ancient martial arts master, forwarding the security footage as proof. She also mentions that this very same man was the one who pulled her out of danger. Her brother declares he's heading to Jiangcheng right away, strictly ordering her to cut all contact with Chen. He warns her that Chen is a walking hazard of the highest order. She tries to talk him out of it since he has his own duties, but he considers this dangerous anomaly far more urgent. He wants to see for himself what kind of monster he's dealing with. Elsewhere, Chen is genuinely annoyed because all this constant killing is burning a serious hole in his clothing budget. All the blood and grime ruin his shirts, forcing him to go shopping over and over again. Walking past a cafe, he notices Xia Ryuxu sitting with an older woman, likely her mother, and silently reflects on how cushy the rich life is. Not wanting any unnecessary drama, he decides to keep moving, but she spots him before he can slip away. She tells her mother to wait a moment and bolts straight after him. Catching up, she asks why he's in such a rush, while Chen casually plays dumb and claims he didn't even notice her. She brings up that they never settled things after their night together, so he owes her a favor right now to make it even. A bit embarrassed, Chen clarifies that she was the one who crashed into his bed, not the other way around. Her mother steps out of the cafe and sternly asks who on earth this guy is. Ryuxu puts on an embarrassed act, nervously asking her mom why she stepped outside. She feigns that it's too awkward for her to explain right now. Her mother gets deeply irritated, knowing any scandal could bring ruin to their prestigious family reputation. If her fiancé ever caught wind of an affair, the entire Xia family would pay a catastrophic price. Intimidated by her mother's sharp warning, Ryuxu doesn't dare talk back. Her mother orders her to pack up and return to the main Xia family residence immediately. She declares that the family is seizing control of her Hyome group, and she will be locked inside the estate indefinitely. Ryuxu pleads that she shouldn't be treated like a mere political bargaining chip, reminding her mother that she's a human being. Her mother instantly cuts her down, asking if she dares defy her father's orders, leaving her trembling in terror. She whispers an apology to Chen and starts walking toward her mother, but Chen suddenly grabs her wrist and pulls her right back to his side. He boldly looks her mother in the eye and claims Ryuxu can't go anywhere because she's carrying his child, and he's stepping up to take full responsibility. Ryuxu is stunned by his outrageous bluff, but playing along to sell the act, she feigns panic and asks him what they should do about last night. Chen stays in character, teasingly calling her out for pretending she didn't know her own condition. She takes it a step further, placing a hand on her belly and dramatically claiming the baby just kicked. Chen mentally facepalms, realizing she is taking this drama way too far. While he usually finds Ryuxu annoying, she did ask for his help, and he isn't the type to abandon someone in need. More importantly, when she agreed to return home earlier, an ominous bloody glow had flickered across her forehead. His master had strictly ordered him to guard Xia Ryuxu with his life. In fact, that was the entire reason he came to Jiangcheng in the first place. His master warned that if she ever steps foot back in the Xia household, that bloody omen will flare up and claim her life. Her mother demands to know if this nonsense is true, and Ryuxu doubles down, swearing every word of it is real. She adds that if her arranged suitor finds out she isn't pure anymore, he will definitely call off the marriage. Her mother's blood boils at the shocking confession. Livid that her prized daughter was supposedly tainted by a nobody, she glares at Chen and calls him a disgusting piece of trash. She grabs Ryuxu's arm in an iron grip, demanding she march back to the Xia residence. She swears she'll have a doctor perform an abortion the moment they get home. Ryuxu refuses to go, but her mother snaps back that this is an absolute command, not a discussion. That's when Chen steps in, calmly peeling her hand off her daughter's arm. She glares daggers at him, spitting that a peasant like him isn't worthy to breathe the same air as her daughter. She sneers that the Xia family stands on a pedestal so high, he doesn't even possess the right to look up at them. That final insult crosses the line, sending Chen's dormant chi erupting outward in a suffocating wave of pressure. After flexing that crushing display of power, he pulls his aura back and settles down. He tells her plainly that he knows nothing about the Chu or Xia families, nor does he give a damn about them. He adds that if she gives him just 6 months, he will teach both families what unattainable really means. He takes Ryuxu by the hand and walks away, leaving her mother standing there in shock. The moment they're out of sight, she pulls out her phone to order a full background check on him. Once they're alone, Ryuxu apologizes to Chen for her mother's vile attitude and hurtful words. She sighs that her mother only ever cares about her own selfish gains. Deep down, she really isn't heartless, and the last thing she wants is for him to get dragged into a mess because of her. He just brushes it off casually, telling her to stop overthinking the whole situation. Saving her wasn't purely a personal favor to begin with. At the end of the day, his master was the one who assigned him this mission, though he obviously keeps that secret to himself. Now that he's come to her rescue, she can't help but realize just how good-looking he is, and his confident swagger is definitely making her look at him in a whole new light. Right as they're walking along, he randomly flags down a cab, gives her a quick wave, and takes off. The Jia family boasts a century-long legacy, and since Yi Chen clearly underestimates their true terrifying power, she knows she can't let him get tangled up and injured. Shaking off the worry, she decides to clear her head and deal with whatever immediate problem is right in front of her. Back in the cab, Chen sits pondering his strategy against rival factions, realizing that raw solo power won't be enough on its own. While he already has Yi Lingshan backing him up, the king of Jiangnan is built for covert ops, leaving Chen in desperate need of an organization that can command respect out in the open. He tells the driver to change course immediately, redirecting the cab toward Shen Heihua's residence in the Longyu Bay Villa district. The head of the Shen family is totally caught off guard by the unexpected visit and immediately asks if something went wrong. The young grandmaster passes him the signed property transfer agreement, and the moment the old man opens the envelope and reads it, he's terrified by how effortlessly and fast Chen managed to seal the deal. He suspects Chen might have taken out Zheng Jingming despite the guy being shielded by Kingman's master, but pulling it off in reality is still mind-blowing. Just as the old man is reeling from shock, the Grandmaster casually drops the bomb that he completely wiped out all of Kingmen the previous night. Heihua quickly reassures him, swearing on his life that he will restore the Tianjin group to its absolute peak. Following that promise, the Grandmaster shifts the topic, asking what his honest take is on Jiangnan's prominent Xia family. The elder explains that the Xia clan is an absolute colossus in the Jiangnan region. Their wealth and resources are astronomical, putting the King group to total shame by comparison. Heihua's face is drenched in anxiety as he speaks, prompting Chen to calm him down, claiming it was just an offhand curiosity. Right after that, though, he hits him with an even wilder question. What if Heihua was handed an unstoppable blade? Would he have what it takes to bring all of China under his control? He asks this with a deadpan expression, which makes the old man's blood run cold. The veteran immediately recognizes the symbolic weight behind that sword. It represented the true might of the Tianjin group. Being completely transparent, he points out that his organization currently operates at a far higher caliber. The Grandmaster cuts in, suggesting they break things down into a much simpler target. He asks if Heihua could use the Tianjin group to completely devour the Shi family in just 6 months, provided he gives him backed-up muscle that mirrors Kingman, only 100 times more formidable. The elder answers that if the Grandmaster isn't joking, then he's fully ready to stake everything on it too. Still, he notes that sheer underground force won't cut it without powerful official backing, not to mention his advanced age leaves him with very little time left. Right on cue, Chen thinks back to Officer Bailey Bing. Her father commands massive political sway, making him the perfect candidate to handle that official side of things. He looks at the head of the Shen family and assures him that the public and legal backing is already taken care of. And when it comes to the old man's declining years, that's child's play to fix. He pulls out a miraculous pill capable of adding 50 full years to his lifespan. Whether it's just 5 extra years or 50, having your life extended is something countless powerful figures would die for. Even though it sounds completely insane, the elder is convinced that if anyone on Earth could pull off such a miracle, it's his young benefactor. With that, the old man clasps Chen's hands and swears that if this is his master's command, he will forge the Tianjin group into an untouchable titan. Trusting the elder with the mission, the Grandmaster takes his leave, mentioning that they'll rendezvous in 3 days. Standing there alone, the old man knows one thing for sure. His entire fate is turning around, and this savior is the one holding the pen. A bit later, Chen gets back home only to discover Sun Ye chilling alongside Ryuxu. He bluntly questions her presence, already knowing full well she couldn't stay in her villa alone and came over to crash at his and Ye's place for free. Sun Ye immediately jumps in to correct him, snapping that this is her apartment, not theirs. Ryuxu then clarifies that the Xia family seized control of the Hyome group, and since her luxury villa is tied to the family, she's locked out of staying there. On top of that, all her bank accounts have been frozen, leaving her no choice but to come crash here broke. Chen's main concern, however, is the sleeping arrangement, because there's no way he's cramming into the same bed with her again. Ryuksu shoots back immediately, telling him she has no intention of exploiting him and that he seriously needs to stop flattering himself. Ye steps in once more to diffuse the drama, clarifying that she and Ryuksu will simply share a room. Even so, he keeps poking at her, teasing that she's leeching off others for free food, even if he's basically doing the exact same thing. Ryuksu insists that she has no desire to freeload off anyone. The only hurdle is that she's currently unemployed, and she'd actually love to work for his company if given the chance. To her shock, he casually says yes, making her second guess if this guy is secretly some undercover billionaire tycoon. After all, he did casually produce that insanely priceless medicinal formula earlier. Ryuksu asserts that she's never worked under anyone in her career, but if they partner up, she guarantees his enterprise will skyrocket. The only condition is that he has to officially hire her first, because in reality, giving her a job means the Zia family will instantly target his venture for ruthless sabotage. She plays it cool with her words, even though her nervous face betrays how much she actually wants the job. When he gives her the exact green light she was hoping for, she lights up with excitement and immediately demands details about his corporate setup. Hearing her question, he just chuckles and admits that nothing about the company's industry or its departments has actually been decided yet, though he promises it'll all be sorted out shortly. She mentally curses her own stupidity for actually buying into his hype. It now looks like he was just bluffing with false bravado when he gave her mother that bold 6-month ultimatum. Realizing how painfully naive he is about the real world, she reflects on how flat-out impossible it is to beat the Zia dynasty financially. The true powerhouse conglomerates of China all pull their strings in complete secrecy. Meanwhile, over at the Zia mansion, Ryuksu's mother checks in on her daughter's status and is told that medical exams confirm she definitely isn't pregnant. However, she learns that her daughter recently got drunk and crashed at a friend's place, where a guy was living under the same roof as Sunya. His name is Yi Chen, and there is a very real chance something happened between them. Ryuksu's mother hurls her wine glass in pure fury, declaring that if that punk laid a finger on her daughter, death is the only sentence he deserves. Her informants reveal that his background is completely bizarre and elusive. There is virtually zero paper trail or actionable intel on the guy. It's literally as if he manifested into the city out of thin air. The spy suggests that Chen could be the surviving young heir of the Yi family, who somehow lived through the Yunhu Villa massacre 5 years back. She vividly recalls how catastrophic that event was, even if it took place all the way in Jiangcheng. The shockwaves from that bloodbath rattled the entire Jiangnan province. In her eyes, the Yi family paid the price for crossing elite powerhouses from the capital, which makes her smirk at the idea that this boy refuses to accept his clan's extinction. She figures he wants to marry into the Zia dynasty, leverage their absolute influence, and use that platform to avenge his slaughtered parents. She actually finds his desperate revenge scheme quite amusing. Her assistant chimes in, pointing out that if he was truly desperate, he wouldn't boldly demand a 6-month deadline unless he had serious firepower backing him up. She's actually entertained by the challenge, willing to let the 6-month wager play out just to see how this kid plans to bring the Zia family to their knees. Back at the Dadu apartment, Chen sits in silence, realizing that having more roommates is going to turn his peaceful routine into pure chaos. Simple things like hopping in the shower or using the restroom could easily lead to an awkward disaster. Putting those domestic headaches aside, he shifts his focus back onto his grand corporate strategy. Looking at Shen Heihua's terms, he calculates that Yi Lingshen's underworld muscle should be plenty of firepower. Calling the product lucrative is an understatement, because the secret medicinal formula alone is a goldmine. The real missing piece is strong backing from high-ranking government officials. He doesn't have a close bond with Bailey Bing yet, meaning she might just turn down his request for aid. Yi Lingshen might need to step in and pull some strings on that front. Suddenly, Chen senses hostile eyes locked onto him from afar, but he doesn't flinch for a second. Rather than acting like easy prey, he decides to instantly flip the script and become the hunter. As it happens, the sniper scoping him out is none other than Officer Bailey Bing's older brother. And so far, he's totally unimpressed by anything Chen has shown. He's fully convinced that his naive sister got totally scammed by this kid. His sister claimed Chen was an elite ancient martial artist, but he remains skeptical until he dials in with his binoculars for a closer look. Suddenly, his jaw drops when Chen vanishes into thin air right before his eyes. The very next second, Chen is already flying straight at his face. Chen scales an 80-meter skyscraper in just a matter of seconds, forcing the operative to admit the guy is the real deal. A clash erupts immediately, but Bing's brother gets completely blown away by a single blow from Chen. The Grandmaster's sheer power is so monstrous it nearly shatters his right arm, making it impossible to trade direct blows. All he can do is desperately deflect and weave out of the way. Seeing his target constantly evading his fists, Chen drops a devastating, undodgeable axe kick. The strike shatters the concrete beneath them, but once the dust settles, Chen spots that his opponent somehow scrambled clear. While Chen gives him credit for dodging the blow, the operative knows deep down he stands zero chance of winning. There's another reason Chen is so completely in control. He had effortlessly deployed an invisible energy barrier around himself. Bing's brother suddenly realizes that all their intelligence on Chen was totally bogus. Chen isn't some mere ancient martial artist at all. He is unequivocally a true spiritual cultivator. No wonder his raw power is on an entirely different dimension. He was effortlessly crushing high-level ancient martial artists like bugs. Bing's brother thinks to himself that his little sister is far too inexperienced to spot the difference. The young man standing before him isn't practicing physical martial arts. He's mastering immortal arts. What terrifies him even more is the legendary rumor that high-tier cultivators leave ancient warriors completely in the dust. Before he can finish his thought, the young cultivator plants a brutal kick into his gut, launching him dozens of meters into a solid wall. Nursing his battered body, Bing's brother pleads for mercy, swearing he bears zero malice and only wanted to test his strength. He adds that he genuinely just came to have a serious conversation. Chen pins him down so hard he can't even twitch, interrogating him on his true identity and why he was spying from the shadows. Bing's brother explains that he had no hit out on him and that there's no bad blood between them. To back up his claims, he hands over an official credential booklet containing his full military dossier. His real identity is Ying Qing, the elite captain of the legendary Dragon Soul Unit. Just as he thinks dropping his title will save him, the Grandmaster coldly replies that he's never even heard of such a squad. Regardless of his title, Chen caught him snooping, and that means he has to pay a steep price. Terrified of a fate worse than death, Ying Qing frantically yells that they share a mutual friend. He drops the name Bailey Bing. The Grandmaster barely bats an eye at the revelation. He simply demands to know how they're connected. Ying Qing explains he's her biological older brother, and he came out of curiosity to scout and recruit him after hearing his sister rave about him. He just wanted to gauge his real power, swearing he had zero intention of causing any harm. Chen is still furious about having his personal sanctuary violated by a snoop. Channeling pure mystical energy through his fist, Chen warns that if he wanted to invite him, he should have walked up to the front door like a man. Creeping around in the dark was a massive mistake. The Dragon Soul Captain bows his head in sincere apology, begging for his life. Pledging the honor of the Dragon Soul Unit, he promises Chen a major favor, offering government influence whenever Chen needs backing. Chen mulls it over and realizes that for Tianjin Group to truly expand, high-tier official authority is a must. While Officer Bing was originally his go-to option, her brother is actually far better connected for the job. Still wanting all the facts straight, the Grandmaster asks where Dragon Soul ranks in the nation's hierarchy. Ying Qing explains that Dragon Soul is the third-ranked special division in the nation tasked with combating supernatural threats. Authority-wise, they answer solely to their supreme commander. Bureaucratic bosses barely hold any sway over their operations. Since they're only ranked third, the Grandmaster deduces there must be two even deadlier squads above them. After a brief pause, Chen agrees to let him walk on the condition that his unit forms an official alliance with a specific firm in Jiangcheng. The captain hesitates, cringing at the thought of the elite Dragon Soul acting as a private bodyguard shield for some small-town company. Even if he keeps quiet, doing so feels insanely humiliating for their elite reputation. It's basically like using a nuclear missile to swat a mosquito. He pieces together that Chen is referring to his father's Tianjin Group, and Chen confirms his guess. Bing's brother admits he doesn't have the final say on that deal, but promises to push the request up to the top brass. And even if leadership declines, he promises to personally back Chen through his own private channels. Pleased with the answer, the Grandmaster hands him a recovery pill capable of instantly healing his wounds. The pill turns out to be a genuine elixir, leaving the captain stunned to hold an authentic spiritual remedy from a real cultivator. He had only ever heard myths about these miracles, marking this as his very first time laying eyes on one. His eyes light up as he asks if he can get his hands on more. The Grandmaster smirks proudly, letting him know that this pill is just the tip of the iceberg of what he can create. He has a whole treasure trove of even crazier remedies. Ying Qing presses on how many he can supply, pointing out they could revolutionize the entire nation's armed forces. Chen shuts that down immediately, making it clear his stash isn't public property to be handed out for free. If Ying Qing truly wants access, he needs to fulfill his end of the bargain first and have someone with real authority negotiate face-to-face. Watching the Grandmaster walk away, Ying Qing reflects on how the supreme leader Chen wants to meet is swamped with national affairs and rarely meets anyone in person. Even so, he is utterly blown away that a modest city like Jiangcheng could produce such a terrifying prodigy. Heading back into the apartment, Chen laments just how stressful sharing a roof with two gorgeous women is going to be. The bathroom will always be locked, and he'll constantly have to walk on eggshells to avoid awkward mishaps. Putting that aside, he feels how much his cultivation has surged lately and decides to make another attempt at entering the reincarnation graveyard. Moments later, his consciousness steps into the graveyard domain, and surprisingly, there's no agonizing headache this time around. The physical backlash is completely gone, and the ancient realm no longer pushes his presence away. He figures it must be thanks to the major leap in his cultivation strength. Scanning the misty graveyard, he spots a tombstone inscribed with the names Shakwin Luo and Yunshin Sect. According to the graveyard's guide, hitting specific power milestones allows him to awaken the lingering soul will of an ancient powerhouse. The spirit available to him right now is the Fist of Death, Luo Yunshin, but the catch is he has zero clue on how to actually invoke him. That leaves him with only one choice: test out every single trick he can think of. Back at the Metropolitan Apartments, Ryuxu gets dressed to head out on business, telling her bestie not to worry about making lunch for her. Chen casually waves her off, shouting after her to make sure she brings back some good snacks. For the last couple of days, Chen threw everything he had at the tombstone, but no matter what he tried, the thing simply wouldn't activate. This leads him to believe that his current strength level is just too low to unlock it. If he wants to power up quickly, he needs proper cultivation pills, and heating herbs in a regular microwave isn't going to cut it anymore. What he truly requires is an authentic alchemy cauldron. Old man Gerand had previously mentioned that a massive auction was scheduled for today, and even offered to take him along. Yet so far, the old guy hasn't shown up or sent any updates. Since neither of them exchanged phone numbers, Chen contemplates going out to track him down. Out of nowhere, Shen Heihua rings him up with major news. He has successfully taken full charge of the Tianjin group and cleared out the entire old staff. He's in the middle of rebranding the company, with an official relaunch ceremony planned in just a few days. Chen is thrilled that the family head kept his word, confidently declaring that the whole city of Jiangcheng will soon witness their grand comeback. This milestone sets the stage for the triumphant revival of the Tianjin group. On top of that, Yingqing still hasn't checked in, making Chen suspect that the cowardly dude might have skipped town. Right while he's pondering that, Zerand pounds on his door, drenched in sweat and breathing heavily. The panting old man explains that he wasted the entire morning waiting at Thompson Yippen Villa before having to track down this address through multiple connections. Chen awkwardly apologizes for totally forgetting to give him the new location. He offers to let the elder rest inside, but Zerand declines, citing an urgent family crisis he has to handle right away. Before rushing off, he hands over the long-awaited auction entry pass. Chen takes the pass with gratitude and tries asking if he can assist with the family crisis, but the old man vanishes before he can even complete his sentence. Later that evening, Chen reaches the Millennium Hotel for the auction, where he bumps into Zixuan, instantly noticing that her cheerful vibe is completely missing, though when he asks about it, she brushes it off, links arms with him, and guides him through the main hotel lounge, explaining that this common floor is strictly reserved for guests to mingle, unwind, and socialize before the bidding begins. In short, it functions as an open public lounge. The actual bidding would take place on the upper floor shortly, so they decide to grab a quick bite beforehand. Just as they head toward the food, an arrogant guy walking with two women mocks Zixuan, acting utterly shocked to find her at such an upscale event. He follows it up with a nasty dig, sneering that her Zhu family can barely keep their own heads above water right now. Naturally, Chen isn't about to let that slide. He moves forward to put the guy in his place, only for Zixuan to unexpectedly hold him back. She urges him to let it go and simply walk away. She promises him that her grandfather is already handling whatever mess is going on. Besides, he is there as an invited guest and ought to keep his mind on the auction. Realizing that this is their private clan trouble, and seeing that neither she nor Zerand wanted to discuss it, Chen decides not to pry any further. To his sheer bewilderment, he spots Ryuxu in the crowd as well. Looking stunning in an elegant outfit, she walks up and questions why he's at the venue. He chuckles and throws the exact same question right back at her. As they converse, Zixuan can't take her eyes off Ryuxu, totally stunned by her breathtaking looks. Not wanting to play third wheel, Zixuan politely excuses herself under the pretext of visiting the restroom. Once she's out of earshot, Ryuxu instantly gets curious and asks Chen about his companion. He clarifies that she's merely the daughter of the herbalist who showed him around the place. Then he turns the tables, asking how she expects to bid on anything when all her bank accounts are currently frozen solid. She playfully whines that she wants good food, and since he hasn't launched his company to hire her yet, she has to hunt for opportunities on her own. She explains that she had an old VIP invite, but switching gears, she curiously asks how deep Chen's pockets are for today's event. When he mentions he has around 90 million, she immediately bursts his bubble, warning him that such pocket change won't cut it against the terrifying powerhouses backing this gathering. She points out that beyond his imagination, This world is filled with formidable martial artists who can end a life with a mere flick of their wrist. Chen, however, doesn't bat an eye, wearing an expression of complete indifference. Ryuxu figures it's best to enlighten her clueless roommate on the underground reality. She discloses that while the four great families appear supreme in Jiangcheng, shadowy martial arts clans like the secretive Jin family, who are hosting this very event, wield far superior power. The auction is split into two distinct segments. The opening half features standard luxury antiques and fine art, while the second half offers rare martial treasures, cultivation manuals, elixirs, enchanted weapons, and sacred furnaces. Every single martial artifact starts at upwards of 100 million. She stresses that an alchemy cauldron commands an astronomical price, meaning his current bankroll won't even come close. Chen inquires whether attendees can put up their own goods for sale, and she confirms that it is totally allowed. She assumes he finally came to his senses about being broke and is planning to auction some of his secret pill recipes. She points out an appraisal room upstairs where he can have his items evaluated. Remembering Yingqing's wild reaction while spying on him earlier, Chen had already deduced that genuine alchemists must be virtually non-existent in Jiangcheng, even all of Huaxia. He feels utterly confident that his handcrafted pills are about to bring in a massive fortune. Stepping into the appraisal chamber, he finds the staff casually playing mahjong, throwing around 10 million on high-stakes bets like it's nothing. One of the evaluators spots him at the door and asks what he needs. Chen casually pulls out one of his pills and offers it up for auction. Although all four experts recognize it as a legitimate elixir, none of them can accurately gauge its true market value. The female appraiser skeptically argues that genuine ancient elixirs are supposed to be completely extinct in modern times. Another appraiser counters her, pointing out the medicine's flawless spherical shape and the potent spiritual aura radiating from it. The chief appraiser shuts down the bickering, asserting that if anyone in the building understands sacred medicine, it's him. Grabbing a magnifying glass, he inspects it thoroughly, already sensing that this item is far from ordinary. Under magnification, he spots distinctive streaks of cinnabar, confirming without a shadow of a doubt that this is an authentic, supreme-grade elixir. Pandemonium breaks out across the room as everyone scrambles to get a closer look. The master appraiser didn't just rely on visual markings, either. Its rich aroma was intensely fresh, and the pill veins were so crisp it seemed like it had been concocted only yesterday. The appraisal crew is left utterly dumbfounded, wondering if a legendary Grandmaster alchemist has finally re-emerged. They bombard him with frantic questions, and their hysterical reactions confirm Chen's suspicion that true alchemists are virtually extinct across the entire continent. If so, that technically makes him the sole surviving alchemist in all of Huaxia. Chen politely cuts them off, stating that he'd rather not discuss such sensitive details with the general staff. He demands to speak directly with whoever runs the entire appraisal department. The appraiser immediately leads him to a high-ranking woman, evidently the top authority, and explains that this guest has brought a genuine elixir for the auction. She inspects the pill closely, deducing from its pristine state that it was refined less than a month ago. Suddenly, her eyes widen as she spots an underlying secret hidden within the medicine. Understanding his place, the appraiser bows out, stating he won't intrude on classified matters, and takes his leave. The woman cordially invites Chen to take a seat and introduces herself as Jin Lingyan. She then politely inquires about his identity. Chen gives his name, cuts through the formalities, and gets straight to the point. Can his pill go up on the auction block? Knowing that understanding herb properties and alchemy formulas takes years, yet this fresh pill was clearly produced effortlessly, she asks how many units he plans to sell. When Chen reveals he has 5 ready to go, she becomes totally convinced that he must be backed by a reclusive Grandmaster alchemist. She provides an initial estimate, declaring that 5 such pills could easily fetch over $1 billion. She advises him to auction them off individually to maximize hype, but Chen is in a rush to raise massive capital and insists on cashing out all 5 immediately. Seeing this golden opportunity, Lingyan secretly schemes to hoard them herself and flip them down the road for immense profits. Without hesitation, she hands him a VIP bank card loaded with $1 billion, admitting that this is all the liquid cash she has on hand. She acknowledges that this falls a bit short of their absolute ceiling value, framing the direct sale as a personal favor to the Jin family. In return, she assures him that the Jin clan will have his back no matter what trouble arises. Lingyan finds the young man intriguing, though she reminds herself that the real prize is the unseen alchemist backing him. She feels certain that their paths are bound to cross again soon. Chen finds the payout perfectly satisfactory, and noting that the auction is kicking off, prepares to head back to the hall. Before he exits, she hands him an anonymous VIP identity pass to mask his real persona. She mentions that high-level independent guests usually prefer staying anonymous, so the fake badge will keep prying eyes away. Chen takes the disguise badge and heads out. Judging by his unshakable composure, she suspects he's a trained ancient martial artist, though his true depth remains a mystery to her. The moment he's gone, she dials her operatives and orders a thorough background check on him. A bit later, Chen rejoins Ryuxu and Zixuan, where Ryuxu teasingly asks if he managed to scrape together enough cash to actually bid. When he casually drops that he has a clean 1 billion in the bank, both girls freeze in utter disbelief. Ryuxu argues that while his ancient remedies might be precious, there's no way a simple recipe could fetch 1 billion on the spot. Up on stage, the auctioneer announces the grand finale item of the first session, a legendary piece of jewelry. Known across the elite world as Star Tears. Star Tears was the final creation of the master Jiangnan jeweler Ding Yuanchang, though he only managed to complete half of it. Legend had it that Master Ding intended to complete it as a farewell gift for his beloved granddaughter, but tragically ran out of time before passing away. Following its theft years ago, the artifact circulated through underground black markets across several nations before finally resurfacing right here in Jiangcheng. With that dramatic backstory, the bidding officially commences. The opening bid is set at $60 million, with minimum increments of 2 million per call. Bids immediately begin skyrocketing across the room, but Ryuxu sits frozen, gripped by visible anguish. As it turns out, Ding Yuanchang was her grandfather, and it breaks her heart that she cannot buy back the life's masterpiece he crafted specifically for her. She would gladly cut all ties with her clan or liquidate the entire Huame group just to reclaim it. Yet none of that changes the harsh reality that she currently possesses nothing. Watching from the VIP balcony, Lingyan notices an arrogant rich kid throwing insane money at a mundane necklace devoid of any spiritual energy. She figures he's just trying to impress some girl, and since it's his money inflating the house profits, she lets him run up the tab. The spoiled heir rapidly escalates the bidding to 96 million. He smirks, knowing an insider's secret. Miss Ryuxu has a deep, personal connection to Star Tears. Snagging it would win her heart, allowing him to leverage the massive clout of the Xia family to elevate his own status. To completely crush the competition, he jacks the bid all the way up to a whopping 140 million. Out of nowhere, the auctioneer booms that an anonymous bidder has just dropped a staggering 200 million. Leaving the brat utterly shocked. Furious, he demands to know who dare outbid him, only to be told that the buyer utilized a private proxy and wished to remain unnamed. The spoiled heir can't fathom anyone dropping 200 million on a simple piece of jewelry. On top of that, he had only brought 140 million in total, and running out of money makes his temper boil over. Right as he starts causing a scene, Jin Lingyan steps in and coldly asks if he's daring to question the integrity of the Jin family's auction. The young master shivers in terror, stammering that he never intended any disrespect. Lingyan, however, has zero tolerance for anyone tarnishing her clan's authority. She casually orders her enforcers to drag him out and shatter his limbs as a harsh lesson. Terrified out of his mind, the boy screams that his name is Chu Mingkai and that they can't touch him. Without missing a beat, the guards carry out the command, instantly snapping his arms and legs. Looking down at his battered body, she coldly declares that the Chu family is permanently banned from ever attending their auctions in Jiangcheng again. And if they dare try, they will be executed on the spot. The auction staff scoff, muttering that the fool brought this upon himself for crossing a ruthless martial arts dynasty. As the 200 million bid seals the win for the anonymous buyer, Ryuxu silently resolves to recover Star Tears at any cost, regardless of who walked away with it. With Star Tears off the table, Lingyan officially initiates the second phase of the grand auction. She offers a brief apology, requesting everyone's patience since the original final item of Stage 1 had to be rescheduled. The martial arts segment kicks off with the presentation of an enchanted gold-threaded garment. As item after item sells for astronomical sums, Zixuan watches in awe at the sheer wealth being tossed around. She gets especially thrilled when an ancient kung fu manual appears, finding the whole spectacle mind-blowing. Chen, meanwhile, views all these so-called treasures as utter garbage. The gulf between his ancient cultivation realm and this modern mortal scene was simply laughable. In this place, people were literally treating junk like supreme heirlooms. Finally, the true heavyweight of the evening, the rescheduled Baku 100-herb cauldron is unveiled for bidding. The Jin clan had stumbled upon this ancient relic deep within the mystical Shenong Mountains. It serves as both a high-grade pill-refining vessel and an invaluable collector's artifact. While initially slated as the grand finale, it was shifted to the penultimate slot. The opening bid is pegged at 300 million, with each raise set at a minimum of 10 million. Chen's interest is instantly piqued. The cauldron's intrinsic quality is actually far superior to what he had anticipated. The bidding rapidly surges to 430 million as Chen closely tracks the action. Lingyan watches closely, convinced that the mysterious master backing Chen must have sent him specifically for this cauldron, still completely unaware that Chen is the Grandmaster himself. Suddenly, Zhang Wenlin of the elite Zhang family throws down a massive 450 million bid, sending shockwaves through the entire hall and silencing the crowd. In this region, power is dominated by three supreme martial arts clans, with the Jin and Zhang families sitting right at the peak. Picking a fight with Wenlin is basically asking for a death warrant, given his notorious reputation for being utterly merciless. He's the kind of ruthless predator who will annihilate anyone standing between him and his prize. Wanting to prevent bloodshed, Lingyan quickly texts Chen, warning him not to provoke Wenlin and his formidable martial family. She urges him that it's far wiser to let the cauldron go than to paint a giant target on his back. Chen's cold reply, however, makes it clear he has zero intention of backing down. He reminds her that she made a killing off his 1 billion elixir deal, so she owes him total support without interference. Right on cue, the auctioneer proclaims that the anonymous bidder has offered 500 million, instantly enraging Wenlin and his bodyguard, who are furious that someone dare contest him. They scoff at the buyer's hidden identity, convinced it won't save him. With the vast intelligence network of the Zhang family, tracking him down will be child's play, and today might very well be his last on Earth. Wenlin raises his bid to 530 million, convinced that 550 million is the absolute market ceiling for the cauldron, and that no sane person would dare bid higher. Out of nowhere, the host drops a bombshell by announcing that our mystery bidder just bumped the price up to 700 million, officially sealing the deal and handing the cauldron straight to Chen. Even though the spoiled rich kid backs off from the bidding war, he is absolutely fuming over the fact that some random stranger just played him like a fool. In his twisted head, someone is openly challenging the supreme authority of his prestigious clan. Losing his temper entirely, he screams out that he will hunt down whoever dared to cross his family and make them pay dearly for today's disrespect. Once the relic is officially his, our Grandmaster is practically glowing with satisfaction, sporting a huge grin. With this prized artifact finally in his grasp, breaking through to the next cultivation level is just around the corner. Lang Yan steps up to present the grand finale of the event, boasting that this final treasure brought in by her clan is worth more than all the gold in the world. Unlocking a secure case, she reveals a genuine, high-grade magical pill right before their eyes. Nobody in the crowd doubts her claims for a second, fully buying into the hype. And truth be told, the medicine sitting on that stage is the real deal. She sets the opening bid at an eye-watering 400 million, with every subsequent raise needing to be at least 20 million. The moment the floor opens, the bidding explodes into absolute madness, rocketing all the way to 680 million in seconds. Ryuxu's jaw hits the floor, seeing piles of cash flying around like Monopoly money, having never witnessed such pure insanity in her entire life. Before long, the curtains close on the event, and the massive crowd begins shuffling toward the doors. Chen silently chuckles, imagining the look on Wenlin's face if the brat ever realized that the guy who crafted this divine pill is the exact same dude who snatched his precious cauldron. Right in the middle of his thoughts, a text pops up from Lin Jian asking him to meet up, explaining that her dad wants to make things right and pay him back properly. Around the same time, Ryuxu mentions that since the banquet plans fell through, they might as well head back home as a duo. Out of the blue, it hits her that this guy was casually bragging about having a whole $1 billion before they even stepped inside. She calls him out on it, asking why on earth he didn't put his money where his mouth was and buy a single thing. He casually brushes it off by saying nothing caught his eye, immediately making an excuse that he needs to hit the restroom. That evening, he drops by Lang Yan's residence, where she hands over a bank card loaded with $1.5 billion directly from her dad to settle the score. The logic being that his legendary concoctions were auctioned off way below their actual worth. Chen clarifies right away that he isn't some beggar looking for a handout. His only goal tonight is to collect the Baku cauldron and get out. To keep things discreet, she takes down his contact info and home address, promising to dispatch a private courier with the item later that evening. She then extends an invitation for dinner, mentioning that her father specifically wanted to host him. Chen instantly shuts down the offer, stating his roommates have already cooked a meal waiting for him back home. Besides, fancy restaurant dinners are really not his cup of tea. To her, this looks like blatant disrespect, as if he's throwing her powerful family's protective lifeline back into their faces. He had painted a massive target on his back with the Zhang clan, and without an elite powerhouse backing him up, he was practically a walking corpse. Her clan offered him an ironclad shield, but since he turned up his nose at it, whatever brutal fate awaits him is entirely on his own head. Meanwhile, up on the 5th floor of the Millennium Hotel, when Lin leaves the security detail unconscious on the floor and manages to secure the magical pill for himself, he gloats about his unbelievable luck, marveling at how he managed to score such an extraordinarily pure pill out of nowhere. Its quality blew everything stored inside his family's private vault completely out of the water. His subordinate points out that the complex markings on the pill usually require 10 straight days of intense alchemy, sparking questions on how the Jin clan acquired it and why on earth they'd ever put it up for sale. A dark suspicion begins creeping into his mind that they might be sitting on an undiscovered alchemy spring. His right-hand man agrees, warning that if their rivals truly command a supply line of these pills, they could soon leave the entire Zhang clan eating their dust. Just then, intel comes in that the erased security tapes were restored, revealing that Lang Yan had an exclusive meeting with a single mysterious guy. Wen Lin instantly connects the dots, concluding that this mystery man must be the cauldron thief and the master alchemist supplying the pills. Infuriated that some nobody had the guts to rob what he considered his birthright, the spoiled brat sets his sights purely on blood and payback. On another side of town, as Chen and Ryuxu say goodbye to Zixuan, he spots the wealthy heiress strangely hailing a regular cab all by herself. Despite commanding immense fortune and having private chauffeurs on speed dial, she was unusually stranded and having to ride public transport. He approaches and presses her about her family's trouble, and when she attempts to brush it off, he simply takes her phone and punches in his private digits. He instructs her to give him a ring if things go south, giving his word that he will back her up no matter what. Her grandfather had been exceptionally good to him, and his pride would never let him sit on his hands while his benefactor suffered. Overcome with emotion at his offer, tears well up in her eyes as she gratefully thanks him before he turns to leave. While walking back with Ryuxu, she brings up how weirded out she gets whenever that girl treats him like an ancient master with all that formal bowing. He playfully fires back that framing it like that makes him sound like a dusty old man. Right in the middle of their banter, a sharp wave of hostile energy hits his senses, instantly putting him on high alert. Playing it completely cool so she doesn't panic, he claims he has a sudden craving for coffee, telling her to head inside the nearby cafe, grab their drinks, and grab a table. He promises he'll catch up with her in just a second. Curious, she asks why she has to sit alone and where he's running off to which he excuses himself for a bathroom break while offering to cover the entire coffee bill. Still unconvinced, she hits him with a follow-up. Why can't you just use the restroom inside the shop? He ridiculously claims that cafe bathrooms are far too delicate and lack the proper durability for a man like him. Even though his weird answer leaves her completely baffled, she shrugs it off and heads inside anyway. The second the doors close behind her, Chen drops his goofy act, preparing to obliterate whatever flies into his web. The stalkers turn out to be none other than Wen Lin and his Zhang clan goons, who quickly realize their prey has already locked eyes on them. Catching sight of Ryuxu heading inside, the young master's filthy eyes lock onto her with sick amusement. His vile game plan is simple: break Chen's bones, reclaim the prized cauldron, and drag that girl away for his own twisted pleasure. His fantasy is violently shattered as Chen materializes out of thin air behind him, clamping an iron grip right onto his skull. His bodyguard, an experienced martial artist, lunges forward in pure outrage at this sudden ambush on his young master. Without even blinking, our grandmaster swats him mid-flight, obliterating his head in a gory explosion and freezing Wen Lin in utter terror. After effortlessly wiping out the muscle, Chen shifts his cold gaze to Wen Lin, announcing that his execution is next. Still hiding behind his family's clout, the arrogant brat barks threats about the hell Chen will face, demanding that he drop to his knees and beg for mercy. Chen couldn't care less about his pedigree and delivers a single, brutal slap that folds him flat onto the pavement. With the trash taken care of, he detects another presence lingering in the shadows and loudly calls out the peeping spectator. Realizing his cover is totally blown, the hidden observer steps out of the dark, bowing and apologizing profusely. He introduces himself as Jin Xian, a loyal operative sent by the Jin clan. His original mission was to act as Chen's guardian angel, but after watching that effortless slaughter, he realizes protecting a monster 10 times stronger than him is a complete joke. He explains that once Lang Yan realized the security control room was compromised, she immediately dispatched him to watch his back. Chen acknowledges her good intentions, but coldly makes it clear that he despises anyone sticking their noses into his private business. He orders the scout to relay those exact, unfiltered words straight back to her. The bodyguard nods obediently to carry the message, but nervously mentions that there is another critical matter to discuss. He visibly hesitates, clearly terrified to let the words out. Chen grants him leave to speak, leading the man to warn that while Chen is undeniably an elite powerhouse, the Zhang clan harbors monsters who might match or even outclass him. Their patriarch, Zhang Baeguo, currently sits at rank 514 on the official Huaxia Grandmaster leaderboard. And now that Chen has literally crushed his heir's skull, a catastrophic bloodbath is practically guaranteed. Hearing about this official ranking comes as a total shock to Chen, but what blows his mind even more is the fact that over 500 fighters rank above this patriarch despite him holding Grandmaster status. He finally understands that the hidden martial world of this country is far deeper and more dangerous than he originally assumed. Even so, he has zero regrets about taking down Wen Lin. At the end of the day, he did it entirely to protect his roommate from harm. Thanking Chen for his patience, the operative offers a respectful bow and takes his leave. Once Chen is gone, the Shadow Guard instantly dials his boss to break the heavy news news of Wen Lin's demise. Moments later, Lang Yan arrives on location, staring down at the lifeless body of the Zhang clan's young master. A wave of panic washes over her, picturing the absolute storm of destruction this murder is about to unleash on the city. Double-checking the details, she asks if Chen really pulled this off effortlessly, and the guard confirms Chen's monstrous prowess in brutally executing both the master and his elite veteran protector without breaking a sweat. She suspects a legendary alchemist must be pulling the strings behind Chen, yet she can't shake the terrifying dread of what comes next. For the moment, she orders her squad to scrub the scene, bag the bodies, and quietly tip off the Zhang family about what went down. She demands every single trace wiped clean, making sure not a shred of evidence leads back to anyone involved. This entire mess has escalated way past what the Jin clan can handle. If the Zhangs discover Yi Chen's identity, her family will have no choice but to step aside and let nature take its brutal course. Back at the shared apartment, all three roommates are sitting down for a quiet dinner. While the girls gossip away, Chen gets lost in thought, realizing how convoluted this Grandmaster hierarchy really is, even with all the intel gathered by his network. Cultivation systems across the world usually have clearly defined power tiers, but here in Huaxia, the ranking logic feels completely wild and nonsensical. Officially, there are no higher tiers categorized beyond the rank of Grandmaster, because the gap in raw combat ability between Grandmasters is massive without any higher realm names. They simply threw everyone onto a massive leaderboard to separate the gods from the frauds. He has no clue where he personally stands on that ladder, and the only real way to measure his power is to test his fists against them. He figures he'll get a clear benchmark the moment that 514th ranked Zhang family head eventually kicks down his door looking for a fight. Yi pulls him right out of his daydream, reminding him that Ryuxu's birthday is coming up next week and asking what gift he's prepared. Chen bluntly replies that buying physical presents is completely outdated nowadays. He suggests simply sending a digital red envelope with $250 to keep it traditional and easy. Ryuxu glares at him, asking if he's genuinely serious about sending her that exact offensive number. Completely missing the cultural insult, Chen thinks she's just haggling for more cash, so he bumps the offer up to 520, which instantly sparks an even more awkward misunderstanding. Yi cringes hard on the side, thoroughly disgusted by the implication that the two of them are already romantic enough to be dropping romantic code numbers. Right in the middle of the awkward silence, an SOS text arrives from Zixuan begging him to save her grandfather's life. A short drive later, he pulls up to the Zhu estate, only to find the entire compound swarming with heavily armed soldiers. Perched right above the gates, 3 military snipers have their sights trained on the perimeter, primed to neutralize anyone stepping out of line. He's genuinely confused about what kind of colossal mess the family landed in to draw this level of armed intervention. Realizing brute force won't do, his only ticket through the gate is pulling a few high-level strings. He dials Officer Bailey Bing, cashing in a favor to get him cleared past the military checkpoint. After standing outside in the cold with no updates, Chen starts getting noticeably annoyed. Just as his patience wears thin, an officer named Luo Zhengguo steps forward, confirming he was dispatched under her orders. He flashes his military credentials at the guards, daring them to question if his authority is enough to clear the gate, leaving them no room to push back. Snapping to attention, the guards offer a crisp salute and step aside. Inside the mansion, the grandfather and Zixuan are sitting in pure despair over the nightmare unfolding around them. The patriarch sighs, telling his granddaughter that calling in favors now is completely pointless. Their family is finished. Chen walks into the room right on cue, boldly countering that the game isn't over just yet. Recognizing the grandmaster, the old man scolds her for dragging such an esteemed figure into their grave, but she insists Chen is the absolute strongest pillar she could ever call. Chen gets straight to the point, asking the patriarch to lay out what went wrong. The old man stubbornly tries to clam up, desperate to keep Chen out of this lethal political mess. Zixuan cuts in and spills the truth, explaining that a massive VIP had arrived in Jiangcheng a few days ago. Suffering from an illness, the VIP requested their family's renowned herbal remedy, only for the medicine to supposedly trigger a toxic reaction that poisoned the man. She swears her grandfather personally inspected and tested every single ingredient, making natural contamination totally impossible. Listening to the story, Chen agrees that the Zhu family had zero motive to poison a complete stranger and commit social suicide. He deduces that someone intentionally swapped out the genuine remedy for lethal poison behind their backs. He asks for the victim's current location and is told the VIP is currently fighting for his life in the hospital. If that man breathes his last breath, the entire Zhu bloodline will be utterly eradicated. Chen orders them to take him straight to the intensive care unit immediately. As long as the guy has a single heartbeat left in his chest, I can pull him back from the dead. The patriarch stares in absolute disbelief, having only ever known grandmasters to be harbingers of slaughter rather than miracle-working healers. Chen coldly cuts through their shock, warning that this is their only lifeline and he won't offer it again. Moments later, Officer Zheng Guo, the patriarch, and Chen march straight into the surgical ward where the emergency operation is taking place. It turns out the dying VIP is the father of a top military commander, who instantly goes blind with rage the second he spots the old man walking in. He throws a lethal, bare-knuckle punch straight at the helpless elder's face. Chen catches the punch effortlessly, warning the commander that until the patient wakes up to testify, nobody touches a single hair on the old man's head. The furious officer sneers, remarking that he now sees why the coward dared to show his face again. You actually brought a martial arts bodyguard to back you up. Yet the commander isn't intimidated in the slightest, boasting that Huaxia is crawling with elite fighters and that a lone warrior won't save this family from his wrath. A few minutes later, the surgical doors swing open as the medical team walks out, looking completely defeated. When the frantic officer demands an update, the head surgeon delivers the death sentence. The toxin has fully saturated his bloodstream, and there is zero hope left. Losing his sanity at the verdict, the commander ignores their apologies and grabs the doctor right by the throat. Having seen enough of the drama, Chen bluntly calls the hysterical officer a useless piece of trash and strides straight into the operating room. The stunned officer freezes, but Zheng Guo quickly steps in, staking his own career and swearing on a military tribunal if Chen fails to revive the patriarch. The commander reluctantly gives the green light for one final gamble, fully prepared to execute Chen on the spot if the old man dies. The only reason he relents is Zheng Guo's rock-solid reputation for being utterly meticulous and calculated. Inside the room, Chen scans the dying man, clearly perceiving dense, pitch-black death aura leaking from his pores. He senses the veteran's ironclad willpower, realizing any ordinary person would have flatlined hours ago under this lethal toxicity. Chen smirks, noting that this dying soldier just hit the ultimate jackpot by crossing paths with him. Crushing one of his supreme pills into pure essence with his bare palm, he channels its miraculous medicinal qi into the body through an acupuncture needle. Within 5 short minutes, every trace of toxin in the bloodstream vanishes completely, putting the patient on the verge of opening his eyes. As he wraps up, he catches sight of deep scars and battle-hardened wounds carved across the veteran's torso. Deciding it isn't his place to pry into classified military history and content with having done his duty for the nation, Chen turns to exit. Out of nowhere, the old general opens his eyes and calls out, weakly asking the miracle doctor to hold on. When the man asks for his savior's identity, Chen brushes it off, stating he only stepped in as a personal favor for a friend. He then makes it clear that there are 2 crucial conditions the old general must keep in mind. To begin with, the Zhu family had zero involvement in the poisoning, meaning that baseless suspicion needs to be cleared up immediately. On top of that, the toxin inside him is a slow-acting poison that someone has been feeding him for well over a month. There is no way a stranger pulled that off, so it is high time the old man started rooting out the traitors inside his own circle. The second Chen steps out of the room, the military officer immediately flies off the handle at him again. He rants that he actually expected something impressive, yet the guy barely spent 8 minutes inside before strutting right back out. At this point, he is completely convinced that Chen is just making a fool out of him. His temper tantrum comes to an abrupt halt the moment his father's voice cuts in and orders him to stand down. Everyone watching, including the medical staff, is utterly speechless seeing the old man walking out completely on his own 2 feet. The chief makes it clear to the entire room that he would have been a dead man if this young doctor hadn't stepped in. Admitting how unbelievable the situation is, he feels genuinely blessed to have crossed paths with such an extraordinary healer. Now that the reality has hit him, the arrogant officer who was ready to throw punches suddenly loses all his aggression. He turns around to apologize for his attitude and thank him, only to find that the miracle doctor has already vanished into thin air. True to his savior's instructions, the chief's very first move is to apologize to Zhu Rend and declare to his son and the soldiers that the Zhu family is entirely blameless. Completely overwhelmed, old man Rend insists that such a formal apology isn't necessary, claiming he is unworthy of receiving it. The chief then asks if he can get his hands on the young healer's contact info. The patriarch explains that the man's name is Yi Chen, someone their family had crossed paths with and befriended purely by chance. However, he politely refuses to hand over his number, explaining that the Grandmaster despises being bothered by outsiders. Over on the other side of town, the Zhang household is engulfed in grief following the demise of Zhang Wenlin. Wenlin's older brother delivers an update on the homicide investigation to their father, Zhang Beigyu, explaining that right before he died, Wenlin was at an auction where an unidentified buyer snatched a prized cauldron right out of his grasp, and that heated clash at the auction went down just moments prior to his murder. Furious, the patriarch demands an all-out investigation into everything that took place that night. He orders his men to track down and interrogate every single person who attended that auction. Blinded by rage, he vows to tear Jiang Cheng apart stone by stone just to hunt down the murderer and make them pay. His ultimate plan is to make the killers suffer the ultimate torment, forcing them to watch everyone they love get slaughtered before finally ending their life. While Chen is traveling, his phone rings with an incoming call from Shen Heihua. The elder reports that the groundwork for the Tianjin group is practically finished, and he asks what official title the Grandmaster wants to hold. Specifically, whether he wants to be registered as the legal representative or take on another role. He warns that word of the group's rebirth will sweep across the entire city by tomorrow morning, and he wonders if that public exposure might cause problems for him. Chen tells him not to stress over it, because the days of concealing his identity are officially over. He wants all of Jiangcheng to clearly understand one thing: Yi Chen is back. A little later, back at his villa, representatives from the Jin family drop off the items he won at the auction. Among the delivered treasures are the ancient Beiku cauldron and the star tears. Kayan mentions that he was also instructed to deliver an urgent message from Lang Yan. The Zhang family is in an absolute fury beyond what anyone predicted, actively grilling everyone connected to the auction. It is only a matter of time before their trail leads directly to Chen. To keep him safe, Lang Yan has already prepped a private jet to fly him out to Sanya City immediately. Since they hold significant territory there, the Zhang family won't be able to lay a finger on him. Chen says he appreciates Lang Yan looking out for him, but running away isn't in his plans. He fully intends to stay put and face them head-on. He sends Kayan packing, making it clear that he already has his own deadly plans laid out for the Zhang family. With the messenger out of the way, Chen turns his full focus toward concocting a blue spirit pill. Using the star tears as his primary catalyst, he ignites a spiritual flame beneath the ancient cauldron to begin the alchemy. Pills are classified into 9 distinct tiers, with each tier broken down into 9 separate grades. The greater the rank, the more intricate the pill's patterns become, resulting in vastly superior potency. The blue spirit pill is a tier 3 elixir designed to purify spiritual essence and drastically boost cultivation speed. Chen, however, is a bit skeptical about how many high-tier patterns he can actually manifest with this Beiku cauldron. Before long, the blue spirit pill coalesces, unleashing a dazzling flash of light that illuminates the entire room. With a simple flick of his fingers, he pulls the floating pill straight into his hand. The finished product is nothing short of masterclass quality. It has turned out to be a tier 3 elixir, boasting an impressive 7 distinct patterns. He initially estimated he could only pull off 3 patterns at best, making this outcome far better than anything he anticipated. Considering the low-grade herbs he had to work with, he really hadn't set his expectations very high. He quickly realizes that this miraculous upgrade has to be the work of the ancient cauldron. His theory proves right. The Beiku cauldron naturally multiplied the medicinal potency of the ingredients, working pure magic. Chen can't help but feel he scored an absolute jackpot at the auction. A relic like this would be a priceless treasure anywhere in the world, and he is the one lucky enough to reap its benefits. Without wasting another second, he settles down to begin cultivating. He downs the freshly forged pill in one gulp to push for a breakthrough. The energy surges almost immediately, propelling him straight into the 6th stage of the Enlightenment realm. Advancing 2 sub-realms in a single night is an astonishing achievement, even for someone with his monstrous talent. Back when he was initially crossing into the Enlightenment realm, a mysterious crystal had materialized above his head without him realizing it. While he missed it back then, it is staring him right in the face now. Though caught off guard, he suspects this peculiar artifact is the true catalyst behind his rapid jump to the 6th stage. The moment his fingers close around it, he senses that its nature has completely transformed. He visits the reincarnation graveyard to investigate, and upon reaching the tombstone carved with the name Luo Yunshin, his post-breakthrough vision reveals completely new details. He instinctively senses that with just a thought, he can activate the headstone and summon the legendary Luo Yunshin into reality. However, he also recognizes the catch. This summon is a one-time deal, and the headstone will shatter completely once used. This makes it an insanely powerful trump card that he must save strictly for life or death emergencies. Meanwhile, back at the Dadu apartments, Sunya stumbles upon news that the long-lost Tianjin group from 5 years ago is making a comeback. She immediately shows the headline to Ryuxu, who finds the company's name vaguely familiar. Knowing full well that the company originally belonged to Chen's father, Ye connects the dots and suspects her roommate is behind the empire's revival. Her suspicions are confirmed the second she spots Yi Chen's name officially listed as the company's legal head. Ryuxu begins putting the pieces together too. Recalling how he mentioned starting a business earlier, she realizes he is indeed the mastermind relaunching the firm. Still, she remains completely in the dark regarding his true heritage and the horrific tragedy that shattered his life 5 years ago. Instead, she naively assumes he is launching this venture just to stand up against her mother. News of the Tianjin Group's return eventually reaches the Chu family household as well. Both the patriarch and his daughter are stunned that a man presumed dead has returned to reclaim his family's birthright. The Chu patriarch announces that their background check on the newly formed group has yielded results. The registered legal representative is none other than the same Yi Chen involved in the Yunhu Villa disaster. He pulls out a picture of Chen and lays it out for everyone in the room to see. Having clashed with him before, Shirin is bewildered, wondering what could have possibly turned this disgraced Yi family reject into a terrifying ancient martial artist. Her father points out that the rebirth of the Tianjin Group on its own isn't what is truly threatening. What genuinely terrifies him is the fact that it was constructed directly over the ashes of the Qing Group. Zhang Jingming was murdered just days ago, and the formidable Qing sect backing him was completely wiped off the map. In short, this revived Yi empire is literally built on a mountain of bodies. A power that ruthless poses a massive danger to the Chu family, making it critical to discover who is truly pulling the strings behind the scenes. Recalling Chen's apparent interest in his daughter, he reassures her not to stress, declaring that the brat doesn't even hold a candle to the Chu family standard. The elder suspects Chen is merely a frontman, with much more dangerous figures orchestrating everything from the shadows. According to their latest intelligence, Shen Heihua of the Beiming Group is the one who financed and rebuilt the entire operation. What shocks him even more is the fact that Shen Heihua was dying of terminal cancer not long ago, yet made an impossible recovery. Shirin's father assumes the old man must have lost his mind from his illness to be reckless enough to revive the Tianjin Group name. He eagerly anticipates tomorrow's grand opening, convinced that not a single sane person in the city will dare show up. The matriarch of the Xia family is equally disgusted by the revival, though she remains unbothered, confident that it cannot threaten her family's supremacy. She orders her chief enforcer, Xia Jun, to issue a citywide ultimatum. Anyone who shows up to support the Tianjin Group tomorrow will be treated as an enemy of the Xia Group. Knowing his mistress is dead set on crushing the Tianjin Group into dust, Jun is certain tomorrow's opening will turn into an absolute disaster, dragging the Beiming Group down with it. While the Grandmaster is deep in meditation at his villa, the head of the Shen family rings him to report the joint blockade planned by the Xia and Chu families. Even the 3 other prominent Jiangcheng clans, the Zhao, Lu, and Wang families, who originally pledged their backing, have completely chickened out. Not a soul dares to attend tomorrow's opening ceremony, as showing up means making enemies of Jiangcheng's elite and the monstrous Xia family of Jiangnan province. Chen had seen this coming from miles away, so he remains completely unfazed. Heihua, on the other hand, is stunned by just how relaxed his master is in the face of ruin. He worries that if they get blacklisted like this, no business in the country will ever dare partner with them. The only sensible option the elder can come up with is postponing the grand opening altogether. The Grandmaster couldn't care less about their petty boycott, and he certainly has no intention of making this opening uneventful. He tells the anxious patriarch to relax and leave the entire mess in his hands. The following morning, the Grandmaster returns to the apartment, mentally reviewing the preparations that are already set in motion. The local underworld king was eager to make an appearance, but Shen turned him down, knowing a powerhouse like him is far more dangerous remaining hidden in the dark. The moment he walks in, Sun Ye and Ryuxu bombard him with questions about where he vanished for 2 days and what his real deal is with the Tianjin Group. Slightly put on the spot, he simply explains that it was his late father's company, which naturally passed down to him as the rightful heir. Without warning, Ryuxu suddenly throws her arms around him, eyes welling up with emotion. She breaks down in tears, apologizing for the cruel blockade her mother is orchestrating against his legacy. She confesses that she begged her mother repeatedly over the phone to call off the attack, yet her mother refused to show even an ounce of mercy. At the end of the day, Ryuxu holds herself entirely responsible for the mess. He had poured everything into building an empire capable of rivaling the Xia clan and the other elites, only for it to look like it would be crushed before even getting off the ground. Chen gently pats her head with a warm smile, reassuring her that none of this is her fault. He playfully teases that if she feels that guilty, a kiss on the cheek would definitely cheer him right up. Without missing a beat, she actually plants a kiss on his cheek, whispering that she hopes it helps. With unshakable confidence in his voice, he tells her once more that tomorrow will go off without a hitch. Come next morning, the exact scenario everyone feared plays out. Not a single guest shows up for the grand opening ceremony. Standing alone out front, Heihua is sweating bullets from embarrassment, desperately praying for Chen to pull off a miracle. Right on cue, an unexpected development breaks the awkward silence. An old business acquaintance named Zhao Yucheng happens to arrive at the venue. The two have been friends for over a decade, but when Heihua reaches out for a handshake, the man furiously slaps his hand away. Yu Cheng is livid that a 10-year friend would risk his entire family's survival just to serve some brat from the Yi clan. Right at that moment, Chen walks in and casually asks what all the commotion is about. The argument pauses briefly as Heihua immediately bows and shows utmost respect to his master. Seeing this, the businessman explodes again, mocking his friend for groveling before a total nobody. That insult finally pushes the Shen family head past his boiling point. He snaps back, telling his old buddy that if he came to show support, he is grateful, but if he came to disrespect him and his master, he can get the hell out right now. The businessman smugly argues that he is only trying to save his foolish friend from committing career suicide. He goes as far as threatening to rip up all their ongoing business deals if Heihua refuses to fall in line. The two exchange a few more fiery insults before the furious businessman finally storms off. Knowing the Grandmaster witnessed the whole thing, Heihua confesses that every single contact he invited was terrified of attending. Yet Chen stays utterly cool, brushing it off and insisting everything is going to turn out just fine. As it turns out, that old friend was secretly working for the Chu clan all along, and he immediately runs back to report the pathetic scene. He gleefully informs Shirin that it is almost 9 in the morning and not a single soul has shown up at the venue. He boasts that neither small startups nor top-tier corporations in Jiangcheng would dare step into this crossfire, let alone any high-profile VIPs. Shirin smirks, thoroughly relishing the thought of watching Chen squirm and humiliate himself in this hopeless opening. Over in Jiangnan province, Zhou Zheng, the patriarch of the Zhou family, whom Chen saved from poison, halts his martial arts, training upon hearing that the other families are staging a complete boycott. The chief glares at two Jiangcheng city officials standing before him and asks what crime the Tianjin group committed to earn such dirty suppression. He makes it clear that blacklisting an honest company just because a few powerful families want to flex their muscles is totally unacceptable. Those officials had been summoned at the crack of dawn. At first, they couldn't have cared less about the Tianjin group being crushed, but discovering that Zheng personally has Chen's back makes them instantly sweat with regret. The chief orders them to get out of his sight immediately and fix the mess before things get worse. His son asks him curiously whether this Yi Chen is truly worth going to such extreme lengths for. He points out that openly backing the Tianjin group means severing all diplomatic ties with the mighty Xia family. The chief scolds his son for his shallow judgment, reminding him that between his godlike medical skills and terrifying martial prowess, they have both seen what the young man is capable of. There is no universe where a monstrous prodigy like him comes from an ordinary or weak background. And if they don't stand in his corner today, they won't even have the right to beg for his favor in the future. While the Xia family might hold the crown when it comes to raw financial wealth in Jiangnan province, in terms of sheer combat power and military dominance, the Zhou family stands absolute and unchallenged. He has zero fear of cutting ties because the Zhou family bows to absolutely no one. His son finally gets the bigger picture and nods in agreement. The clock officially strikes 9 in the morning. Outside the Tianjin group entrance, the venue remains dead silent, with only a swarm of vulture-like reporters waiting to record the disaster. Watching the embarrassing flop alongside Yu Cheng, Shirin scoffs that it's pointless to stay any longer, only for her jaw to drop as Sun Yi and Xia Ryuxu suddenly pull up. Her smug smile turns into instant fury at the sight of the two women. After all, while the Xia family is doing everything to destroy the Tianjin group, an actual Xia heiress has just shown up to support it. The reporters instantly smell blood, ditching their biased notes to swarm the entrance and flash their cameras at the stunning arrivals. Meanwhile, Yi lets her roommate know that with the Huame group swallowed by the Xia family, she showed up knowing full well she might get fired on the spot. Chen is momentarily at a loss for words, knowing that their presence here wouldn't really change the outcome. At most, they are only going to turn themselves into targets for the media circus. Even so, seeing them put everything on the line for him genuinely touches his heart. Right after the girls step aside to make room, the Royal Club's head honcho, Master Duoyi himself, walks in to officially back our guy. Being the top dog in Jiangcheng, his sudden appearance instantly sets off a media frenzy over how much the power dynamics are about to shift. Shen Heihua can't even process what he's looking at, completely baffled by how Chen managed to pull someone of that stature to their side. The girls are genuinely amused watching the heads of Jiangcheng's top 4 clans show nothing but pure respect and bow down to Chen. The hunchbacked elder offers his congratulations, reassuring his master that under his lead, this business is guaranteed to hit the stratosphere. Over on the side, Shirin figures this cozy bond must have formed back during that whole Royal Club showdown. Things get even wilder a moment later when Jiangcheng's top 2 government officials pull up to the venue. Hard on their heels, Luo Zhengguo from the Huaxia force rolls in behind the wheel of an official military ride. Just as the crowd thinks the VIP parade is done, a high-end luxury ride pulls up, and out walks Ryuxu's mother, the matriarch of the Xia clan. She looks thoroughly pissed off that the other families completely ignored her warning and showed up anyway. She demands a rundown of the guest list, so her bodyguard Jun checks his intel and reports that Duo Yi, the top city officials, and military-backed Luo Zhengguo are all in the building. He even brings up the talk on the street that Duo Yi answers to the king of Jiangnan, while Luo Zhengguo has the regional military commander, Bailey Bing, in his corner. Still, he can't confirm whether they showed up on their own or if their big-shot bosses ordered them to be here. Xia scoffs at the idea of the king and Officer Bing caring about this, insisting she knows them well enough to know they wouldn't waste their time on some random local startup. To her, nobodies like Chen and Heihua aren't even on the same playing field to cross paths with titans like that. Even so, she begrudgingly admits that getting Duo Yi and Zhengguo on board is impressive, and that she definitely misjudged Chen's influence. Since these guys had the nerve to defy her family's authority, she figures the easiest way to vent her anger is to crush Jiangcheng's top official. After all, city officials are small enough for her to destroy and strip of power without breaking a sweat. She then tells Jun to grab the gift they brought and present it directly to Tianjin Group. Facing Chen, she sarcastically calls him a genius, throwing shade by claiming she wanted to send flower baskets, but every shop in town mysteriously ran out. So instead, she brought her personal prized piece, a Sankai Tongzi statue, an item that's considered the ultimate bad omen and an outright insult at an opening ceremony. Ryuxu and Ye are completely stunned that the Xia family would stoop low enough to pull such a disrespectful stunt. Ryuxu's mom immediately snaps at her daughter for having the audacity to defend a complete stranger over her own blood. She then turns on Ye, firing her on the spot and stripping away her director role right there. Ye fires right back that she couldn't care less about the job, asking who would even want to stay at a company that treats relationships like trash. Losing her temper at the disrespect, Ryuxu's mom orders her bodyguard to slap some manners into her. Right on cue, Chen steps in to block Jun, coldly warning him that laying a single finger on his woman will be the last mistake he ever makes. Just then, Chief Zhengdi's son, Zhou Fulu, walks in with pure sarcasm, mocking whether the Xia family thinks they're powerful enough to block out the sun with one hand. Just like all the VIPs before him, his sudden arrival leaves the Xia clan completely rattled. Ryuxu is totally confused as to how Chen even knows Zhou Fulu, considering he didn't even know the commander's name, and they almost threw hands the last time they met. The young officer walks over to Chen and warmly congratulates him on launching Tianjin Group. The second his eyes land on the Sankai Tongzi statue in Jun's hands, he smacks it right out of his grip, smashing it into tiny pieces on the floor. Ryuxu's mom is absolutely livid at this blatant disrespect. Fuming, she demands to know if this was just his own childish outburst, or if the entire Zhou family is officially declaring war on the Xia clan. At that exact second, the chief himself walks in, making it clear that his son speaks for the entire Zhou bloodline, and what he does is their collective will. The sudden arrival of old man Zheng De completely silences her, leaving her powerless to even argue. The chief openly calls Chen his close friend and delivers a direct warning. If the Xia family messes with him, the Zhou clan will retaliate with full force. And while her husband might want to stir up drama, the old chief laughs off the idea, saying the man doesn't have the spine for it anyway. At the end of the day, crossing the Zhou family is the one line she genuinely terrifies herself from crossing. Aside from them, she couldn't care less about the city committee, Duo Yi, or even Luo Zhengguo. A corporate powerhouse like the Xia clan simply couldn't stand a chance against the immense raw authority and political clout of the Zhou family. Realizing she's completely outmatched, she swallows her pride and storms off in disgust. Chen thanks the chief for stepping in, but the old man brushes it off, saying saving his life from the brink of death puts him permanently in Chen's debt. Meanwhile, Chu Shiren feels utter humiliation watching her bitter rival get backed by the untouchable Zhou family. It finally dawns on her that Chen has completely outgrown her league, and crossing him now is pure suicide. Panicking about her family's future, she tries to leave, and when Yu Cheng attempts to stall her, she kicks him straight in the rear and fires him from her company on the spot. Just as total despair hits him, he spots his old pal and former business partner, Shen Heihua, standing just a few feet away. Seeing a tiny ray of hope, he scrambles over, bawling his eyes out and begging for forgiveness. He tries shifting the entire blame onto the Chu family, but Heihua just delivers another swift kick to his backside, sending Chen and the crew into fits of laughter. Thanks for watching, guys.